All right, here we go on a Wednesday, just 1 day away from the NFL draft, a day away from our party up at the Landing. All first round, we will be hanging out up at the Landing in Liberty, and we will be hanging out with Bink and Chris. I did get the invite to go on with Bink already. I told you it was going to happen.
Wow, you did call it, man.
I told you.
That's weird. Sure I have not gotten a single invite from Jay Binkley yet. But
my guess is you will be on there at some point as well. Chris and Bink will be broadcasting the entire night as we're hanging out there, and we'll be giving you a chance to win $610 plus some Chiefs merchandise if you can predict how the first round of the draft is going to go. Just go to 610sports.com. We found out some more details on this yesterday, too. So it's pretty simple. It's going to be, A, is the player getting drafted in the first round, and then what team they're going to, but not the order. So you don't have to correctly pick that the player's going fifth. It is, hey, you think
Caleb Williams to the Bears.
Yes, which that one we know is 1-1. But
Michael Penix to the Broncos.
Right. Even if it's pick 7 or it's pick 13, whatever, it doesn't matter. So that's how it's done. I saw some of the items that we're going to have. Like there's like a Nick Bolton autographed helmet. It's one of the Chiefs merchandise. There's some other stuff that'll be up for grabs tomorrow night at the Landing. So looking forward to that. Here in about a half hour, we'll also have Matt McMullen, Chiefs senior reporter. I'll ask him about that. Senior reporter.
I'd like to be called a senior host. I've made it long enough now, or at least if I get to like 10 years or something.
Isn't that the morning show? Aren't they the senior host? Sorry, Clang Bob.
Yeah, they're just calling them old.
I mean, that's what you just said would be what you're just.
I'm the old person on this show.
Yes.
Now you're not even like you used to be like close in age to the producers. Now Drew's got you beat by 5-6 years.
I know.
He didn't even watch the same Nickelodeon shows as you.
No, we're getting old, man.
I think we might have watched this. I don't know.
What Nickelodeon shows did you watch?
Growing up, SpongeBob was
I watched, but
top tier.
But you were too old for
Rugrats, little Cat Dog or whatever. Hey Arnold.
See, Hey Arnold, that crosses. That gets me and you tied together.
Hey Arnold, I watched as well.
The Wild Thornberries. Remember the Wild Thornberries?
I was too old for that one.
Jimmy Neutron.
Too old for that one.
I know, but I didn't really watch that all. Okay. Dexter's Laboratory. That was Cartoon Network.
That's a good one.
Dexter's Laboratory.
It was that and Johnny Bravo and all those other Cartoon Network ones.
Anyway.
Good stuff. 913-586.
That's exactly what we were planning on getting into first thing.
7610, the Jay Southland Tow Service text line. So, Matt McMullen's going to join us at 10:30. Also, we'll talk some baseball with Josh Vernier, our Royals insider, our weekly visit with him coming up at 12:30. But let's start with the draft because it is happening tomorrow. There's even more rumors and speculation happening and smokescreen stuff, not necessarily with the Chiefs, but towards the top end of the draft. And it got us thinking a little bit more about wide receivers in this draft and just how will the Chiefs and other teams approach that position this year and going forward. When we keep talking about how talented and deep, these wide receiver classes are year after year, at some point that is going to change how teams view them come contract time, right? And come the future markets that we're going to see. And it reminds you of just also how difficult it is to hit on that particular position, right? Because that's what I first noticed once again was the reminder of how challenging it is over the last 20 drafts of data, and this comes from ESPN, by the way, since 2000, basically the hit rate at certain positions based off of who gets that second contract. And at wide receiver, only 27% of all wide receivers drafted from 2000 to 2019, that's when they cut it off, have actually gotten a second contract. That's crazy. It's the worst of any position, by the way.
Which is wild. And I think if you look at some other advanced analytics, it's not quite that bad. But it does give you a little bit of pause at wide receiver. But the other part about this that I think matters more now is I went back through and I looked at first-round picks at wide receiver every year. It's getting better. Like, if you want to know the truth, the success rate is just getting better. And I think because the way the league is changing, I think that getting a second contract is not going to be the indicator of I made a good selection and it worked. And the reason why I'm saying that is I think as good as these wide receivers are getting, I do not think that teams will hold on to, let's say, Rashee Rice, maybe, level wide receivers, or Tyler Boyd, level wide receivers, or T. Higgins. In Drew's case, you might pick up the fifth-year option. They might hover around you a little while. Would you call T. Higgins, and T. Higgins was just outside the first, but the same point. Would you call T. Higgins a bust?
Absolutely not.
Would you say that pick didn't work? No, that'd be crazy. And he's not going to get a second contract with his team. I think those 900 to 1,100 yard wide receivers just very simply aren't going to get second contracts with teams anymore because of how many good wide receivers are available. Look at last year, for instance, right? Jackson Smith and Jigba, we don't know. Quentin Johnson in the early going for a year, we don't really know either, but kind of looks like a busty maybe type wide receiver. Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison, you wouldn't complain about. The year before that, Drake London, you'd still take. Garrett Wilson, you'd still take. Chris Olave, you'd still take. Jameson Williams and Jahan Dotson, you'd probably like a little more time on, but not totally out of the question. Year before that, Chase, Waddle, Devontae Smith. Tony's kind of a bust. And then Rashad Bateman, where at least you'd be like, well, again, quality NFL wide receiver, not good enough to justify keeping around. I think that's where that hit rate becomes interesting. But I can't ignore the fact that according to that, over the last 20 years, you are twice as likely to hold on to an offensive tackle long term than you are wide receiver. Now, I think some of that is because it's hard to find quality offensive linemen. I'll be honest. I think sometimes you overpay. I think quarterback is far too high in this. You'll be like, they got a second contract. Teams give bad second contracts to quarterbacks all the time.
Yeah, this criteria, the chart that Adam Schefter put out, again, it is based off of the last 20 drafts from a 2000 to 2019 span. Center, 92% hit rate. You draft a center and at 92, basically first-round picks.
Because if you spend a first-round pick on a center, he better damn well be there a second time.
Absolutely. Offensive tackle, as you said, 59%. So it drops off from 92 to 59%. Guard, 50%. Then you get in kind of the middle tier. Linebackers, 48% of the time you draft a first-round linebacker from 2000 to 2019, they got a second contract. Quarterback, as you said, is a little misleading, 46%. Sometimes teams drafted a quarterback and he's serviceable and they end up still giving a second contract. Doesn't mean that it's an elite quarterback or anything like that. Edge rusher 44% of the time is basically do you hit on it? Defensive tackle 40% and then corners 38%, the same as running back. Knowing the positions we've discussed for the Chiefs that we think that are in play at 32, wide receiver, offensive tackle.
I think defensive line.
And maybe defensive line. I know there's some corner stuff, but based off of that, wide receiver 27% hit rate. Defensive lineman, edge and defensive tackle, by the way, you combine them, it's an 84% hit rate, but it's 40% defensive tackle, 44% edge, and then offensive tackle 59% of the time. But the challenging thing for this year's draft, if you believe some of the reports coming out this morning from guys like Dan Brugler and others that are making some phone calls around the league, it sounds like everybody is trying to recognize that, or trying to trade up because they recognize that the offensive tackle market is top heavy. While there's a ton of offensive linemen that could get drafted.
It drops off after the first 5.
Yeah, not just drops off after Joe Alt, who's clearly the best offensive lineman, I think, in the draft, but after that. And that's where it's tricky, whereas I deep down do believe the Chiefs would like to draft a tackle. But can they do that at 32? I'm getting less and less, I think it's less and less likely, less and less confident that the Chiefs can just stay at 32 and actually draft a tackle.
Which means, because of how high they'd have to go up, if all these other teams are looking to trade up, it's maybe not realistic. Look, I'll be honest with you. What Nate was talking about yesterday, going up to 9 to get Joe Alt, the reason why moves like that, or let's just say that they love the guy at 17, aren't crazy is because the Chiefs are going to be picking, at worst, 28th over the next 5 years? Or at best, 28th? And at worst, 32nd for the 14th consecutive time? They're never going to be picking at a position where there's going to be a just no doubter. Oh, man, there are so many tackles in this draft. You could get one at 32 is a sentence that has never been said about the draft ever. So you're always going to have to, if you want to get the guy, you're going to have to trade up, or you're just going to have to take the same risks you've been taking. You have to hope you get a quality starting left tackle like a Brandon Albert in the 3rd round of the draft. You're going to have to hope that you find these little nuggets here, or you have to start guys like Wanye, or you're going to have to go out there and pay in free agency like they tried to do with Trent Williams, like when they traded for Orlando Brown Jr. I do think if you're giving up, some part of me though is if you're giving up 2 first-round picks, let's say to get Alt, I'd rather be looking for the team that would just give me the guy who I know is good. I want the cheap contract, but I also would rather just no, I'm trading for a top 5 left tackle. Does that make sense?
I hear you.
If I'm giving up 2 first-round picks, I kind of just want to know.
I hear you, but I think in the case of Joe Alt, and we're talking about a left tackle, I think most people are pretty confident. He's not that he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but that, he's going to be in this league as a left tackle for 15 years.
It does feel like there's less Robert Galleries than there are the other versions of that. Well, that's a
name I haven't heard in a long
time.
When
I think tackle bust high in the draft, I don't know, what can I say? I think Robert Gallery.
It is interesting because
he still played 8 years in the league or something. Probably.
I don't know. might have been last week where we said, well, if the Chiefs are going to trade up, what are they more likely to trade up for? Is it a wide receiver and offensive lineman? And the consensus, I think, was between us was, it's definitely a wide receiver. They wouldn't do it for an offensive line. But it seems like now, if they want the O-lineman, they would have to trade up to get it instead of just stay pat at 32. It's very interesting how that conversation has kind of shifted.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's exactly right. I mean, it seems like you would have to have a trade up now to get what looks like the potential starting left tackles. Now, even the kid out of BYU, Kinsley, the thought at one point was, he'll for sure be there. Tyler Guyton, he'll for sure be there at 32. If you're going to actually believe the reporting this morning, and I understand some of this is still smokescreen stuff, it would make it seem like teams are trading up even for those guys.
Yeah. I mean, look, that's one report, but who was it? Who was it who said, don't listen to anything about the draft until it's 24 hours?
Inside of 12 hours was Bill Belichick.
Oh, Belichick, 12 hours. Okay, we're not quite there, but close.
Yeah, Kingsley Suamataia, sorry, that was who I was thinking. But him and Tyler Guyton are the two names that I think are the most realistic if they're going to get a tackle in the first round.
And Guyton's been like in the early 20s, in some of these mocks.
Yeah. I mean, look, I've seen all those tackles up closer to the teens than you'd like. Like the ones where you're like, that guy's going to be available at 40. And you're like, not so much. Again, that's why wide receiver is so interesting to me at 32, but I don't think it's a bad first round pick if you get T. Higgins at 32. Does that make sense? Like if all I get is 5 years of play out of him, over the course of 5 years, he averages 925 yards, and then they walk on him. I don't think they screwed up their fifth round pick. I think they simply got a productive player for 5 years at the wide receiver position and then decided that the cost-benefit analysis of available wide receivers to them at that price aren't worth it. I'll just go draft another guy at that range. And I think the NFL, if wide receivers keep hitting at this rate, are going to keep doing it that way. Because that thing you pointed out, the 2019 to 2023, if you look at the wide receivers from 2020 on, I would say 70% are capable NFL wide receiver, or better than that you would be happy to have on your team. It's like a 30% bust rate where you're like, I don't want Coleman, right? Outside of that range. But I mean, most of the guys you'd be like, it'd be fine.
Well, I think especially too, Cody, for what you're saying is for what you're drafting to at that position, it's not like the Chiefs are drafting a number one wide receiver and they have to, not that they, don't hit on it or whatever, but you're drafting for a third wide receiver spot, potentially to be a number two. There's not as much risk necessarily of you having to get the best guy that's available right away. Like you can afford to maybe wait until the second round and you still get a guy that fits exactly what you need and not have to take a guy at 32 for that. There's no pressure to get that position filled, I guess, if you will. Yeah,
it all depends on, we're all basing this off stuff that we don't have the insight on based off of what does Brett Veach's draft board look like? Because I'm with you. Like, you can wait till the second round, but we don't know there's the name of 3 wide receivers, let's say, that they just think they love. Yeah. And we all, in our mind, whoever those 3 are, we all assume maybe they're guys that are going to go in the first round. But maybe there's actually a guy they project as a second rounder and they feel great about. Like they feel unbelievable about. And so either they take him at 32 and we're like, wow, I thought you could have got him in the second round. Why did they take him at 32?
They love him.
Or it's the opposite, which is all along they feel good about multiple wide receivers that they project as second rounders, and that's where you end up taking a left tackle at 32, or you take a defensive lineman at 32, or you take
or trade back
a corner, or trade back. I think that is very much in play too.
And you're like, these teams already got wide receivers, and we love like 8 of these guys. It's fine.
Well, especially if you held a gun to their head and said you had to pick at 32, they might go defensive line or corner. But I do think that if the offensive linemen are gone, it behooves them if they move from 32 to 41 and they happen to bag an extra third round pick, that gives them 4 picks in the top 3 rounds. You can still get a decent you don't miss out on a tackle because everybody had already gone off the board, where you can still get a wide receiver and maybe a guard, somebody in that third round spot where you can have the rotational piece and feel comfortable enough at least maybe going into the season with that.
We'll talk some more draft in about 15 minutes because Matt McMullen from the Chiefs is going to join us in studio. We'll get his perspective on how he sees this draft going for the Chiefs. Maybe a couple names. He's dug deep. I know him and Mitch Holthus have binders full of prospects that they that they go through and take a look at.
Not the binders from a few years ago.
I know, yeah.
The second you said binders full of people.
I didn't do that on purpose, I swear, but I did.
I can't believe you'd make this show political.
As soon as I said that, like, oh, binders full.
I can see the look on your face, like you
I knew that was going to happen.
Regretted immediately saying it. Let's talk about the Royals last night. It's a new squad. Old Royals in the last 3 years, I can promise you right now, they lose that game. I'm just going to say it. The last 3 years with the Royals teams, 1,000% lose that game. They had runners on first and second in the first, didn't score. Had 2 runners on in the third, didn't score. They come around to the fifth. Vladimir Guerrero, they're down 3-0. They get an okay start out of Walker, pretty good one, but he can't go deep into the game because the pitch count gets out of control, and you're like, all right, they've already lost 3 in a row. I guess let's make it 4 in a row and 5 out of 6 and just mail this one in. Vladimir Guerrero opens the door for one little half second, and they take advantage. Bobby Wood Jr. comes through, and the way I look at that game is exactly that. I'm not saying they're all fixed. They're winning 95 games this year, whatever they're on pace for. But that is the type of game I can promise you for 4 consecutive years, not only were they going to lose it, I knew they were going to lose it. Because that's just the situation and that they've been in a number of years. I felt that felt like one of the more satisfying wins of the entire year, if I'm being honest. You were on a losing streak, good team, mediocre start. Bullpen comes through, timely hitting comes through. The bullpen was great. Held through the whole thing and you win. It was just like, yeah, you needed that one. That's a good confidence win.
No, there's a lot of good things that came from that. We had mentioned the winning streak versus losing streak thing. It sounds like a no-brainer, but in the past, sometimes it doesn't mean one won't happen this year, but in the past, that 3-gamer becomes a 6 or 7-gamer. And we said maybe we thought this starting pitching is good enough that you're not going to have many long losing streaks this year. Now, it wasn't like they got great starting pitching last night. They got good enough. Michael Walker was fine, but they didn't even get 5 innings from their starting pitcher.
4 1/3 or 4 2/3.
I think something like that. They don't even 5 innings from their starter. It's not like they scored 8 runs. They scored 3. They got great defense. That, to me, was the key last night. In addition to what I love from Q, clearly the plan they put out before the game was knowing that MacArthur was going to pitch 2 innings, 8th and 9th inning last night. He was fantastic, and that was big, I think, long-term for this team to see him be able to go out and get 6 outs for you. But the defense was incredible last night. Really, I mean, all the way around, great defense. Vinny, I don't know how he just would ever get up from doing the splits like that. That's unbelievable.
Do you realize how good a defense Vinny's been playing?
There's some metrics that back it up in a big way.
He's like the top 3 first baseman defensively this year.
He's been really good, and for a guy his size, like he's a big dude, to just go out in the splits to help out Bobby on that big time out that they needed to complete the double play. Like that's impressive, man. That's really, really impressive. I thought the defense was key last night as much as anything.
I think that's one thing that I've come to really appreciate about this team, just 24 games into the year, is that they're not going to lose games because of the mistakes that cost them once, especially games last year. They are one of the best defensive teams in the league. Statistically, they're still one of the best base running teams in the league. I know that contact play to home is making you think they aren't, because they are now 0 for 6 on actually successfully scoring the run. I'll give credit to Royals Review. I was stop doing the contact play. I hate it. Their success rate on it seems so low. There's an advanced metric that suggests the benefit of it because of exactly what happened after. So the guy tried to score from third, he didn't. But because they threw home, someone ended up at second who scored anyway. So the number would tell you you're not less likely to get the run based on the number of outs available. Ergo, the risk is worth the reward. Look, I still think you can do time and place, and you don't have to we only do it this way 100% of the time. No questions asked. I think there's more variance or black and white, just like there isn't going for it on 4th downs. So I'd like a little more wiggle room than that. But no, I mean, it was a much-needed win. And then when I look across the guys to come through, Maikel Garcia had 2 hits. He's now hitting 300 since his song, by the way. Maikel's back. We're good.
Cody keeps extending out the sample size, by the way.
We're good. Since the song, he's hitting 300.
Expanding out
368 on base. What do you mean?
You're expanding out the sample size.
I don't care. Since the song, he's been good. That's all that matters. Since the song, Vinny's been good.
Yes.
Actually, his hitting streak ended last night. He had an 11-game hitting streak. Real shame. He had an 11-game hitting streak since the song, but it died last night. But if you, so I pulled up the numbers, the metrics on Bobby Wood Jr., and you look through, you're like, my God, he's on pace for 52 doubles and 27 homers. So the homers and doubles or steals seem a little low. only 37 stolen bases and 27 homers on base, 52 doubles, like 20 damn triples. He's hitting 316 with a 380. I mean, he's been incredible. And it's shortstop. I think it's always important to point out those numbers offensively at shortstop go a whole other way. I had not realized. You guys, as of this morning, Bobby Wood Jr. is he's the second favorite to win MVP. He is barely, and I do mean barely, behind Juan Soto at plus 380. He this morning on DraftKings was plus 400 to win the MVP. The next closest plus 900. So pretty good gap between Soto and Bobby Wood Jr. and Trout in the field. And you're like, whoo, Bobby Wood Jr. second favorite to win the MVP right now? That's nuts.
That's going to be something to watch the entire season now, based off of how the team is doing. I think will play a huge role. Unlike the Cy Young Award, I do think the team's success, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how your team's doing, is factored in by voters for the MVP award. And so if this team is able to be competitive in this divisional race all year long, knowing that the Yankees are likely going to, I mean, they're off to a great start, and the Yankees are likely going to be at the top of the AL East or one of the teams at the top, you can't have the Royals can't be sitting 10 games under 500 at any point in September towards the end of the year, and hopefully that's not the case anyway.
Sure, and still have him win it?
Yeah, I don't believe voters will give him that. We can disagree with the process, but to me, it's very, if you're looking at that, one, of course, Bobby's got to continue to play at the level he's playing. He's been awesome. But the team's success will factor into voters' minds on the MVP. Like right now, he has the second best odds. If the Royals were 10 games under 500 right now, he probably would. Now, you can argue and say, hey, the reason why the Royals are playing as well as they are is because they have a guy that's an MVP candidate, which is a very fair rebuttal to that. But that'll be something that's going to be fun to watch all year. Matt Quatrero has now the best odds to win Manager of the Year. He was like third or fourth a week or so ago. He's just ahead of A.J. Hinch of the Tigers, who the Royals play this weekend. So, when you have a team that won 56 games the year before and a team right now that's playing good baseball, and you've got Bobby playing at the level that he is, you're going to have some guys that are going to suddenly be in the mix for some awards. And it's so freaking early, I know that, but it's going to be fun to watch.
I wonder why baseball hasn't adjusted the MVP to a non-winning team like they did Cy Young. Because it's the same concept. Yeah. It's like you in baseball can only control so much, And look, they've given it to Shohei Ohtani, and they weren't like a great team, but they weren't a stinker either. And he was also pitching he was also pitching at the same time. Makes it a little easier to give the guy the award. Is it still? I mean, unless it's changed, I think Andre Dawson is the only guy to win MVP who was on a losing team. Isn't that right? If I remember that stat right. So it's like, God, I mean, it's just so much work. But you gotta find a way to keep Bobby. If you keep Bobby going at this rate, just as long as two of the other guys are hitting, Michael, Vinny, MJ, Salvi, it doesn't matter. Salvi continues to rake too. So
Royals will continue the series against the Blue Jays tonight. Alec Marsh, he's actually 3-0 on the season with a 3.22 ERA. He'll go up against Rodriguez for the Blue Jays this evening at Kauffman Stadium. We'll talk more baseball later on. Up next, we get right back into the draft. Matt McMullen from the Chiefs. He joins us in studio. What insight does he have? He'll share with us at Pick 32 next.
Hey, it's Brady Singer. You're listening to Cody and Gold. Weekdays starting at 10 on 610 Sports Radio and the Odyssey app.
Brought to you by Heartland Men's Health, the leader in men's sexual health. Thousands of men have been successfully treated for low T, ED, and more. All with discretion and compassion. Make your appointment at heartlandmenshealth.com.
Bud Light is the proud supporter of Kansas City first responders. For every Bud Light sold in Kansas City, now through the end of May, Anheuser-Busch and our local Kansas City distributors will donate $1 to Kansas City first responders through SAFE, Surviving Spouse and Family Endowment Fund. With Anheuser-Busch's goal of raising $30,000, they will help provide financial assistance to families of first responders who have fallen or who have gotten catastrophically injured in the line of duty in KC. Together, we are KC Strong. Please drink responsibly.
WWE returns to Kansas City's T-Mobile Center with Monday Night Raw. This Monday night, don't miss the 2024 WWE Draft Live and see WWE World Heavyweight Champion Damian Priest.
We always rise to the occasion.
Main event Jey Uso, Drew McIntyre.
Raw is my show now.
Sheamus, Intercontinental Champion Sami Zayn. Becky Lynch, The New Day, WWE World Tag Team Champions Awesome Truth. Plus CM Punk returns to Kansas City and more. Tickets Tickets on sale now at AXS.
Before the puck drops, BetMGM is dropping bet and get tokens into the accounts of customers in Kansas. Simply add a wager on the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs to your bet slip and activate your token. You'll instantly receive a bonus bet, no matter how your wager goes. From big hits to overtime goals, BetMGM is here for every playoff moment on the ice. While the teams chase the cup, you can take advantage of daily promos, same-game parlays, live bets, and so much more with your BetMGM app in Kansas. Claim your bet and get token today to earn a bonus bet, regardless of whether your NHL Stanley Cup playoffs wager finds the back of the net or not. Get to the center of the playoff hockey action with BetMGM, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. Kansas only. Existing customer offer. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel.
Supplement Superstores has helped me lose over 20 pounds since last November, and I'm keeping the weight off. Right before Thanksgiving, I knew I needed to lose weight. I went to Supplement Superstores on Ward Parkway and said, "Help, I need to lose the extra pounds." And they said, "No problem, we've got you covered." I was 224 on that day in November. I'm now down under 200 for the first time in years. At my yearly physical back in February, my doctor told me how proud she was of me and all my accomplishments. My weight was way down, and so was my cholesterol. I couldn't have done it without the folks over at Supplement Superstores. I take Flashpoint Complex. It's a refreshing drink when I get up in the morning and one right before bed. That's it. The one in the morning gives me energy all day long without the jitters. The evening drink helps me recover and has allowed me to sleep better than I ever have before. So go into any of the 8 Kansas City area Supplement Superstores. They're all over the metro. Tell them I sent you, and they'll give you 20% off the Flashpoint Complex. Supplement Superstores, when you're ready to feel your best.
Twin Peaks is the best in the game. Here, historic rivalries tip off with shareable bites, and every shot you take is a game winner. All season long, you're ballin' with 29-degree beer, courtside seats, and scenic views. I mean, where else can you pair wall-to-wall hoops with hard-to-find whiskey? Only at Twin Peaks, the #1 sports bar.
Stick around after the sun sets. Twin Peaks is open really late. Wind down with bourbon and late-night bites.
Find what you love, love what you find. A Total Wine and More. There's so much waiting for you. All kinds of beers and thousands of wines.
Drink responsibly. B21.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be a sign that your digestive system isn't working at its best? Taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil fiber powders help promote your daily digestive health using a plant-based fiber called psyllium. The gelling action of this special fiber traps and removes waste so you can feel lighter and more energetic. Metamucil, promoting digestive health for a better you. Learn more at metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Find what you love, love what you find. A Total Wine and More. There's so much waiting for you. All kinds of beers and thousands of wines.
Drink responsibly. B21.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6812. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. There is zero risk to you. If we can't reduce your tax debt, then you pay nothing. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have a 5-star rating on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6812. That's 800-575-6812. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
I'm Tiffany, founder of Harlem Pilates. When I couldn't find Pilates in my neighborhood, I started a studio from my studio apartment. Chase Inc. helped me grow from 1 Pilates studio to 3. Because when you start small, you're going to need some big help.
With the Chase Ink Business Cash Card, you can earn up to 5% cash back on business essentials, so your business can go from here to possible. Chase for Business. Make more of what's yours. Real business owner compensated for their participation. Cards issued by J.P. Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC. Subject to credit approval. Terms apply.
Paid for by government. Did you hear? A secret hoard of 1907 $10 Gold Liberty coins has been found. These gorgeous 1907p gold coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck, and less than 200 of these gold coins are available. Coin experts are calling the secret U.S. gold coin discovery a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and you can own a piece of the hoard. When you call, you are guaranteed a 1907 Gold Liberty struck at the iconic Philadelphia Mint. With limited availability, you must call now. These 1907 dated gold coins are still in uncirculated condition with brilliant luster. That is 117 years of history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-386-8018. Call now and you'll receive a free bonus, a $50 value free with every order. Call 1-800-386-8018 now to secure your 1907p $10 Gold Liberty coins before they sell out. That's 1-800-386-8018.
Back here, just getting started on a Wednesday. It's Cody and Gold. Coming up in 30 minutes, we'll talk about the rest of the AFC West and what could happen, specifically with the Raiders and Broncos. Both teams could be going with a quarterback. Could both teams actually end up trading up in the draft? We'll get to that a little bit later on, but let's focus back in on the Chiefs in particular. We got Matt McMullen, Chiefs senior reporter. We enjoyed that. What does that entail? Senior reporter, do you feel older? I don't know if you've always had the title senior reporter.
Yeah, as opposed to the junior reporter.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like when I turned 30, all of a sudden it's like you're now the senior reporter. The funny thing is I don't really get into titles, but the reality is if you do what I do, if you ever want to get promoted, there's no like coordinator and manager of team reporting or director of team reporting. So you have to make up a title. So that's all it is. But yeah, I'm the senior team reporter at 31. We'll see what happens in 10 years.
You got to add another. What's the title? What do you add to the title after this? You should add like Czar,
Demetrius?
you know?
I don't know.
Add like. You got to add some cool titles to it, you know? There's a lot of choices.
I'll work on it. For now, I'm just an elderly team reporter. So, yeah.
God, 31 starting to feel elderly. Elderly? You're in between, I guess. You're like the second youngest here. Drew still got you beat.
There we go.
Drew still hadn't even hit that 30th birthday yet, you know?
Well, I'll tell you what. I was at the Royals game last night, and seeing Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hitting, I'm like, man, I just feel so
They got a
old.
bunch of, Bo Bichette's on the team. I mean, they got a bunch of former big leaguers, kids on this team.
They got
like Kevin Biggio, right?
I was going to say,
Their
yeah,
entire squad.
Biggio's kid in there.
Yeah.
Their entire that's actually in major league. It's happening more in football now. Like it started to occur more in football, like Marvin Harrison Jr. getting ready to get drafted, or Frank Gore Jr. They're all going to be
Jerry
drafted this year.
Rice's son.
Jerry Rice. So like a whole slew. In baseball, that's been the thing for a while. Turns out, just drafting the kids of former professional big leaguers, pretty successful model. Royals, it's working with Bobby Witt Jr.
But all on one team. I mean, that's what's crazy. The Blue Jays is unique because it's just, there's 3 or 4 of these guys that all happen to be on the same team as well. You mentioned the Royals game, though. You brought your dog. It was Bark at the Park. We offered, the invite was out. We didn't know if you were going to bring the dog. What was the name of your Pip?
Pippin is her name.
Pippin.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you were going to bring the dog into the studio.
I just don't know if Pip is ready for the big time, you know?
Your former coworker, Pete Sweeney, brought his dog in once, and he didn't even tell us he was doing it.
Yeah, you put the picture on Twitter. See, Pete's dog is probably much more better behaved than mine. Pip, I was pretty amazed at how well she did at the game, but if she was here, she'd be bolting around the office like she'd be eating papers. It'd be a disaster.
Oh, my dog would be barking eventually. How does that work? I've never done the Bark at the Park though. Out at the K, do they not play? Like, I don't know if there weren't any like multiple home runs or anything, but do they not do fireworks because the dogs are out and stuff?
Yeah, so it's all designed to make sure the dogs are okay and happy and everything. It's a hilarious experience. It really is, because you have to go in a certain gate and all the dogs are in one section. So you're just surrounded by people with their dogs. And like, I've been to 1,000 baseball games, but it's so weird to see just people walking their dogs into the game. And then someone has like a 70-pound bulldog on their lap while they're eating nachos. It just all feels so counterintuitive, but it's hilarious.
This feels like a weird. And then they always announce the attendance. They're like, "All right, we had 17,000 at the K tonight and 482 dogs."
Well, you have to buy a ticket for your dog. You have to.
Like a full price ticket?
I think it's a little bit discounted, but
say,
you buy a ticket and a seat for your dog. Like when we walked in, we had to scan 3 tickets.
Oh, man.
It's so funny.
All right, fair enough.
And the best part is last year we went. It was the first time I ever went. They had a giveaway where it was like a little dog hat. So we put the hat on her this time, and at first she didn't want to wear it, but after a while she did. And a dog wearing a hat is just the
Also
funniest thing ever.
Before we get to the Chiefs draft, I do have to ask you one more thing. There has been a person on the text line for 3 consecutive months demanding this show go on the road to the zoo.
Okay.
I know your wife works for the zoo. Can we make this happen?
Absolutely. I'm trying to bring Kansas City institutions together. All right, so 100%. If you want to
We're
go
a Kansas City institution?
we sure are.
Or just like the station, like 610.
I think that we've been asked that. I don't know, like you said, it's probably once a week at least. There's a text that comes in, so we want to put us by
we
the
just
Penguins.
do it for the new aquarium.
Yeah,
Penguins are good.
There's a bunch of things you could do. The aquarium is incredible. If you guys haven't been out there,
Haven't seen it yet.
It's really, really cool, and it's awesome because it's not like a standalone thing that you have to pay for. Like if you go to the zoo, you can just go in the aquarium. So
I think
it's
right now
awesome.
they're so busy, you got to get a reservation. But
It was for a while, but if you go especially on a weekday, you can just walk in there. Maybe you have to wait 5 minutes if it's really busy, but it's not too bad. So it's worth it. So I think
so
you
just
should
put a
do
good
a
word.
show. Yeah.
I spoke to your wife once, not knowing it was your wife, when this show was trying to get a monkey named after George Karlaftis. We wanted to name one Furious George. And her response was great. She just said, look, I brought it up in a meeting, but they have names and they're kind of fond of them. So we can't really just rename them for you, which makes sense in fairness. But doing a show there, that's different. They'd probably let us do that.
I think so. I'll put out some feelers at
All right,
dinner tonight.
We'll follow back up with that. We got Matt McMullen, Chief Senior Reporter, joining us in studio. So what's your feel right now? Everybody's trying to speculate on what's going on. Chiefs have picked 32. Just in general, what direction and kind of what field do you think the Chiefs are going in tomorrow night?
Well, it's exciting because I think the way this draft shapes up is if you look at where it's deep, which is wide receiver, obviously, but also maybe tackle, maybe defensive tackle, maybe corner. Those are all areas the Chiefs maybe could address. So I don't think it's a situation where the Chiefs have to take a certain position, and if there's a run on that position in the early 20s, they're in trouble. I think it's a situation where they can let the board fall to them, and there's going to be a really good player at 32 if they want to stay there. And I don't know what position it's going to be at, but it's going to be a situation where this team will get better because of it. And in the past, maybe, I think about 2021, you got to fix the offensive line, right? And you got to hope that maybe there's a guy right there at 31. And if there isn't, you're in trouble. I don't feel that way this year. I think that this is a team that's won back-to-back Super Bowls. They obviously can get better. There's areas that can improve, but wherever they decide to go, I think it's going to be a player that maybe we all thought would be taken at 25 or in the 20s, and all of a sudden they're there at 32. Because every year there's 50 guys all of a sudden who are first-round picks, right? And there's going to be, I think, a really good player at 32. And who knows, if someone slides into the mid-20s that no one expected, maybe they try to move up. But it's going to be interesting for sure.
When you look at the position, if they just had their pick of the litter, they're like, all right, we get to choose our position to fall in the draft. It's tackle, though, right?
Well, Brett Veach talked about that the other day, talking about the value of this draft. And in his mind, obviously at receiver, it's very deep, and it goes into the second and the third round, maybe even at corner as well. But offensive tackle is the area where it's really great early and maybe tapers off a bit. So in my mind, and this is just my opinion, if one of those top 5 offensive tackles fell into the mid-20s.
It was 22 and they were still sitting there.
I think you have to think about it. And it was a situation with Trent McDuffie a couple years ago. That's a player that they had on their board in the top 12, and he slides all the way down to 21. You make a move for him. But it takes different factors. You have to have a team that's willing to work with you. And also you have to be able to have the ammo to get up there. If one of those 5 tackles fell into the early 20s, wouldn't surprise me at all if they did that. But if not, you, again, don't have to force it.
Who are the 5, I guess? So Joe Alt's 1. He'll be nowhere near their draft pick. He'll be in the top 10. Are Tyler Guyton, are those types in the top 5, the guys that we think are, or Sua Matai, are those the ones that we're expecting that maybe will be for sure in the first round now versus maybe for a while they were projected somewhere between 20 and...
Yeah. Well, J.C. Latham is one of those guys that will likely be gone. You have the kid from Washington will be gone.
Yeah.
I'm blanking now on the other guys, but I would say Sua Matai will likely be there. Amarius Mims is a player that likely could be there from Georgia. Tyler Guyton could be there in the late 20s or the late 30s. So it's possible that those guys could be available. It's just a matter of who they like.
Oh, Fuaga, that's one of the
guys.
guys.
Yeah.
The guy from Penn State, too, Fashanu or whatever.
Oh, Fashanu? Yeah,
another tackle that, again, it's so funny, Matt. We were talking about this, that we all say, that guy's going to go. And we're basing that off of
groupthink.
A lot of groupthink, right?
Yeah.
And we're sitting there on tomorrow night, and it's pick 20, and a guy that everybody said was supposed to go, the top 15 is still on the board. And we're like, what the hell is everybody doing? And he ends up falling to the second round. I mean, there was a tackle last year. Was it DeJuan Jones, I think?
Yep, from Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Yep.
And everybody, and I thought the Chiefs maybe were going to take him at 32. He ends up falling to like the third round. So we always have to remember the group thing when it comes to some of these positions and some of these players. But is there a player that I know you and Mitch have all this information on these prospects, basically. Mitch actually does have a binder, I feel like, of all these prospects. We were joking about that last segment. But is there a player that you've kind of, I guess, fallen in love with a little bit?
Well, shout out to Austin Woodard, first of all. He's the one that makes that binder for Mitch every single year. He does that in his free time, and he makes Mitch this Chiefs-focused draft guide. It's amazing. It's like 1,000 pages, and Austin will be with us all weekend.
It's just,
it's amazing. So shout out to you, Austin. You're the best. For me, there's a couple players. So I still really like Adonai Mitchell from Texas, and I know there's been like some weird stuff out there over the last couple weeks, but I just
like his diabetes is going to prevent him from being a good wide receiver.
I don't buy any of that, and
right.
I watch him on the field, and I see a player with really good size, excellent speed, and production. And a player that could fit right away in the Chiefs offense. So Adonai Mitchell, if he was there, I'd be super interested. A player that I don't know if he's getting much first round buzz, but I think he could go in the first round is Xavier Legette from South Carolina.
That's my guy.
He's a player I've just fallen in love with over the last several weeks just because he had the 1 year of production. I almost look at that as a positive because you think about college football nowadays with like NIL and transfer rules. So many players like him, if they're not getting the ball as a sophomore or a junior, they're going to transfer and go somewhere else. But he kind of waited his turn. He developed as a player in the same place for years, and then it paid off with a monster season last year. And again, the size and speed. I mean, being 220 pounds, running like a 4.39, one drop last year. I watch him on slants break away from corners and have like 60, 70-yard touchdown receptions. I mean, that's the kind of thing this offense could use, an explosive player. So he'd make a lot of sense too.
I think it speaks to how deep the draft is that he's available at 32. Like, normally you'd be like, well, only 1 year of production. Like, size and speed-wise, I mean, those guys usually go way higher.
Yeah, the one thing I wonder with him is just, does he fall? Like, can you get him, like, if you were to trade back, you trade back and you still are able to get him in the second round? I don't know. I just wonder. He also seems like hey, you didn't get DK Metcalf, all those, all the talk about that for many, many years. Like,
take another freakazoid.
It seems like, are you going to pass up another maybe freak type of athlete if he's there again at 32?
I imagine if teams could go back, they probably would.
Well,
probably take DK Metcalf higher.
There was an article, I can't remember from where, but Brett Veach basically kind of admitted a little bit one of his few regrets in the draft because he's been hitting on all these picks here recently, but was like what most teams did, which was pass on DK Metcalf.
Well, I think a lot of us, because that draft is even different than this one, because I think there were maybe like 5 wide receivers who went before DK Metcalf because the drafts weren't as deep as they are now. There might be, by the time you get to Legette, there'll be like 7 guys who get drafted before him, or 6 guys. What's the over-under? 6.5 right now for wide receivers in the first round. So I mean, there might be 7 or 8 wide receivers taken before he goes, and you're like at 6 foot. What is he? 6'1", 2"? He's
6'1", 221 pounds.
I think college listens to him like 6'6", so we got to pay attention to well, they're always a little off. But
whenever I do my draft stuff, it's funny how much the information differs wherever you look. So my favorite draft guide is Dane Brugler from The Athletic.
Yeah.
That's like the Bible for me during this time of year.
I think most people in the industry just respect that he's put it together in a detailed way that everyone can follow.
And how deep he goes. I mean, he'll have guys on there that won't even make it to rookie mini camps in his draft guide. So it's amazing. But he'll have their actual height and weight. Like if you go to like South Carolina's website, you're right. It's going to say he's like 6'4". And,
yeah, he's 6'1", 221 officially though.
Yeah. Exactly. But
just can't help himself.
He's a guy that I like a lot. And you're right that I think in previous years, you're going to have a player like Legette maybe going 20th overall. But now if he's like the 8th best receiver in the draft, all of a sudden he might be available in the second round. Troy Franklin's another guy that is more one-dimensional in terms of what he can do right now. He's kind of just like a burner, like a go route kind of guy at this moment. You can find a use for that player, but I think he goes easily in the first round in previous years. But because it's so deep at receiver this year, he could be available in the second round too.
Yeah, Franklin in the second round, I'd be more on board with. I don't really have much interest at 32. You mentioned like none of these, other than Marvin Harrison Jr., none of these guys don't have flaws, right? Like there's a reason why someone might be available at 32. There's obviously some question about them, but Franklin, he doesn't. We joke about deep ball tracking. Basically, and being able to high point the football and being able to judge that and how it's something maybe the team has struggled with recently. That's one of the knocks on Franklin. That's what scares me about him a little bit more than some of the other particular wide receivers. Looking at just the teams around 32 with Kansas City. You mentioned this, Matt, that maybe a trade-up scenario. Brett Veach acknowledged it. I think it's a real thing, which is his team's not willing to work with the Chiefs, though. And does that make this even more challenging for them to go up if there's a wide receiver, if there's a tackle that they like?
Well, I think he mentioned that there's like a premium to be paid if you want to trade with like Buffalo or Cincinnati or Baltimore.
Sounded like he was more willing to pay it than in previous years.
But I also understand why those teams do it. I look back to the Orlando Brown Jr. trade, and around the league, everyone's like, why are you helping them? And I understand it. There are a series of NFC teams kind of in the early 20s that I think would probably be more willing to trade with the Chiefs because, like, why not? But it'll be interesting to see. These are one of those things where Brett kind of explained it. They go through all of their checks and everything like today and yesterday, and they're calling teams. They're trying to figure out just like, are you at all willing to move off of this? Is your phone working? Do we have the right numbers? Stuff like that. And we'll see how it transpires, but I really think it depends just how the board falls. And every year, weird stuff happens where all of a sudden players that we all kind of thought maybe would be available at 32 are going at 15 and 16, but that bumps other guys down. So we'll see just how it plays out. But we know Brett is always eager and ready to make a move if it makes sense, but you got to make sure you have the right trade partner.
Are the phones working at One Arrowhead Drive? Have you verified that all the phones are properly working?
I will confirm the phones are working.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Who's making I was seeing the other day, I was thinking about the draft because Vinny was trying to make a pitch. Did you see? Vinny wants to make a pick for the Jets.
Oh, yeah. And he's in Detroit.
Because he's going to be in Detroit for a game.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, come on, just let me, I'll be around. Because they play night games. Like, I'll be around on Friday. Just let me make a third-round pick.
Have the Jets' first pick at number 10 overall, and Vinny Pasquantino goes on stage. It'd be epic.
Look, I don't think they'll let him do the first pick, but, second or third round at that point's probably fine. They love the celebrity pickers now for the draft. It makes a lot of sense. One thing we had talked about yesterday is Brett Veach's propensity to take guys off of his top 30 list. Pretty common that Brett Veach finds somebody. And sometimes it's the first-round guy, and sometimes it's the 7th round or undrafted. Are there guys off of that list? Because I know you pay attention the way we do. Are there guys off that top 30 list that you're like, I could see why Brett Veach is interested in him? Because one thing that stood out to me was running back. They visited a lot of them, and I don't think that they're going to shy away from that position.
The top 30 visits are always difficult to decipher because we don't know exactly why they're visiting. So sometimes it's just a matter of they didn't have enough time at the combine to speak with them. And the combine is like a feeding frenzy of you're trying to talk to as many guys as you can, and you only have during the informal interviews like 10 minutes with them. If you want more information,
sometimes you said it's just like just to check out an E or something,
Yeah, exactly. And also the guys that aren't at the combine, you have a chance to, like you said, get medical work done when you have them come in. So a lot of times those top 30 visit guys are guys that maybe they're not going to draft, but they'll be like priority free agents that they'll bring in later on. And they have just a more comprehensive idea of who they are. But I try to figure out like a narrative and a pattern with the top 30s. I can never really figure it out. Every year it seems
I just know he takes some.
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 from the top 30s that end up being Chiefs, but I think it's for a variety of reasons. It's not just because these are the only guys they're interested in. I think it's a matter of we want to figure out more information on these guys.
Matt McMullen, Chiefs senior team reporter, joining us in studio. I'm going to keep mentioning senior reporter.
Not the junior reporter.
No, senior reporter for
Were
the
you
Chiefs.
ever junior reporter or just reporter?
I was never the junior reporter, just the team reporter. And then all of a sudden, I turned 30, like I said, and
They
senior
bumped you
team
up, man.
reporter, yeah.
Hey, that works. Have you paid much attention to any of the local kids? Because we know last year the Chiefs had 32 draft Felix and UDK Uzama. There's a couple local kids from KU, K-State, and Missouri that some could be drafted very high, including Robinson out of Mizzou, Cody Schrader maybe a little bit later on. Is there anybody out of that group that stands out that perhaps could be a good fit for the Chiefs?
Sure. Darius Robinson would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So being 285 pounds, but the flexibility to play on the edge and as a defensive tackle, that sounds like a Steve Spagnuolo defensive lineman, doesn't it? With how he loves moving
When he was
guys
like
around.
a third-round guy when he came out, and he's already definitely in the first-round range.
He's one of those players that I don't know where he's going to go. You'll see projections where he goes maybe in
20.
the 40s or 50s, but also in the 20s. Yeah. So it's a matter of if a team falls in love with him, but he can make a lot of sense. And also Ben Sinnott from K-State is a player I like a lot at tight end. Obviously, Brock Bowers would be like a pipe dream. He'd be incredible in Kansas City, but he's probably going top 12. But Ben Sinnott is a player that is really interesting because of what he was able to do at K-State. Awesome story. He was like a walk-on at K-State, ended up being one of the greatest players in Wildcat history. But his ability to force missed tackles, to be a playmaker after the catch, he'd make a lot of sense here too.
I was trying to think about, would Brock Bowers, Nate Taylor brought this up with us yesterday. If he fell to 15, he said he's one of the guys he hears could fall. Let's say he's just sitting there at 15. Would you be willing to trade up for him?
Depends how much it costs, right? I mean, trading.
Let's just say standard. Let's just say standard. Let's just say standard draft chart trade value. You don't have to overpay. You got to give up the numbers, which I think would be a second. I looked this up: a second this year's first, and a second and a third round, or 2 seconds, a second this year, a second next year.
I'd think about it. The tricky thing with this is like obviously. Because I grew up a Chiefs fan, right? The Chiefs fan part of my brain is like, yes, do it right away.
That sounds fun.
But also, one of the reasons the Chiefs have been able to sustain all the success beyond just Mahomes and Kelsey and Chris Jones is finding players later in the draft. In a 7th-round pick, if you trade it, doesn't sound like a big deal. But if you say we're trading Isaiah Pacheco
or Jalen Watson.
Yeah, so the Chiefs' ability to find these contributors later in the draft, I think, makes me a bit more weary of trading up than maybe it would in the past.
Yeah, I mean, we all know you give Brett Veach a couple more opportunities to make some picks, especially in the middle rounds or whatever. That has turned out very well. That's how you extend out the dynasty. That was the point I made yesterday. I'm 100% with you. That's where, like, definitely there was a hypothetical last week from NFL.com that said the Chiefs would trade to 9 or 10 and get Brock Bowers.
I said it was for a Dunze, I'd do it.
Yeah, to trade up for a tight end, it would probably have to be 15th or later for me to even get on board with trading up. As much as I know everybody's excited about Bowers, if he's suddenly there at 18 or 19, then I start getting a little antsy and I start seeing what's up.
It's so hard with the Chiefs because you'd be like, I want to see Mahomes with elite weapons. I have seen that. He had Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce in the same offense, and Sammy Watkins was like the third guy. And it worked pretty good. It turns out that was a fun offense. One of the most, like in the year before, they were one of the single greatest offenses in NFL history. I know what it looks like. It's fun, and I like it. But I also understand that they can win a multitude of ways. With Mahomes, the truth is, it always comes back to this one draft objective to me about giving up the picks. Because I don't disagree with you. Because they don't, like we said, like you shouldn't just dismiss this draft. Like, whatever, they're picking at 32. They got 5 picks. It probably won't matter. No, without taking Rashee Rice last year in the second round, they don't win the Super Bowl. The year before, they needed at least 3 of those players in order to win the Super Bowl. By simply just having a bad draft, they don't win the Super Bowl in either of those years. Or if they just miss on the most important one in Rice last year, they don't win it. But I also just understand that because of Mahomes, they can win 1,000 different ways. If I trade up to 9 and take Brock Bowers, they can definitely win that way. If you trade up to 9, they take Joe Alt, they can definitely win that way. If they just stay at 32 and take a defensive lineman or a corner, they probably still win the Super Bowl that way. It's hard for me to think that like everything's on the line with them sometimes. That's all.
I totally agree. And I just think, particularly if you look at the 2022 draft, this run of back-to-back titles doesn't happen with almost every player from that 2022 draft if they're not on the team. I mean, think about all the starters you got out of that draft, all the players that contributed and have been major playmakers for this team during this run. You got to, obviously the first round gets all the hype, but you have to remember that Brett Veach and his front office, that we think is the best in the NFL, they really make their money on day 2 and day 3.
Before we let you go, Matt, if I were to set the over-under at 8.5 trades in the first round, were you taking the over or the under? Because I think we go into the draft and we always like, there's going to be a ton of trades. We know there's going to be some. Do you buy, like Pete Schrager just tweeted out recently, he's hearing there could be as many 10 trades in the first round. What are you taking, over, under 8.5?
That seems like a lot. I'd go less than 8 personally. I think there'll be a handful, but
I could see like 5 or 6 easily, though.
Yeah, but
is there a Vegas line on that?
I'm sure. I just don't have it in front of me. But yeah, I'm sure there is.
That's a ton of trades. Like, I don't know. And I think especially you'll maybe see some movement at the top, but as you go, most teams are willing just to stay pat and pick where they are because of the premium it costs. And we'll see how the board falls, but 8 seems like a ton to me.
What I've learned about the draft is that there's so many teams who will just be like, they've already got their player picked out and they're like, nope, better make it worth it. Make it worth it. And they'll just call the bluff. If they don't come with a 1 extra pick or the slight premium that they're asking for, they'll just make their selection. Whatever, it's fine. Like they're willing to just wait out the bluff. They don't eventually be like, okay, fine, we'll just take what you were offering. They normally just make their pick, don't they?
This is also making me think about the movie Draft Day, though. You guys have seen Draft Day, right? That
one of the most realistic movies ever.
I mean, so
bang on, exactly what it looks like.
I enjoy Draft Day as like mindless popcorn entertainment, but watching it, so I'm a big fan of Moneyball. The movie. And what's interesting about Moneyball is it's pretty realistic in terms because it's a true story. But I remember one time I was watching Draft Day with somebody, I can't remember who it was, and they're like, "Is this what it's really like inside the facility?" I'm like, no, not at all. Like,
absolutely not.
Yeah, in no way. Like this is fun, mindless entertainment, but in no way is this realistic. But you're right. I think that teams have an idea of the players that will be there. They have an idea of the direction they'd like to go, and if they can move off of their pick and maybe acquire more picks, they're into the idea. But I think most teams, unless they're trying to trade up for a quarterback or like a generational player they think is going to change everything for them, I think most teams are down to stand pat unless something crazy happens.
Matt McMullen, Chief Senior Reporter, kind enough to join us in studio. Busy day ahead for you, man. Thanks for coming in studio.
Yeah, anytime, guys. Excited to be done with speculation season here and actually do this thing for real tomorrow.
That's right. All right, coming up next, we got some new news in the NFL. A big contract was just handed out to a wide receiver. We'll tell you who and how much it is next.
Cody and Gold.
If the Royals win the World Series, I will get, and you can mark it if you want, but I'll get
everybody
this
knows
tattooed on my body.
Who gives? We're winning games.
Brought to you by Heartland Men's Health, the leader in men's sexual health. Thousands of men have been successfully treated for low T, ED, and more, all with discretion and compassion. Make your appointment at heartlandmenshealth.com.
You're always better with a roof from JR.
We've all seen them. As soon as the big storm comes through, the storm-chasing roofers show up. Don't be a victim twice. Call locally owned, veteran-owned JR & Company. No one protects your home and you like JR.
JR's there for you. You're always better with a roof from JR.
In fact, JR & Company can let you know if you even need to be worried about storm damage. Online, visit jrhailcheck.com. Plug in your address and we'll pull a storm report. If there's nothing on the report, we'll give you hassle-free peace of mind. And if it looks like you got hit, we can come out and do a free inspection and help with any insurance claim. We'll never try to sell you a roof you don't need. But if you do need a new roof,
you're always better with a roof from JR.
Go to jrhailcheck.com.
Erectile dysfunction affects many men in America today, but it's not just the man who's affected, it's often their partners. But successful treatment of ED can truly bring relationships back to life. This is Jeff, the CEO of Promenic Restorative Men's Health, and that's why I'm pleased to announce the opening of our newest location of Heartland Men's Health right here in North Kansas City. As a Promenic affiliate, Heartland Men's Health is part of a group that has successfully treated tens of thousands of men over the last decade with treatments that are shown in medical studies to be effective in well over 90% of men. And unlike wave therapy groups or online pill sellers, we offer a variety of treatments to get you the results you want. You could even find you're performing like you haven't in years. So call Heartland Men's Health today. Your initial visit is only $99 and includes a medical consult, blood work, and if medically advised, a test dose. And if that test dose doesn't work in the office, your visit is free. Call 844-447-6600 or go to heartlandmenshealth.com. That's heartlandmenshealth.com. We have 3 offices, Overland Park, Independence, and now North Kansas City.
The road to the NBA Finals starts now, and new customers on FanDuel can go on their own playoff run with $150. Just place any $5 bet, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets, win or lose, to use during the NBA playoffs. You can bet on three-pointers made in the game, over-under on point totals, first basket score, and so much more. Just go to FanDuel.com/610Bob to get started. That's FanDuel.com/610Bob. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA and of 610 Sports Radio. 21 and present in Kansas. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com.
Made to shine. Real stories from Shane Company customers.
We met later in life. I liked his dimples.
Both of our spouses had passed away, and we never expected to remarry.
That's the funny thing about love. It has its own agenda.
I wanted to get her a ring that celebrated our future, but didn't ignore our past.
I just wanted a party.
Shane Company helped me create the perfect ring, the center stone for us and the 2 side stones for our past loves.
Fine jewelry that feels like it was designed just for you. Shane Company. Fine jewelry since 1929.
Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs. Another year, another Super Bowl. Did you know that the Chiefs won their Super Bowl in their first year of their partnership with Window World? And here we are, 5 years in. The Chiefs are a dynasty, and they're still going strong with Window World as the official window of the Kansas City Chiefs. Window World windows are one of 2 windows with the Good Housekeeping seal of approval, ranked number 1 in number of windows sold in the country by Qualified Remodeler magazine. In just over 20 years of business, they have improved the look and thermal efficiency of over 54,000 customers right here in Kansas City. So be sure to call this number, 816-799-0820. Learn more about the double-strength glass that gives it strength. It's not commonly used in replacement windows. Learn more about their products that are not only durable, but offer security, beauty, and energy efficiency. Give my friends at Window World a call. That's 816-799-0820. 816-799-0820 to learn more, or also go on the website, windowworld.com.
Drowning in IRS debt? If you can't afford to pay your IRS debt due to economic hardship, you can now be free of IRS collection efforts by taking advantage of a special IRS tax hardship program. This program allows Americans who owe the IRS to resolve their delinquent tax debt once and for all. In some cases, maybe even reducing what you owe significantly. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Simply dial 800-485-7220. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back or have years of unfiled tax returns, help is standing by. Just call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-485-7220 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. Call 800-485-7220 to see if you qualify. That's 800-485-7220.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle, unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
You're listening to 610 Sports Radio from the Mission Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling Studios.
Kansas City. This is Royals manager Matt Quatrero. Catch Vern's On Deck show 1 hour before first pitch on your home for Royals baseball, 610 Sports Radio and the Odyssey app.
KCSP Kansas City, WDAF HD2 Liberty, always live on the free Odyssey app.
We built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. Built this city.
11 o'clock hour. I always laugh at this song because
I feel like you had to wait for the second part to come in.
I know. I was like, well, because we ran this, like, how long do I sit and wait? Yeah.
I think you wait for the.
Normally we do, but then sometimes you and I just stare at each other awkwardly for 15 seconds. We're like, we're just waiting.
Yeah.
We're waiting. Everybody, we're just waiting. No, I was laughing because anytime I hear this song, there was a friend of mine in college. Anytime we went to a bar, this was the song that he had to make sure they played at some point.
On the way, or
this was his song
at the bar. Yes, at the bar. It was like, what do we? But that was
this was his song.
This was the song,
great.
and so I always.
You were singing that guy? Are you still friends with him?
Taylor Williamson. He used to be in TV, produced for one of the affiliates, and I think he's out of TV now. He used to work in Dallas, so was a producer down there. But no, I haven't talked to him in years.
Anytime I hear that, I go to the whatever commercial it is. The we fixed this toilet.
Yep.
On video.
There was some news, though, as we mentioned, we were talking with Matt McMullen toward the end of that segment. In the NFL, a big-time contract was just handed out to one of the league's best wide receivers, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 24 years old, of the Detroit Lions, just signed a 4-year, $120 million deal, $77 million guaranteed. That, according to Ian Rappaport. He had a 1,500-yard season this past season with 10 touchdowns for Detroit, and this makes him the highest-paid wide receiver now in the NFL, if you're wondering where the wide receiver market looks like. So Tyreek Hill, of course, who's 30 years old, had a $120 million contract, $72 million guaranteed. Devontae Adams, he's 32. He signed at one point a $140 million contract with $65 million guaranteed. Cooper Kupp, who's 31, signed a $75 million contract, total value $80 million. So a massive, massive deal for a very talented wide receiver. And knowing that there's still a couple wide receivers that haven't been taken care of yet. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, to name a couple, that are going to get deals better by a few million than this on average per year. So this also right away reminds all of us in Kansas City when we're talking about positional value and where to draft. And
why you might want a cheap wide receiver?
Mm-hmm. You got Rashee Rice last year in the second round. That's why you draft a couple this year, right? Isn't this why you draft 2 this year?
That's why you draft them every year. I mean, look, the reality is, and you could have one high-priced wide receiver. Teams wouldn't do this if you couldn't make it work under the cap, but if you have Mahomes, this is where, you don't have to full Aaron Rodgers it. You don't have to never take a first-round skill position player ever and just be like, you make it work, jerk. We don't care who you have. You make it work. It doesn't have to go that far. But I also think that sometimes, when you take those guys, like you said, you take 2 wide receivers. If they're in the second and the third round, Alex, you and I are okay. If they get 4 years out of them, we're okay. We can get back into that in a minute, but that's part of the reason why. I also, if I were one of those teams that still had a wide receiver left to pay, I would not like that number. 4 for $120 and $77 million guaranteed. What the hell is Justin Jefferson going to get? Or Jamar Chase, your guy, Drew? Or, I don't know, is that the only 2 guys that are left to be paid at the moment? They're waiting for everyone else to get paid. So who's the next one? Chase get paid before Jefferson or the other way around?
I think
Jefferson's something that's closer.
I think Jefferson's closer, yeah. So that I think is the next guy in line.
And he just asked to beat him by $1 million in the guarantees or whatever?
Yeah, it's usually something like that, just so they can say they're the highest paid.
The way it's trending right now, wide receiver, I kind of get why the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill. You know?
Sure. Yeah.
The number is so roster prohibitive. There'd be no benefit in paying a single other wide receiver. You can't pay Boyd, you can't pay Higgins, you can't pay anybody else on the roster. That's again why, just going back, I know the Bowers thing is an absolute massive long shot. But the reason why I would always, as a team, take more shots at tight end is still that. Half price. If you get it right, if you get Sam Laporta, it's half price for an 1,100-yard wide receiver, essentially, right? It's not perfect, and there's only 5 or 6 of them. It's harder to find.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Way harder to find your T.J. Hawkinson, your Travis Kelce, your Sam Laporta. Way harder to find. Your George Kittle. I get it. But it's why I keep taking shots at tight end is because if you get it right, half price. It's so much cheaper than an elite-level wide receiver.
I hear you, except it's you have to have a top 5 tight end in the league to get what a top 40 could probably get you. You know what I mean?
Sure.
That's the weird. But now, yes, the cost.
The discount.
The discount is massive, and Amon-Ra deserves the contract. I mean, he's a hell of a player. It's just this is why even for Detroit, I know they're the NFC, so we don't focus on them as much in terms of what happens when they have to start paying. They definitely don't have a quarterback on a rookie contract. Jared Goff's a little bit older. He's going to be due for an extension here soon. It could even happen this offseason. Amon-Ra's now making literally top wide receiver money. And they've got some other young pieces. They're not paying Jahmyr Gibbs a lot of money, but they spent high-level draft capital on a running back. I'm just saying, at some point, that catches up to you. Aiden Hutchinson, great player, edge rusher. They had to pay him. But just you're
starting to go up.
All of a sudden, it gets more challenging to build out the roster. It's why for them, even Dan Campbell was honest about it. They lose in the NFC title game to the Niners last year. They should have won that game. And, he even admitted, people didn't like the comment, but he's like, we don't know if we'll be back. This might have been our best chance. And it's the truth.
It absolutely
the
is
Lions aren't going to fall off a cliff, but also there's no guarantee the Lions are back in the NFC title game next year.
And to, not that they blew it, but to have that opportunity where they could have gotten to the Super Bowl, it's the hardest thing to get to in sports. Obviously what the Chiefs have done is very, very much so.
They're a dynasty. There's only been a handful.
Anomaly, but to get to one, even forget winning one, to get to a Super Bowl is tough for everybody.
Yeah, it's not an anomaly for the Chiefs anymore. And by the way, being in the middle of the dynasty only hurts your odds. The fact that there's one team sucking up all the wins and all the Super Bowl appearances, if you're an AFC team, that ain't making your life easier. If you're Joe Burrow and the Bengals a couple of years ago, that might have been. There's a shot that was Joe Burrow's only chance to win a Super Bowl. Yeah. That might be the only damn one he ever plays in. That's not a guarantee. He might still get it, but that might be his only chance.
Drew just put his head down.
I'm not trying to concern you, but it's the truth.
No, it is the absolute truth. It is the complete truth. And I think that is the consensus in the AFC is until proven otherwise, which they haven't been proven otherwise, the AFC runs through the Chiefs every single. You have to. It is always going to be getting through the Chiefs in order to get there. It's never going to change unless an injury happens, and that's probably going to be that way all the way through Patrick Mahomes' career.
Yeah, I mean,
so Amon-Ra, man, 4 years, 120 mil, 77 million guaranteed. We'll find out more of the actual specifics, but that's basically what you need to know is that it makes him the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL for a period of time until Jefferson, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb. Like those are the three guys that are going to get massive paydays. Those are the guys they love it. I'm sure Justin Jefferson sent a text to Amon-Ra St. Brown saying, "Congrats, thank you very much." Also, for
I'm going to go ahead and send this over to my agent real quick. But congrats, man.
Because that's the starting point. That's the starting point now.
Does CeeDee Lamb have one of the greatest all-time awkward draft moments of all time?
Oh, with his girlfriend.
Yes.
That's an all-time draft moment.
He's got a couple phones.
Yes.
She grabs the phone, and he grabs the phone right back.
Right back.
So good. There's a bunch of awkward draft moments. There's a player. Gosh, who was it? I just saw the clip yesterday where his girlfriend's sitting next. Clearly, his girlfriend is sitting next to him and hugging him and all that. And the player's mom basically pulls her out of the camera away. So she's like, "Hey, we don't want you," because hey, they're his girlfriend. Do you want the mom's like, "Hey, I'm going to be next to my son in this moment," or whatever.
She yanked her out of the way.
Yeah, who was that?
I can't remember who it was because they were at home. I remember that. It was an offensive lineman.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway. And then also, text lines that Russell Wilson. Yeah, that was, now in hindsight, it's even funnier because.
I don't remember that moment.
Because he was with his.
Isaiah Wilson, by the way.
Okay, Isaiah Wilson.
Yeah.
But no, Russ one is funny because in hindsight, because we all know, he broke up with his. They were married, right? He got divorced, I guess. But at the time, because Sierra obviously wasn't sitting next to him when he was coming out of Wisconsin. When he was coming out of Wisconsin, Sierra wasn't next to him.
It's just a risk. I'll be honest. I think some people worry about. It's just a risk you got to take. Gold, you get a girlfriend. You guys are dating for 6 months. Y'all go on the family vacation to the Outer Banks, like Drew's family.
That sounds
and
nice.
she comes along, and you guys are going to take
Outer Banks.
You guys are going to take a little group photo because you all went to a place together. You should just gotta be in the photo. Look, I got photos with ex-girl. It's not that big a deal. It's fine. It's not like, hey, what was that girl doing there? It's like, I was dating her. That's what she was doing here.
Or we
were together.
You going to the Outer Banks?
Soon? We go every single year.
So I don't even know it more because of the TV show.
Never seen it.
You've never seen the show? Oh
wow. God, that's the most big endorsement he's given for a show ever. What's it about?
I watched a few episodes. Clearly, Drew's probably watched all of them. I guess if you vacation there, you'd probably be into the show even more.
That was an in already, but it's a...
It had 3 seasons of it on Netflix.
Yeah, they're going to have another one, which will be interesting because the plot's kind of ended. But
is it actually, some shows...
The main character, his dad, he thought his dad had died. And there's a treasure that he believes there's a treasure... Okay. And he's looking for it with some of his friends. There's the Pogues, there's the Cougs. It's basically the super rich people, ignorant people, and then the Pogues, which they're part of.
It's like Ozark?
Well, I was asking about the show. Is it actually filmed there? Because Ozark is...
No, it is filmed. It's filmed in Charleston, South Carolina.
Same thing, because the movie Ozark, the aerial shots, I think, are, the aerial shots are the Ozarks, but the actual film is in Georgia or something.
It is not filmed in the Outer Banks. Gotcha. That would be very difficult to do.
Really?
I think because there's not a consensus, I guess, living area in the Outer Banks as much as there is in Charleston, where a lot of it is timeshares and rentals, and it doesn't look like
sure.
It's not
people are saying it sounds a lot like National Treasure with Nick Cage, and I got to be honest, I agree. Good news is for you, Drew. I think the National Treasure movies are great. Are they high? Is it like watching an Academy Award-winning movie? No. Is it a travesty that they're never going to make a third one? Yes. Those movies are just blind entertainment. Who doesn't like a National Treasure movie? It's such innocent entertainment.
I think you would like it. If you like the National Treasure movies, yes, I think you would. There's some plot twists in there. It's on Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll consider it. Could probably use a new show. I'm finishing up Curb Your Enthusiasm first. Then I'll...
That just wrapped up, didn't it?
Yeah, and I was behind like a half a season. So I'm in the final season now, but I haven't.
Gotcha. Okay.
I haven't completed the final episode yet. So please, I guess, don't spoil it. It's fine. If you do, I'll still watch it.
Curb Your Enthusiasm is with the Larry David, isn't it?
Yeah. I assume. I mean, that's a very popular show. I assume you guys also watched it at some point.
I have never seen one episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. But
I've seen
I
a
like
couple
Larry
episodes.
David.
I am years behind though. Like I'm multiple seasons behind. But
Well, they're like 12 of them, so it's going to take you a minute to get caught up.
Yeah, it'll take all summer to do that. We'll get to the trash of the day here in about 5 minutes or so. We were going to talk more about the AFC West before the Amon-Ra St. Brown news came out that he has that new extension with the Detroit Lions. But the Broncos sit at 12. The Raiders are at 13, and then inside the top 5, you have the Chargers sitting at pick 5. And that pick seems to be one where everybody's questioning it could be for sale. Could the Chargers back out, or is that the Joe Alt pick? Honestly, everybody else in the division, I guess the Chiefs could too, but everybody else in the division, there's a real case to be made that they could be involved in a trade. Like, a lot of people think the Broncos could trade up for a quarterback, the Raiders could trade up for a quarterback, the Chargers could trade back. Like, because the Vikings want to go up to 5. I mean, that the AFC West, there could be a lot of the trades could involve AFC West teams tomorrow night.
The way I look at this right now is these teams, I hope they screw it up because I think these teams would be better served to all trade down because they all don't need one player. They need a accrual of talent, specifically the Chargers. I know as tempting as it is to just be like, Joe Alt, we're good. Or Malik Neighbors, we're good. And just take a guy who they know has an elite level talent for them. The problem is they were a 5-win team with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL last year. And I know he's hurt, but the year before that, they were a 7-win team. They need an accrual of talent. Or maybe 8 wins. I don't
remember they blew the playoff lead to the
I'm sorry.
Jags.
They actually went.
And they had the epic playoff failure.
I'm thinking the year before that. Yeah, they actually did win like 10 or 11 games that year. And then, the following year absolutely blew it. But when you look at like what the Chargers need to do, they need more than one player. They need a lot of players. My guess is that they trade out. The Broncos trade up and the Raiders stay where they are. Like if you made me guess right now, I think the Chargers trade out of 5. I think there are multiple teams who want quarterbacks. And I've even seen mock drafts that say maybe the Bears, instead of staying at 9, trade up and like get the guy they want at wide receiver at 5, rather than wait around to see if Odunze or Neighbors are going to be there at 9. They just go up 4 spots for minimum value shift and do it. I think because the Chargers need wide receiver, but they also need offensive line. They need guys they need offensive line help. They need defensive line help. They need corner help. The 2 defensive linemen they kept this previous year, and Bosa and Khalil Mack are still they only reworked their deals to buy themselves a season. They need more than one player. I still think the Broncos are trading up. Sean Payton didn't take that job just to fire Russell Wilson after a year and then go in and start Zach Wilson for a year.
That'd be
Did
great.
he?
I wish.
Did he?
I hope so. That'd be incredible. Look, I think at 5, as much as Joe Alt makes sense, this is where tomorrow night at the draft party, remember, you can fill out your draft form, and wherever you think Joe Alt's going to go, you could still think he's going to the Chargers, and they could still trade back a spot or two. But this is where I think one of the teams is trading up getting quarterback. This is, to me, the Vikings either trading up for McCarthy. This is the Raiders trading up for Michael Penix Jr. I know it's an interdivision trade, but I don't think it matters here in this circumstance.
No, if they're taking a quarterback, you don't care.
So this, to me, will be the spot where I think gets moved. And maybe the Chargers still get Joe Alt because they only move back a handful of spots.
Titans are the problem at 7 for them.
Right. And do they think that that's worth the risk? But 5, I think, might be the first trade of the draft. Like the Bears aren't trading at 1. No. I think the Commanders are staying put and taking Jane Daniels or May, and I think it's Daniels. I do think the Patriots have been interesting. I don't think anyone's going to
meet their asking price.
And then the Cardinals are tricky at 4, but I think ultimately they're all in on Kyler Murray, and I do think they're going to take Marvin Harrison Jr. So to me, 5 might be the first spot a trade comes into play, and that's how we get our 4th quarterback off the board. Whoever you believe that's going to be, Penix or J.J. McCarthy, that to me is what's happening at 5. But you're right, the Broncos, are they really going to just run into the season with Zach Wilson, which would be hilarious? I don't buy it unless they stay pat at 12, Cody, and they think, we'll just take Bo Nix at 12, which is higher than a lot of people think he would go.
I mean, I think he's going in the 2nd.
Yeah, I tend to think Bo will go in the 2nd. I wonder who is better fit for Michael Penix. I mean, is it Denver?
Denver's a perfect fit. Michael Penix Jr. is the ideal quarterback
for Sean Payton.
For Sean Payton.
Okay.
I think that they are a perfect fit for each
other.
other.
And I like Michael Penix. The concern with him is the injury stuff, right? Injury history, a couple reconstructed knees.
Sure.
So that's the concern. That's why he's not being discussed as one of the first 2 quarterbacks
also, it happens
off the
to
board.
be he's in the draft class where there's a lot of like in normal drafts, Penix probably does go top 10. He
still might,
He still might, but he definitely does. Mm-hmm. He's like the 2nd quarterback off the board most years.
If it weren't for Jaden Daniels having the year that he had Penix is the third guy.
The truth is, Jaden Daniels is the number 1 overall pick, probably like 5 of the last 6 drafts. And Drake May is probably the second guy off the board, 5 of the last 6 drafts. But Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels are in this draft, so he's the third guy off the board. Or what else? Someone might talk themselves into J.J. McCarthy instead. You never know.
The report, Herm Edwards doing an interview yesterday.
Wait, Herm?
Yeah, Herm Edwards.
Fresh off of his 5-year show cause suspension from Arizona State.
He's back at ESPN, isn't he? I think, or...
This was on BetQL. He was on one of the Odyssey BetQL shows, and he was talking about Jaden Daniels because he coached him at Arizona State, remember? And Jaden Daniels, before going to LSU, was recruited by Herm Edwards and coached by Herm Edwards. And there's ties with Antonio Pierce, who's now the Raiders, with Arizona State, with Jaden Daniels. The problem is it looks like the Commanders are going to take him. But if Jaden Daniels somehow isn't the number 2 pick, let's say that...
And he's the heavy favorite to be so.
Yeah, and let's say the Commanders just went through the smoke screen and they draft Drake May. I don't think it'll be J.J. McCarthy, but let's say they draft Drake May. Then at 3, it's the Patriots. If there was a team desperate enough, because they reportedly, according to Herm Edwards, love Jaden Daniels, the Raiders... at 3 for Jaden Daniels.
Well,
that requires Daniels not getting picked by the Commanders, which I don't think is going to happen. But if Daniels doesn't go 2, all of a sudden, could the Raiders pull off the huge trade and go all the way up to number 3 and get Jaden Daniels?
I don't remember if it was Diana Rossini who said this exactly, but she said the Patriots are fielding calls. I think that there was another, I don't know if it was Diana or somebody else.
They're asking for the moon.
That, but also the Patriots, if Drake May, they want Drake May.
Yeah, and if he's not
there, then they might want out.
And if Jaden Daniels, therefore, would be on the board, is that where the Raiders all of a sudden say, you know what, we're doing it. We love this guy. Antonio Pierce wants him, and they go up and get him.
The Patriots
that could be fun. And the Patriots need a haul, right? Because they got all kinds of issues.
We talk about rosters that need a lot of help everywhere.
Who is their
them?
What is
Jacoby Brissett right now as a quarterback?
I mean, look, part of me thinks that for certain teams, I think it makes sense to do this. You build the team before you get you build the team before you get the quarterback. So when you get the quarterback, there's enough foundation in place for you to make the most out of those 5 years that you have him. Maybe I don't know if Houston is a good example of that. But they had a solid team built around. It just happened to work out where maybe New England, they get a wide receiver at 12 if they're there, or they figure out a way to build up the roster where when they get a quarterback next year or whenever they deal with it.
Yeah, someone says, why does Gold put so much emphasis on Jaden Daniels? That's because of
an incident.
It's a couple reasons. There's because Jalen Daniels plays at Kansas, and there was a time, I don't know, a year ago maybe, we
played back a clip where it sounded like you called him Jaden Daniels, called the
Kansas quarterback Jaden, and so now we differentiate the two. Jalen Daniels and Jaden Daniels. That's why. That's the story there.
I wonder, I think it would be interesting to see if Minnesota is the team left out in this, or because if I don't know if the Vikings would want to trade up. I mean, the Vikings seem like the fit to trade up to 5
and get Penix.
But if the Raiders are desperate enough for a quarterback, or the Broncos are desperate enough, do they jump Minnesota and take a quarterback? And then Minnesota's screwed in that case. You know,
that's why the Chargers, I think, are in a really good spot at 5 because I think there's 3 teams, maybe, I think 2 for sure, maybe 3. That could try to actually get up to 5 because of the scenario you played out. The worry that, hey, okay, if you're the Broncos or you're the Raiders, I guess you're 13, you're worrying, okay, we can't just sit at 13. There's a team like the Broncos and the Vikings that both want a quarterback. The Vikings already traded up to get the pick that they own right now. To me, they don't trade up and be positioned where they're at without trying to trade up again.
I think in best case scenario for the Chiefs, I guess, would be Minnesota trades up at 5 with the Chargers. The Chargers end up getting... I don't know.
Well, they swapped the first, so they moved back to
11. So maybe they get Rome Odunze. Maybe they get Rome Odunze. Otherwise, they just have to settle on somebody else. The Charger or the Raiders get a tackle, and then the Broncos get a corner. That doesn't scare. They get better, but that doesn't scare you if you're the Kansas City Chiefs at all. I don't think in terms of the divisional race.
No, but it's still smart because you got to allow them. The more talent they acquire, the more likely they are to get it right.
Coming up next, we'll get to the Chiefs Red half hour. We'll also mix in the trash of the day. But the reason the Chiefs need multiple wide receivers in the draft, the trend that shows us just how likely it is you're going to hit on one next.
Cody and Gold, brought to you by Heartland Men's Health, the leader in men's sexual health. Thousands of men have been successfully treated for low T, ED, and more, all with discretion and compassion. Make your appointment at heartlandmenshealth.com.
There is a back-to-back Super Bowl champion, and it is the Kansas City Chiefs.
On your official broadcast partner of the Chiefs, 610 Sports Radio.
Supplement Superstores has helped me lose over 20 pounds since last November, and I'm keeping the weight off. Right before Thanksgiving, I knew I needed to lose weight. I went to Supplement Superstores on Ward Parkway and said, "Help, I need to lose the extra pounds." And they said, "No problem, we've got you covered." I was 224 on that day in November. I'm now down under 200 for the first time in years. At my yearly physical back in February, my doctor told me how proud she was of me and all my accomplishments. My weight was way down, and so was my cholesterol. I couldn't have done it without the folks over at Supplement Superstores. I take Flashpoint Complex. It's a refreshing drink when I get up in the morning and one right before bed. That's it. The one in the morning gives me energy all day long without the jitters. The evening drink helps me recover and has allowed me to sleep better than I ever have before. So go into any of the 8 Kansas City area Supplement Superstores. They're all over the metro. Tell them I sent you, and they'll give you 20% off the Flashpoint Complex. Supplement Superstores, when you're ready to feel your best.
The other place with 4 great Kansas City locations: Shawnee, Olathe, downtown Overland Park, and now Mission. If you're looking for that one-of-a-kind game day experience with enough big screens that you'll never miss a second of the action, and you also want great food, great beer specials, and patio season to enjoy spring as we head into summer, it must be The Other Place, the perfect place to make your baseball headquarters this season. The Other Place, Shawnee, Olathe, downtown Overland Park, Mission, and Belton, opening up in May. Your home for this baseball season.
Hey, it's Rex here with RexBuysKC.com, your local KC home buyer. If you own a property in the Kansas City or surrounding area and want to sell it fast and at a fair price, write this number down, 816-330-6000. I'm a private real estate investor, not some hedge fund or large national chain. My family and I live right here in KC. I can pay cash and close on your timeline, even in as little as 3 days. Here at RexBuysKC.com, we're improving Kansas City one house at a time. I buy inherited houses, vacant houses, foreclosure houses, behind in payment houses, my tenant won't pay the rent houses, and properties that need complete rehabs. Do you own a house that's trashed and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great. If you own a house and want to sell it fast, call me at this number, 816-330-6000. That's 816-330-6000, or go to RexBuysKC.com. That's RexBuysKC.com. And I look forward to working with you.
Before the puck drops, BetMGM is dropping bet and get tokens into the accounts of customers in Kansas. Simply add a wager on the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs to your bet slip and activate your token. You'll instantly receive a bonus bet, no matter how your wager goes. From big hits to overtime goals, BetMGM is here for every playoff moment on the ice. While the teams chase the cup, you can take advantage of daily promos, same-game parlays, live bets, and so much more with your BetMGM app in Kansas. Claim your bet and get token today to earn a bonus bet, regardless of whether your NHL Stanley Cup playoffs wager finds the back of the net or not. Get to the center of the playoff hockey action with BetMGM, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. Kansas only. Existing customer offer. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel.
Rob Brenton from The Drive here to tell you about the best window and door company in town, Renewal by Andersen. They're the full-service replacement window division of Andersen, who's been building quality windows and doors for more than 120 years. Renewal by Andersen windows and doors are proudly made right here in the U.S. of A. They custom build every window using their Fibrex composite that's twice as strong as vinyl and backed by the nation's best warranty, covering windows and doors for 20 years. Their installers are factory-trained, highly skilled craftsmen who treat your home with a level of care you do not see anywhere else in the home improvement industry. When it comes to windows and doors, go with the experts, my friends over at Renewal by Andersen. And right now, save 20% on all windows and patio doors, plus take an extra $500 off your entire project with no interest for 4 years. Just call 913-364-0200. That's 913-364-0200, 913-364-0200.
A car is never just a car. Kelley Blue Book knows it's so much more than that. It's your commuting chariot, your road trip refuge, your I just need a reason to get out of the house. Your car is there for everything. And for everything car, there's Kelley Blue Book. Need a new set of wheels? Price it on Kelley Blue Book. Problem under the hood? Fix it with Kelley Blue Book. Can another car do the job better? Trade it or sell it on Kelley Blue Book. We're here mile after mile, moment after moment. Price it, fix it, trade it, sell it. KBB.com it. Visit KelleyBlueBook.com to get the journey started.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential. But finding those people can be a major hassle. Unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Drowning in IRS debt? If you can't afford to pay your IRS debt due to economic hardship, you can now be free of IRS collection efforts by taking advantage of a special IRS tax hardship program. This program allows Americans who owe the IRS to resolve their delinquent tax debt once and for all. In some cases, maybe even reducing what you owe significantly. An open phone line has been established by Community Tax for consumers to call and see if they qualify. Simply dial 800-485-7220. If you owe back taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back or have years of unfiled tax returns, help is standing by. Just call the Community Tax Helpline today at 800-485-7220 for the help that you need. Don't take on the IRS alone. They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. Call 800-485-7220 to see if you qualify. That's 800-485-7220.
Picture this: a smooth, sleek parking lot that leaves a lasting impression on your customers. With preferred asphalt and seal coating, that dream becomes a reality. Say goodbye to potholes and cracks that deter potential customers. Plus, our seal coating solutions provide an extra layer of protection against harsh weather conditions, extending the lifespan of your pavement. Experience the difference, and let's pave the way to success together. When it comes to quality and reliability, Preferred Asphalt and Seal Coating is the name you can trust. PACKC.biz.
Chiefs Kingdom. This is Mitch Holtis, and welcome into the Chiefs Red Half Hour on Cody and Gold. Every day at 11:30 on your official broadcast partner, the Chiefs, 610 Sports Radio.
Thank you, Mitch. Chiefs Red Half Hour. And tomorrow night, we'll be talking all things Chiefs, hanging out at the Landing in Liberty. Bink and Chris, the Character Concerns crew, will be doing their show throughout the entire night. We'll be there from 6 to who knows how late, waiting for the Chiefs to make their selection at number 32. Maybe they trade up as well. And if you think you know how the draft is going, if you think you know where Jaden Daniels is going, for example, we were just discussing, go ahead and write that on the form, 610sports.com, including the team. You get multiple points. And
I'm predicting the Washington Commanders for that one.
Spoiler, that's what I'll mark down as well, even though it'd be fun if he falls, because then I think everything can, all hell can break loose. But I do think he'll go too. And you can win $610 plus some Chiefs merch. There was an autographed Nick Bolton helmet I saw is up for grabs. So join us tomorrow night at the Landing in Liberty.
Drew, did Bree get back to you on my offer to let you guys stay in the basement? What's her vibe on that?
Boy.
I didn't even talk to her last night, actually, about it. I texted her, and she never responded to it. She never really responded directly to that. To that question. So I would assume probably not.
That's her polite way of ignoring it.
Just ignore it? She could just say, no, it's all right. We'll figure it out. I mean, I'm not going to be offended.
She might have been
busy.
Busy. God bless her. She's very stressed out with this whole situation.
Yeah, I understand.
With that, and then she's very stressed out. We handle things a little bit differently. I used to be that way, but now I'm gotten a lot better at handling stressful situations. So.
You handle it differently? We all handle it differently.
Oh, well, yeah,
okay.
Of course. Yeah, we all handle it differently.
I mean, I literally, 2 months on the show, admitted to having panic attacks. I don't think you need to apologize because Bree's a little stressed.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
We all handle things a little bit different, as you had previously said.
But yeah, sorry. If if we do not accept your offer. But
I won't,
thank you for offering, though.
It doesn't sound like she's turned it down. There's just been no response.
She hasn't. Well, and given our situation of the way that renting goes now, it might be a little bit longer than we'd like it to be before getting into a place.
We'll figure. You know what? Offers open. No
Thank
pressure
you.
on the timeline.
Thank you.
The wide receiver position in the NFL draft has become interesting, not just because there's way more stars. Like, I mean, look at this year's draft. I'm convinced Xavier Leggett, who might be the 8th wide receiver taken in this draft, would normally, he'd be the oops, snuck into the top 10 because someone fell in love with his size and speed. Ted Ginn Jr., Henry, whatever. He'd be that version of a wide receiver a couple of years ago because it's so deep. The highest he'll probably go is 7, maybe 6 if someone just fell in love. I am convinced, not just because, and we'll talk about the success rate, I am convinced that wide receivers are going to come and go off of teams way more often than they ever have in the NFL. Because I no longer think anyone in the NFL is going to consistently pay the guy between 900 and 1,100 yards. I'm essentially talking about the Rashee Rice level of player. So there's still ceiling in Rashee that could be obtained. But most people, because of what he was scouted and believed to be before, think that what you got out of Rashee Rice last year is you got max value.
Right.
Maybe he's a 1,000-yard guy. I think the reason why the Chiefs have to keep drafting wide receivers is because you eventually do want to get your Amon-Ra St. Brown, the guy you're willing to give $120 million to because they're a 13, 14, Tyreek Hill, 1,700-yard wide receiver at some point, and you're more prepared to handle it. I just don't think they're going to do it that way. But as you pointed out, Schefter's draft success of giving them a second contract suggests almost no wide receivers get it.
Yeah, and I also think, though, where the market eventually goes, if we're going to have this continual crop of deep wide receiver draft classes and more talent coming into the league at a greater rate than we had in prior drafts, it's not even just that teams will choose to maybe let someone walk that's not the star, but also the market's just not going to be as good. So I know hey, they're going to let him walk, but also, Cody, there's a chance the middle of the wide receiver value is going to go down. Not the Jeffersons and Amon-Ra St. Browns, Jamar Chases. That market, that top-tier market will still exist. But if we're saying that teams are willing to let the 900-yard guy go, well, then you're going to have a surplus on the market of those type of players, and therefore the value should go down even though the salary cap is going up. The salary cap going up is going to end up only impacting the star wide receivers more than it will the middle of the road guy. And so while I agree with you that teams may not go the path of signing the 900-yard guy, I don't know if that'll fully happen. If the market isn't as high, well, then it won't be as big of a deal financially to retain those guys either. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
Maybe because there's so many talented wide receivers, maybe the second guy doesn't cost. I always think free agency, someone will pay him. So the price tags I don't feel like ever go down. Let's just say Rashee Rice is a free agent 3 years from now. Someone will pay him 25 or 30. Just as long as they're healthy. Now, maybe it's not true because Hollywood Brown got essentially nothing. But the best year out of Hollywood Brown is definitely better than Rashee Rice's best year so far. But there's a lot of other failure in there. Does that make sense? T. Higgins is really going to be the interesting case study. When he's a free agent, this will be the true test, honestly. When T. Higgins is a free agent, what will he get? He has pretty solidly been the exact wide receiver I just described to you. 900 to 1,000 yards. He's always been second fiddle to Jamar Chase, but he has been a consistently good, available wide receiver every single year he's been in the NFL. He had a rough start last year, but for the most part, he has been wildly consistent. When he gets in the open market, maybe tells me something. Because at first I thought, boy, is the market crashing because Juju Smith-Schuster got nothing. Then I looked at Calvin Ridley's contract this year, and it didn't seem like he got nothing.
Yeah, I wonder if it's more of a long-term thing, over the next couple of years where we have 4 straight or so draft classes where it's deep, and then with that said, then it's going to take 3 or 4 years of them being in the league before they hit free agency anyway. So I think it's a couple years away to find out the full answer of if what I'm speculating about and you're speculating about actually happens, but it's definitely interesting. And then, Adam Schefter put out basically the last 20 drafts, or drafts from 2000 to 2019. So this cuts off who was able to get second-year contracts by position that was drafted in the first round in the hit rate. Only 27% of wide receivers so 77 were drafted, 21 got a second contract that were drafted in the first round. Think about that. Only 27%. The highest, by the way, is centers. 11 centers, 12 centers, only 1 missed between 2000 and 2019. If you drafted a center in the first round over the last 20 years, that guy got a second contract. You found someone that's going to be your franchise center. Offensive tackle. 59% of the time. 64 were drafted, 38 got a second contract after being a first-round pick.
Centers, by the way, 11 for 12. You draft a center in the first round, you sure as hell give him a second contract, don't you? That's another reason to think that Creed Humphrey in the second round is going to get it, by the way.
Cornerback, 38%. Tight end, 33%. The positions we've discussed for the Chiefs are offensive tackle in the first round. Okay, 59%. Corner, 38%. Defensive edge rusher, 44% of the time it hits. Defensive tackle, 40%. And then we mentioned wide receiver, 27%. So if you're just, hey, what's your best chance to get a tackle that you're going to give a second contract to? It's offensive tackle. But here's the thing. Not at 32, probably. Not at 32.
And the reason I think more of them get second contracts, the same reason more quarterbacks get second contracts, scarcity. Scarcity goes back to the wide receiver thing. The reason why less of them get second contracts, Gold, is not because they all stink. It's because they're not worthy of the second contract based on what is available to you outside of the market. It is hard to find a tackle. That's why they all go super high in the draft, Gold. They're not available at 32 like we just talked about. So a lot of teams give them a second contract. Why? Because the available options at tackle are thin. Look at the Chiefs' situation this year. Right now, as it sits, they're starting Wanye Morris, a third-round pick from a year ago, and Jawan Taylor, a player they had to pick up in free agency for an exorbitant amount of money at right tackle. Those are their current options at tackle. They would also like to improve it, like a million other teams. I think some of these second contracts, it doesn't tell the whole story because you're just more likely to get them due to availability. Center, I think, like for instance, that's the highest rate. It's like 93%. That's just because you spend a premium pick on center. You better sure damn get it right if their center is going in the first round. It's like one a year over 20 years, right? Or one every other year for 20 years. When a center goes in the first round, man, they're a lock. They're not screwing up the job. They're going to get another job.
Well, it's not much of a surprise that in that as well, I mean, 12, the total is 12 centers. The total for tight end is 24. The total for guard is 28. Like those guys already aren't
it's one a year pretty much
those
over
guys,
that time.
you have to be, even to be considered to be a first round.
You got to be good.
You got to be, an elite level talent.
People take way more risk at wide receiver, man.
Way too much. That and corner. Those are the two biggest discrepancies, I guess.
Corner's only going to get worse now that every team wide receiver is great.
All right, we're going to look at an ESPN NFL Nation reporter mock. So each ESPN reporter that covers each team, Adam Teicher for the Kansas City Chiefs in this case, will be making the Chiefs pick. And there are trades in this, but the Chiefs end up standing pat. Adam Teicher has A.D. Mitchell going 32nd. It is interesting, though, the way that the draft plays out for him. In his description, he says, I was prepared to go with a cornerback, Ennis Rakestraw, Jr. of Missouri, but when the board fell this way, with Mitchell still available, it was an easy switch. So I wonder, it all goes back to that conversation, I think, again, of how the board plays out for the Chiefs. If they have a gun to their head and the board plays out at 32, maybe you lose out on wide receiver and offensive tackle, and you just take the best player available, or you trade out in that case.
I'm calling it. 100% the Chiefs are not drafting a corner at 32. It's not happening. They're trying way too hard to convince everyone they're taking a corner at 32. They're not doing it. This is just a lie. They've talked some people into it. They've definitely convinced some people they might take corner at 32. It's not happening. 0% chance they take a corner at 32. It's just not happening. Like I can't understand why every single person seems to go this way. They spent one premium pick on corner in 7 years of Brett Veach being a drafter for this team, or 6 years of him being a draft for this team. It was the one time they traded up for Trent McDuffie.
Right.
Like, look, at 20, maybe they're taking they're not doing it at 32. They're doing it later in the draft or what else. I think they're taking wide receiver, tackle, maybe defensive line, but I don't think it's corner. People think it's corner.
I would be surprised if they drafted corner as well. The only thing I could think of is that, Jalen Watson, Joshua Williams, and what they have there, and they both had really good rookie seasons last year. One of them, Watson dealt with the torn labrum, I think it was.
Yeah.
And we didn't know it. He still played most of the season. Is if, maybe we'll find out how, are they concerned about one of them stepping up and being the number 2 corner for the entire season? That would be the only thing that they've been kind of quiet. You're saying they're making it seem like they want to take one, but also I would argue, I still think it's been a little quiet there. That would be the only circumstance. They take one at 32, and it actually tells us that they weren't confident that one of those guys can step in
Sure.
And be the number 2 corner. I still think it's less likely than wide receiver. It's less likely than tackle. I would even say in that scenario, trade back if another team's willing to trade with you. Get out of the first round if another team wants to come back in. I can get that corner in the second round if that's the case.
Just for AFC West reference, and then there's an interesting tidbit at 23. I'll get to that. The Vikings trade up to 5.
Okay, and get a quarterback.
To get J.J. McCarthy. So that puts it as AFC West, AFC West, AFC West, and Chargers, Broncos, Raiders. The Chargers, they have taking J.C. Latham, the tackle from Alabama at 11. The Broncos taking Dallas Turner, the edge rusher at 12. Raiders taking Tylese Fuaga from Oregon State at 13. The reason why I say 23 is interesting is because they have the Chargers in that trade taking Brian Thomas Jr. at 23.
Wow, he falls at 23.
Now, obviously, the Chiefs wouldn't, or the Chargers wouldn't trade with the Chiefs in order for them to get Brian Thomas Jr. But if he's available at 22 when you're the Eagles and you're the Chiefs, is Brian Thomas worth 10 spots trading up to get?
I think the answer is yes. I just don't think he's there at 22 or 23.
I agree. I don't think he's there either.
I mean, if you're the Chargers and you can trade all the way back and still get Brian Thomas at 23, that's a great draft.
Yes. That's a home run for them.
I don't know if that's realistic, but that's a hell of a draft if that's the case.
But again, because Brian Thomas Jr., at least I haven't seen other than this one, I don't think he's gotten past the Bengals at 18 or 19,
No, I was going to say it's him or Johnny Newton, where like from the defensive line, where I'm praying they're the fallers. Like, oh, I hope everyone falls out of love of Brian Thomas. Probably won't happen, but there is going to be one guy. You and I both know there's one player who has consistently been mocked in the top 20 that ain't going.
Of course,
I don't know which that guy
happens every year.
For me, it's Johnny Newton, I hope, or Brian Thomas, because Brian Thomas, it's easy. He is clearly in the second set of wide receivers behind the 3 guys we know are going in the top 15. Odunze and Neighbors, and realistically probably the top 10, and Marvin Harrison Jr. are all going in the top half of that draft. Because of how many good wide receivers, I'm guessing it's kind of a mess after that. We all think it's Brian Thomas, but he's clearly in that second grouping, which means somebody else might think something completely different about it.
This goes back to our conversation with Nate yesterday about, it was Brock Bowers, the name of the guy that actually falls the most. He could go as high as 8. Could he fall all the way back to 20? There's been some mock drafts that have him fall into the 20s. And that could be the name of the guy just because it's a tight end that ends up falling as well.
To give you the measurables, by the way, of Brian Thomas. So he is Dane Brugler. So official numbers, 6'2" and 7. So you can round up to 6'3". 6'3", 210 pounds, ran a 4.340, which is the fastest of any of the top 4 guys.
Ridiculous.
He's faster than Malik. He's faster than Odunze. I mean, and he was with Neighbors as well and still put up over 1,100 yards and had the most touchdowns in college football. So, I mean, he's almost in that first tier. Like, he's right there.
There's too many examples of it going both ways, so you can't really say one way or the other. Because, like, a lot of times you'd be like, well, it should be easy to be open if you're Brian Thomas Jr., if Malik Neighbors is doing the other side. But then I go back to, like, that Joe Burrow-led LSU team, and I'm like, turns out they were just all great except Clyde. Clyde was fine, and everyone else on that team was just like a superstar, all playing together on one roster.
Same thing with
it's just hard to know.
Same thing with the Washington stuff. Rome was great. How good really is Jalen Polk? Is it because Roman Dunze was getting all of the attention, or is Jalen Polk still have a lot of potential because he was number 2? And then maybe the same thing with Texas as well as Xavier Worthy and A.D. Mitchell as well. It's interesting that dynamic in terms of evaluating wide receivers.
The more, we've been talking about the draft for months now, and it's finally here tomorrow night. Woo! I can't wait.
Thank God.
And we hope to see you at the landing. The more I think about the scenarios and stuff, and this is why pick 32 is tougher than any, just because so many other teams dictate what you're actually able to do. But as much as I've mentioned tackle, and I'm like, hey, that's what I want them to do, and I think they actually want to tackle, but recognizing that they might have to trade up to get them, if they can't get that, I'm now more and more on board with, you know what, screw it. Just take a wide receiver in the first and the second round and just be done with it.
That sounds I like that. That sounds fun.
It does sound like a good idea.
Sounds fun.
I want them to take a tackle.
And just get one right, and then we don't care which one.
But also, the tackle is a need in an area I want them to address. I just don't know how realistic that is if you buy this stuff out this morning from multiple national reporters, which is that all 5 phone calls that I think Tom Pelissero said he made today. Daniel Jeremiah, I'm sorry, that he made. And he's like, yeah, they all think they got to trade up to go get a top-tier tackle. Now, maybe that's smokescreen stuff, but if it isn't, then I don't know how the Chiefs are getting that guy being at 32 unless they move up in a big way. And so if that's the case, then are you better off just saying screw it and just take the wide receiver and just go wide? Because I don't think you're getting a good tackle in round 2. So just go wide receiver, third
Call
round.
Donovan Smith on Saturday.
And then
go
wide receiver, then go ahead and take your defensive lineman or cornerback in the 3rd round. Yeah, sign a veteran Donovan Smith type on next week, and there you go.
It's funny because if you take Troy Franklin in the 1st, and let's just say you took A.D. Mitchell in the 1st, and you took Troy Franklin in the 2nd. If A.D. Mitchell busts, but Troy Franklin is at 1,100, I don't care. Like, ask the 49ers if they care that they took Trey Lance 3rd. I'm sure they wish that they could go, but because they successfully picked Brock Purdy, it gets to wash away.
Yeah, Franklin scares the heck out of me. I'll be honest.
He mentioned him earlier.
It scares me a little bit just because what's the big complaint that everybody has had recently with the wide receiver room. And it's just a player they haven't had recently, which is the inability to track the football in the air and go specifically on those deep routes. And we know Franklin's got the deep route into the speed, for deep routes, but it's kind of adventurous at times to find the ball, and that scares me a little bit. Now, if you suddenly are taking him in the late 2nd round, maybe it's not as big of a deal. But 1st round, I don't think you can take him in the 1st round.
There is a guy so I don't know if he's going to be available in the 2nd round for the Chiefs or if they just go in a completely different direction because they think they take wide receiver first and won't do it again, is Ricky Pearsall from Florida. His stats weren't great in college, but if you look at who was throwing him the football, Anthony Richardson was fine in college. More potential, obviously, in the NFL for what he could do. Last year at Graham Mertz, he was okay, but in terms of big play capability, Keon Coleman-like guy, Ricky Pearsall is a go-and-get-it type of wide receiver.
And it's always laughed, though, because if you go back through and you look at draft analysis for some of these guys, there was some idiot scout I remember that Papa would be like, DeAndre Hopkins can't catch. And you're like, okay. I mean, we all know that that's the antithesis of what it is. So, it's so hard with college players like that because you're not wrong. But Franklin, was it that he couldn't track the deep ball, or was the guy just throwing it where it wasn't supposed? You know what I'm saying? And he's got to just do more work.
I mean, Bo Nix was his quarterback.
He was the most accurate quarterback in college. In college football. Period. Last year, he was the most accurate quarterback.
You really like Bo Nix, don't you?
Let's
get to the bottom of this. He is the 2nd oldest quarterback ever in the draft, next to Brandon Weeden. Since that time period. So in the last 20 years,
he's not Brandon
Weeden,
2
of the oldest quarterbacks to come out of the draft or in this draft, they are Penix and Bo Nix.
Yeah, it's true.
Brandon Weeden.
It is true. Look, you would think I would like Troy Franklin in the 2nd round is not as problematic as the first. His comp from Lance Erline, NFL.com, is a guy that I liked a couple years ago. Chris Olave.
Oh.
So you'd think that because he's got that, but also what's the biggest weakness that Lance Erline lists?
Can't catch.
Ball tracking inconsistencies will pop up at times.
They're really good at that now.
I haven't looked it up.
Ball tracking inconsistencies.
Can you look at Ricky Pearsall and what his mock is?
Pearsall.
Yeah, 2 L's. Tez Walker would be another good pick in the 2nd round, maybe 3rd. He might slide back to there, but Ricky Pearsall is consensus 2nd.
Let's see. It's loading. This is from Lance Erline. He does a good job with the comps. They're just fun to... I shouldn't say I don't know if he does a good job with them. They're fun to talk about. Now, I haven't gone back and checked to see how accurate they are, I'll be honest. Alex Erickson.
That's
That's his comp.
Who?
I don't know who that is.
I'm not messing around.
Shout out University of Wisconsin.
That's why you know who he is. I have no idea.
Who the hell is Alex Erickson? Did he play in the league?
Look, I bet you I'm going to pull up his numbers and they're going to be better than we thought, but I'll be honest, I've never heard of that person in my life.
Alex Erickson.
Played at Wisconsin, played for the Bengals for a little bit. Now he has been with the Chargers.
Sinks hips low to snap. Doesn't have the suddenness to slip pat. Modest catch radius. That's for Ricky Pearsall. But
he's still in the league.
Yeah,
I've never heard of it. He played for the Chargers last year. I've never even heard of this person.
Well, he played. He's in a. There's the first photo of him in a Cincinnati Bengals uniform. That's the reason why you know his name.
He's 31 years old. He has 1,300 career receiving yards.
So the only thing that is a knock for Ricky Pearsall.
How the hell has he been in the league 8 years?
I don't know.
His RAS, again, not that it matters. His RAS is 9.78, which ranks 70th all time in terms of RAS scores with wide receivers.
That seems pretty bad for a modern day athlete.
Relative
athletic modern
score.
athlete should be higher on there.
So I think Ricky Pearsall's a good option. It's just that I think in terms of production at Florida doesn't give him. If he had better production in college, I think he would be a lot higher on the list.
I can't wait to actually see which wide receivers they actually draft so we can stop guessing at which ones it actually is.
Right.
Whew, 1 day away. We're almost there, man. What are we, 31 hours away or whatever from the draft?
I think we get through rounds 1, 2, and 3, and then we get a good idea for if they're. I mean, because not that you can't break down wide receivers in the 5th round, but if they take a wide receiver in the 2nd, say they take a tackle and then take a wide receiver in the 2nd, we get a good idea for, okay, this guy's going to get some playing time, you know?
Depending on where they take him, for sure.
All right, up next, we'll get to what's trending, and we'll get back into the Royals, who got back on track last night. And specifically how they got back on track is the most promising thing. That's next.
Hey, it's Vinny Pasquantino. Don't forget to follow Cody and Gold on the Odyssey app so you can listen on demand to my terrific football takes throughout the year right here on 610 Sports Radio.
Brought to you by Heartland Men's Health, the leader in men's sexual health. Thousands of men have been successfully treated for low T, ED, and more, all with discretion and compassion. Make your appointment at heartlandmenshealth.com.
I'm really good friends with my friends over at GAN Asphalt. That's GAN Asphalt and Concrete, because they're one contractor, all things parking lot. They're going to take care of your needs. If you're a small business owner, you've been ignoring your own. I always take those things that look worse and worse and worse over time. You know what it's like to drive over, you're afraid to drive through a parking lot because of 97 potholes. I told you I dealt with that over this weekend at my daughter's dance contest. Don't let your business look that way, and instead call GAN to take care of those needs. From start to finish, they can handle any part of your project. Do you just need a simple repair or repairs to your parking lot? That's fine. They can take care of those things for you. Maybe it is just new siding, or you need new striping to paint out your parking lot to make it look a little more freshened up, or just some crack filling or seal coating, some of the things that are going to sustain the life of your parking lot. Over at GAN, they will take care of that and make sure that the maintenance decisions for your company are easy and simple by dealing with one simple company who's been serving the Kansas City area for 30 years. Go to GAN Asphalt right now. Take a look at some of the projects they're working on at this moment and how they can help your business as well. That's GANasphalt.com.
Hey everyone, this is Brett Boone. Would you know it? I've got a podcast going strong in our 4th year. Tune in as I sit down with my friends, some of the biggest names in sports, media, entertainment, for a lot of fun and in-depth conversations. As you know, baseball's been my life. It's been in the family for a long time, but it's a lot more than that here. It's sort of like taking a ride in a golf cart around a beautiful track. Join me every week for multiple episodes on the Brett Boone Podcast, available on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast.
Don't sweat a swing and miss thanks to insurance tokens from BetMGM. Add an MLB wager to your bet slip and activate your bet insurance token. If your bet with the token applied doesn't hit, you'll get your stake back in bonus bets up to a specified maximum amount. That's another chance to step up to the plate and bet on the action out there on the diamond. Go to your BetMGM account today to claim your bet insurance token and get your stake back in bonus bets if your MLB wager using the token doesn't win. Only at BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks and official sports betting partner of MLB. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to gamble responsibly. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 years of age or older. This U.S. promotional offer is not available in D.C., Mississippi, New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. For New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. For Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. For Massachusetts, call 1-800-327-5050. For Iowa, call 1-800-BETS-OFF. For Puerto Rico, call 1-800-981-0023. For West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel.
I like to be active, and as you get older, I know it because I am older. You're more prone to injury, and I could not get rid of the pain.
QC Kinetics patient Diane Richardson talking about how a hiking injury left her in awful pain.
No one wants to live in pain. I certainly don't want to live in pain. I don't have time for pain.
Diane had heard about regenerative medicine, so she called QC Kinetics and started treatment right away. And the results were incredible.
I couldn't believe it. I honestly was skeptical, but the pain went from a 10 to a 0.
QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in using natural biologics, healing properties from your own body to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. There's no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime.
The result was phenomenal. I mean, I was not feeling any pain. I'm able to do everything that I want to do.
If you have pain from arthritis or injury, this may be the solution you're looking for. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation.
It was a game changer.
Call QC Kinetics, 816-412-6299. That's 816-412-6299. 816-412-6299.
Are you ready to start feeling your absolute best?
I've got the perfect solution. Stretch Zone, your destination for practitioner-assisted stretching. Whether you're an athlete looking to enhance performance or someone seeking relief from the daily grind, Stretch Zone's personalized stretching sessions cater to all levels and lifestyles. Unleash your potential. Let Stretch Zone guide you to a healthier, more flexible you. 6 area locations. Book your session today at StretchZone.com. Stretch Zone. Stretch, work, play, repeat.
We're talking with Dr. Chris Hettinger, board-certified urologist at Kansas City Urology Care. Tell us what sets KCUC apart from other urology practices.
The things that make us stand out are the technology at our disposal, the quality of the surgeons, and the experience from years and years of robotic surgery.
KCUC was the first to bring robotic surgery to Kansas City, right?
We performed the first robotic surgery in Kansas City in 2003 and continue to perform hundreds of urologic robotic surgeries in the Kansas City metro area every year. Robotic surgery offers less blood loss, shorter hospitalization, less pain, shorter recovery period. After robotic surgery, many of my patients get back to work within a week or two. For abdominal surgery, it's revolutionized what we've done.
From problems urinating to sexual function to prostate cancer, see the experts. Kansas City Urology Care. At KCUC, you see the best in KC. To make an appointment, visit appointments.kcurology.com.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 95% cheaper? And you can get it online at hims.com/joy. Through Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation to determine the ED medication that's best for you. Discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and a range of treatment options, including trusted generic alternatives to the name brands, at up to 95% off. ED is personal, and at Hims, so is treating it. Just go to hims.com/joy and get connected to a licensed medical provider online for free with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy for your free online visit. hims.com/joy.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-583-5795. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. There is zero risk to you. If we can't reduce your tax debt, then you pay nothing. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have a 5-star rating on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-583-5795. That's 800-583-5795. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
You're listening to 610 Sports Radio from the Mission Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling Studios. Want to win $610 plus Chiefs autographed merchandise? Come test your knowledge and hang out with 610 Sports Radio as we broadcast live from the Landing at Liberty on Thursday, April 25th during the first round of the NFL Draft. 610 Sports Radio, KCSP Kansas City, WDAF HD2 Liberty, always live on the free Odyssey app. What's trending?
All right, let's check in on the hot topics trending.
Number one on what's trending, the Royals snapped a 3-game skid with their win last night over the Toronto Blue Jays. We'll talk more about what was impressive about that 3-2 win in particular after what's trending. But tonight, the Royals back at it again as they continue the 4-game series against Toronto. Alec Marsh on the bump, 6:40 first pitch right here on 610 Sports Radio. Vern's on deck, show at 5:30, and Vern's going to join us coming up in about 25 minutes or so. We'll get his perspective, and sounds like the sock change was the key, you know? High socks.
We didn't change much. Our socks went up. I was always a high socks wearer for baseball. Big fan.
It's a good look.
Way better than like the pajama pants CC Sabathia look. Let's just be honest. Next up on What's Trending, Amon-Ra St. Brown get a new deal. 4 years, $120 million to stay with the Detroit Lions. $77 million of which will be guaranteed, setting a new standard, obviously, for wide receivers. That's right on pace with some of the other guys when they're getting paid. Tyreek Hill was getting around that figure, $30 million a year. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and other. CeeDee Lamb still up. The Bengals did make a small move on Jamar Chase. They exercised his 5th-year option today.
Oh, wow.
That way they have the exclusive rights to work on a contract extension. By the way, that's the most no-brainer 5th-year option ever.
Next up on What's Trending, something that should have happened a long time ago. And I was happy when I was driving in today, and I heard Bob and Josh mention it as well. And that is that Reggie Bush is getting his 2005 Heisman Trophy back.
Oh, okay.
It's about time. We all know the reinstatement basically has to do with, quote, enormous changes in the college football landscape, according to the Heisman Trust. Remember, he forfeited his trophy in 2010, NCAA sanctions, which included Bush receiving improper benefits, like, what was it, like an Escalade or whatever, I think, and maybe
that's what it was.
A home
and
or something like that, which obviously at the time was an NCAA violation. But the reason why he was a Heisman Trophy winner was because of his on-field accomplishments.
Not because he was driving an Escalade to
Not
practice?
because he was driving an Escalade. You want to punish the university for it? Sure. But I'm glad that cooler heads have prevailed in this whole thing, and Reggie Bush took the high road in his statement as well, saying, quote, personally, I'm thrilled to reunite with my fellow Heisman winners, be part of the storied legacy of the Heisman Trophy, honored to return to the Heisman family. I also look forward to working together with the Heisman Trust to advance the values and mission of the organization. So he took the high road. I actually give Johnny Manziel some credit for making this happen. He was on a podcast and in some comments recently, basically mentioning how absurd it is, like we all have said.
Sure.
But this is one of the things like, about time. Good for Reggie Bush, get that Heisman Trophy.
We'll get into a little more detail here coming up in just a minute. But yeah, it's not surprising that eventually they finally made the right call. Next up on What's Trending, the Steelers will not pick up the 5th-year option on Justin Fields, according to reports. This is probably not surprising based on the reporting earlier this week that the Steelers are smitten with their boy Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Justin Fields became an afterthought for them. He was available for cheap, so they took a shot. But they're already kind of, I think, envisioning what their life and their house and, the 2 kids and a dog is going to look like with Russell Wilson, not with Justin Fields. Look, they'll have him in and they'll see what they got out of him, but I'm not surprised to find out they're not going to pick up a 5th-year option to be very pricey for Fields.
NBA postseason continues. Last night saw a couple results. The Timberwolves go up 2-0 on the Suns. The series between the Pacers and Bucks now level at 1 apiece. Finally had a road team win a game. That was the Pacers 125-108 win over Milwaukee. The Mavericks get a 96-93 win over the Clippers. That series evened up at a game apiece. Tonight, 2 games going on. You got the Heat and Celtics, where Boston leads that 1-0, and the Oklahoma City Thunder already up 1-0 on the Pelicans. That's the late game tonight, around 9:30 or so. NBA postseason. And last night, it was kind of cool. I tuned in Pacers-Bucks. It wasn't a great game, but Gus Johnson was doing some NBA games. It's been a while. That was cool.
Yeah, it has been.
Give me more of the I'll call them cross-platform voices, if we will.
He's a college basketball guy. Why can't he call an NBA game? He just does it with a little gusto. Pun not intended, but it works out that way. Next, lastly on What's Trending, don't forget, tomorrow night we will be at the Landing in Liberty for our draft party, where you have a chance to win $610 and some autographed Chiefs memorabilia if you can just predict who will get taken in the first round. Very simple. Go to 610sports.com. You can print up a form and fill it out now, or you can go to the Landing before the draft tomorrow and hand it in person. All you have to do is predict who is going in the first round. So list off 32 players who will be drafted in the first round. Guess which team they'll go to. You'll get points for each player you guess correctly and points for aligning those with the correct teams. Person with the most points at the end will win the $610 and some autographed Chiefs memorabilia.
I think I'm going to fill my sheet out tonight. We can't win the prize, but I think tonight's the night where I'll sit down and actually fill this thing out.
5 minutes before tomorrow.
There you go.
What did you say you were going to do? You were going to look at a mock draft from Daniel Jeremiah and just copy it?
Yeah, bingo. That's
the only tricky part is
my official mock.
With you aren't selecting, hey, who's going 6th. You're selecting what team they're going to. So it's a little bit different than the actual mock draft. Like if the Chiefs end up trading out of the first round, like you might have been, you have to decide in your back of your mind if you are still factoring in trades though, right? If the team's not picking. Because if you think the Chiefs are trading out of the first round, you're not going to select the player and mark the Chiefs. There might be a team you actually have taking 3 guys in the first round or 2 guys in the first round, because if you think the Chiefs are trading out, you'd lose a point if you actually have the Chiefs next to a player name and they end up trading out. So there's a couple different strategies for the draft and for our contest. Looking forward to seeing everybody as well. Someone says, I know this show doesn't do much hockey. You guys should mention a save last night. Top 5 save of all time from Brodowski.
It was pretty great.
Stanley Cup playoffs are underway as well. That's true.
we had an NHL team here. I mean, I know we mentioned the NBA, but I mean, there's a popularity discrepancy between the two. But it was an incredible save. If you didn't see it, I still don't understand how he did it. Now that's the tough one. You know, if you don't watch enough hockey, you watch something and they'll be like, "This is incredible." I'm like, was it? That is not one of those ones that you have to wonder on. I'll just tell you. If you watch it, you'd be like, "Yeah, that's incredible." That's one of the most impressive saves of all time.
Yeah, that was in the Florida Panthers Tampa Bay Lightning game, and Florida's been one of the best teams all year. And the Carolina Hurricanes as well have been two of the better teams as well. Keeping an eye on that. I'm not actually sure what the odds were to win the series or anything like that, but yeah, I don't claim to be a hockey guy. I asked our boss, Spec, for advice. He told me to bet on Edmonton, so I have. I've been betting on Edmonton.
Is it working?
They won game 1.
Okay. You've been winning.
So that works.
They have maybe the best player in hockey.
I saw them. I saw them play the Golden Knights in person. We were there for the Super Bowl week, and so I'll just stick with that.
You're an expert then.
I'm clearly an expert on Edmonton now. Yes, that's simple. I saw them. The one hockey game I've been to, one NHL game I've been to in person was Edmonton and the Golden Knights. So I'm, clearly an expert on both. Yeah, and Vegas upset in game 1 Dallas. So,
that's your squad.
The
so
Golden
when it
Knights
comes to Kansas City. Are you willing to abandon your Golden Knights?
Of course.
Fandom?
Yeah, in 2 seconds.
Yeah. Immediately. What do I care?
Yeah, if Kansas City got a hockey team, an NHL team, yeah. Of course.
I'm just asking. I didn't know if you were willing to.
Drew, would you abandon your favorite NBA team if Kansas City got one?
Does he? I mean, he only kind of likes the Pacers.
Every day. What are you wearing a college? Okay, because I think so far this week you've worn an Alabama shirt, a North Dakota State shirt, or a North Dakota shirt, excuse me. And I think we know the Missouri shirt last week. Wisconsin.
I have a K-State shirt on underneath this hoodie right now.
Oh, there you go.
So
he's back on K-State.
The one school he's never worn gear for
KU.
is KU. I find that to be interesting.
I don't have anything KU
He's
related.
chosen to go anti-KU, which some people listening right now love that. I get it.
They get enough KU with you.
I used to have a KU Raglan t-shirt when I was younger, but I don't have that anymore, obviously.
All right. Coming up in 20 minutes, we'll talk some baseball with Verm, but we're going to talk some baseball ourselves a little bit because last night was important for obvious reasons. One, you stopped the 3-game skid, but we mentioned like in the past, you're worried about that thing becoming 4, 5, 6, 7.
And it was 4 to 5 already.
Mm-hmm. And so you needed to stop that. And it's not even like you got just a dominant starting pitching outing. You got an okay outing, but you didn't get 5 innings out of your starting pitcher yesterday. You didn't get, 8 runs. It wasn't like the offense just backed them up. You got 3 runs. Your starting pitcher didn't even give you 5, and you found a way to win against a good team in Toronto. And how do you do that? I thought it was defense more than anything else, man. I thought the defense was sensational.
Stretch. They held a run because of a diving play. They're just a really good defensive team. Maybe the best in baseball. I mean, I think you can make the argument. Some of the metrics would suggest that is the case. I just like wins that you're not supposed to get. And especially when you're in the middle of a slump. Over on Twitch earlier today, I think it was T-Nolte, had pointed out a tweet from Randy Giserli, was talking about how rare that win in particular was. Starting pitcher didn't go 5 innings. Starting pitcher allowed 12 base runners. Like Walker was doing battle out there, right? He was in and out of the strike zone. He was walking guys. He had runners the whole night. The Royals only scored 3 runs, and they won. The last time a team did that, where all 4 of those things took place, 1949. So, I mean, it's just not that common to win a baseball game in that fashion. Defense is why they won it. I just don't care. That was one of those games that I didn't care how you got the one. I don't care that your offense was quiet for 5 innings. The only reason you got those runs was because Vladimir Guerrero made a mistake. They screwed up. Correa threw the legs, right? Oh, no. And you took advantage. Good teams will find ways to win even when they weren't the better team that night. The better starting pitcher was on the other side. The better offense was on the other side. The more consistent team in the first 2 games of that series have easily been the Blue Jays. It's 1-1. You won that game just on I don't care, grit if you wanted to. But you won it, and it was important to keep those losing streaks from getting out of hand, especially early, man. Just especially a 4-game losing streak in July does not feel the same as a 4-game losing streak in April when this team has been consistently this flawed this early on in the year.
You're trying to make sure that you actually complete the month of April the way everybody started to get excited.
A little bang.
You don't want to finish it on a sour note and ruin the type of start you got off to. make sure you still have a winning month of April, which is what you are in line to still be able to do, especially after you stop the 3-game skid that you were on. But if you're going to get that kind of defense, and I think you probably laid it out correctly, just that in the past, the Royals would be the team that maybe opened the door, made the mistake, and other good teams would pounce.
Pile on.
But it's nice to see. We've seen a couple examples of why this team is different. It's not that you're saying they're going to go to the postseason, but why are they different? Why is this team much, much improved? There's been so many signs. I thought last night was another sign of why this team is just different. If you continue to need more and more reassurance, basically, as a Royals fan, why you should buy in, I thought last night was just add that to the long list. There's probably been 5, 6, 7 different instances already in this first 24 games or whatever of the season of why you should buy in. I think last night was another.
It was my favorite win of the entire year. And I get it. There's been some ones where they really scored a lot of runs, man, and piled on and all those things. And they almost got to come from behind one on Saturday and tried to make a fight. But that's just not a game last night I think they're supposed to win. I'll be honest. Most of the time, they're not supposed to win it. Walker was in massive trouble, and you were relying on more than 5 innings of shutout baseball from your bullpen. And you still had to scrap across some runs, fought for every single one. Your closer had to go 2 innings.
Yeah, how about MacArthur?
Hold on
six
for
outs.
He's been great.
That, to me, is another example, though, of when we've talked about Matt Quatrero and the job he has done. And, always a debate, like how much does a manager play a role in the actual wins and loss on a daily basis, right? And there are some instances where obviously it matters more than others, and it's magnified if you're in the postseason and all that. But they clearly had the plan going into last night's game, right? That MacArthur was gonna get the 8th and 9th inning. Like, that was pretty evident, and the plan works. So that always makes the manager look better when it actually works. But still, I love the way they're utilizing the bullpen right now. I know there's some worries with Will Smith and everything, but I love the way that Matt Quatrero is going about utilizing the bullpen and specific guys, and willing to have at times even a quick hook if need be. Remember, it wasn't long ago he had a quick hook on MacArthur, and then he just gets 6 outs last night. So I like what they got going on in terms of how they're utilizing the bullpen, and last night was a good example of that, and tonight they're back at it. Alec Marsh, your 5th starter, has been really good this year for a 5th starter. We'll see if they can't get a quality outing. It'd be nice after starting pitching has averaged out a little bit the last 5 or 6 games. See what Alec Marsh can bring to the table, and maybe the bats can get going a little bit more as well.
I did look it up because Salvador Perez's are also nuts. But I went ahead and ran the numbers last night. It's always fun, like, all right, we're almost 25 games into the season. What? We get to do the quarter poll conversations at 40 games?
Yeah, we're not even at quarter.
So we're not even quite there. Yeah. Bobby Witt Jr.'s current pace. First, he's hitting .316 with a .362 average, .582 slugging, and .944 OPS. I want to remind people he plays shortstop. Look up other shortstops at his age and how hard it is to put up these numbers. People earlier were telling me they were disappointed. His current pace is 27 home runs and 34 stolen bases, which would be below his 30-30 season last year. But he's also on pace for 54 doubles, 20 triples, which has only happened 4 times in Major League Baseball history, and 40 walks to go with it, which is a little low, at least on that end. He is a ridiculous freak of a talent. Like, if you were worried, and look, I don't think with baseball players it didn't happen that often, like, oh, what's it going to happen once he gets paid? It's fine. He's fine. They've just got, the difference between this one, and I go back to like 2021 or other teams that I've bought into. Dude, I was all in on the 2003 Royals. Go back and legitimately look at that roster and tell me how many ended up being decent Major League players. David Jesus, right? Like, there's a few who ended up being decent Major League players. Good 10, 12-year pros. They have real star power. Salvador Perez could be a Hall of Famer one day. Bobby Witt Jr. could be a Hall of Famer one day. Vinny Pasquantino is one of the 20, I think he's one of the 20 or 30 best hitters in the sport from a consistency standpoint. They have rare power in MJ Melendez. Again, this is where my confidence stems from is there is a lot more talent on this team than other teams I have tried to buy myself into. It still has to come together. They still have to put it all together. But there's a lot more talent on this team.
Yeah, and in the division, they're going to get a chance this weekend, and they got a couple more here against Toronto. But this weekend against Detroit, who they're tied with in second place, it's so early, but it could end up being a big series against Detroit this weekend. And if we fast forward in September, you might look back at this upcoming weekend series against Detroit and say, "Man, I wish you could have got 2 of 3, whatever." You know, it sounds silly.
2 out of 3 right now. If
it sounds silly, but it is actually a pretty good important series coming up this weekend against the Tigers. We'll talk more about that with Vern, our Royals insider, here in about 10 minutes or so, get his perspective on not only last night's game, but bigger picture and what the rest of the year could look like for somebody like Bobby Wood Jr., as you mentioned earlier, is now second best odds to be the MVP in the American League. A lot of long ways to go, but he's behind Juan Soto right now. Matt Quatrero is the favorite to be the AL manager of the year, just in front of the manager of the Detroit Tigers, A.J. Hinch, who is doing a nice job as well. And these are the type of, when you go from a 56-win team to now a team that looks like they're not only going to be better, but maybe they could have one of the bigger turnarounds in baseball in a while and do what the Orioles did 2 years ago, I guess it was. You're going to be up for some awards as a manager, and usually it takes a special season from a couple players, and Bobby Wood Jr. is pacing like it could be a very, very special season.
Someone says from the 816, hey, the Royals play tomorrow at 1:10. Can Vinny make it out to the landing?
No, they got a road trip.
Yeah, they got to fly out
They got to head to Detroit for the draft,
Yeah, Vinny has actually been making an argument. He was doing, I think, High Heat show over on MLB Network. He has requested, if they're interested, he'd like to make a pick for the Jets. He'll be in Detroit for the draft. They have day games both of those days, so he'll be available at night to be around the draft. He's just saying, like, hey, if you don't mind, I'd be more than willing to make a pick for the Jets. Let him, Jets. Let Vinny make a pick. He's one of your biggest fans. He stood behind you last year.
I think they sent him a jersey.
To the tune of crown seats. Yeah. Even when Zach Wilson was going to make a start against the Chiefs. That's how much he believes in his squad.
Yeah, I think we need to, by the way, select that date.
Yeah, you're probably right. Got to hit up our guy Vinny and figure out which
date
day.
for that. Maybe it's the 2014 team reunion weekend where they've got
like
the Herrera bobblehead on a Friday night, Wade Davis bobblehead on the Saturday, and then I think the Holland bobblehead on the Sunday.
Trying to get people out for all three games. I can't.
Smart.
That is smart.
I saw, not to get too off topic, about that spreading out. On MLB at Bat, you can watch all the different games. And so you watch all these other broadcasts, and then with that, they're promoting their own promotions. I can't remember what city was doing it, and I don't know if the Royals would ever do it, but, normally we hear like, hey, it's, this Tuesday night or whatever, it's first 20,000 or first 10,000 get blank, a T-shirt or whatever. Yeah. And so what a couple teams have started doing, I don't know if it's working, they'll find out, they can look it up, but they're spreading it out. So let's say you're giving out 20,000 bobbleheads. Instead of doing it all on one night, they're doing, all right, first, 8,000 or 5,000 on Tuesday gets the bobblehead, and then another 5,000 on Wednesday. Now, some people might hate that, but from a team perspective, trying to get more people in, they're spreading out. Like, so one of the most popular bobbleheads, whatever one you think that is going to be this year, maybe it is the Wade Davis bobblehead on Saturday.
Maybe it's the Vinny Pasquantino Pasquatch one later in the year.
Instead of doing it all on one night, they're saying, all right, we're going to spread that out across 3 days, and it's we'll still have 20 or 30,000 bobbleheads, but we're doing it over 3 nights. So more people have a chance to get it. Your hope is that more people go across multiple nights.
And you might get the person who wants to sell them on eBay to come to multiple games.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if it works, but I just thought that was interesting.
Again, I own 2 bobbleheads currently. One is the Bobby Wood. Oh, no, 3 now. Someone gave me a Bobby Wood Jr. one from AA Arkansas. I have the Bobby Wood Jr. one from opening day, and I have Rusty Coons.
Yeah, we might have a couple in or at least 1 or 2 in the
garage sale,
which is, we're going to do that again. It's coming up in June. We'll have more details as we get much closer. But yeah, we will do another Cody and Gold garage sale coming up. And we'll make Drew donate a few things too. We'll find out
I will. I'm sure I'll have. I've got some stuff
college
already.
gear. It turns out. Before we take a break and get to Josh Vernier, I did want to say a little something on the Reggie Bush. I briefly thought, man, it'd be funny to be the only person in all of sports to be like, screw Reggie Bush. He broke the rules. Never should get that Heisman back. But let's be realistic here. Him getting improper benefits had nothing to do with the fact that he was the most electric player in college football for years. Mm-hmm. He did unforeseen things on a football field at that time. I don't really care that he drove an Escalade. I don't know. The part that kills me still is, did they really need to have NIL come around and all that stuff to convince you he deserved his trophy back? You shouldn't have taken it from him in the first place. What was the point? On ethics? We stand on grounds now? Do we have to go through the personal lives of every Heisman Trophy winner of all time just to prove it? No, it just seems kind of silly. It's a football accomplishment. I think awards should be football accomplishments, and we should just leave the rest out of it.
I think
go ahead.
Sorry, Gold. You made a good point though about Johnny Manziel. Is that without Johnny Manziel, because I think Reggie Bush has said it, but I think he's kind of just given up on it. Where Johnny Manziel reiterated multiple times, He needs his trophy back, and it's not just Reggie saying it. The fact that it was another Heisman Trophy winner saying it, I think, helped.
And talk about if
move
you
the
went
needle,
into
if
their
you will.
personal life and be like, he had a trouble and like there was plenty of things going on in Johnny Manziel's life. It doesn't matter what was going on in his life. Was he a great football player when he played on the field?
And if you're an 18-year-old kid, are you going to take an Escalade? Are you going to take a car? Yes.
Someone says Billy Preston out of Shanghai and bring him back to KU.
Yeah.
Does Billy Preston have any eligibility left?
I'm not sure his situation anymore. Look, I'm glad that, and it's long overdue that Reggie Bush got his Heisman. I do think the NIL landscape made it easier for those in the Heisman Trust to get over whatever feelings they had about the whole situation. It's the right move, and as you said, it was an on-field accomplishment situation. Glad it happened, and it's, by the way, it's smart for the you should want somebody like Reggie Bush, who is as electric of a player as he was, also went on to have a pretty damn good NFL career too. Someone that had that kind of success, that notoriety, was on television for many years as well. Like, you want that person attached to your organization, to your group. You don't want that person to have negative feelings and have other people have negative feelings towards your group because of how you treated that person. Like, I just think it's a no-brainer. It's a smart thing. Glad that Reggie Bush is getting his Heisman Trophy back. Coming up next, we get back to the Royals. Josh Vernier, our Royals insider, you'll hear his On Deck show tonight at 5:30. We'll ask him about last night's win and what is his biggest concern maybe still moving forward the rest of the month.
Hey, it's Brady Singer. You're listening to Cody and Gold, weekdays starting at 10 on 610 Sports Radio and the Odyssey app.
Brought to you by Heartland Men's Health, the leader in men's sexual health. Thousands of men have been successfully treated for low T, ED, and more, all with discretion and compassion. Make your appointment at heartlandmenshealth.com.
Spring is here, and it's time to spring into action to get into shape and feel great. Hey, it's Bob Fesco. I know there are so many options when it comes to home workouts. It can be overwhelming to pick out home fitness equipment. But not anymore. It's time to discover Johnson Fitness and Wellness stores. Their expert staff will help you choose the best home fitness equipment for you, for your unique goals, space, and budget. Johnson Fitness and Wellness has a wide selection of top-rated treadmills, ellipticals, strength equipment, rowers, and exercise bikes. Also, find the latest selection of massage chairs in Kansas City. Right now, get a free kit and massager with purchase of any massage chair or Matrix fitness equipment by mentioning 610 Sports Radio. Soon, you'll be seeing home run fitness results to get in shape and feel great. Johnson Fitness and Wellness is in Overland Park and Lee Summit. Visit johnsonfitness.com. That's johnsonfitness.com. It's Johnson Fitness and Wellness.
You're always better with a roof from JR.
We've all seen them. As soon as the big storm comes through, the storm-chasing roofers show up. Don't be a victim twice. Call locally owned, veteran-owned JR & Company. No one protects your home and you like JR.
JR's there for you. You're always better with a roof from JR.
In fact, JR & Company can let you know if you even need to be worried about storm damage. Online, visit jrhailcheck.com. Plug in your address and we'll pull a storm report. If there's nothing on the report, we'll give you hassle-free peace of mind. And if it looks like you got hit, we can come out and do a free inspection and help with any insurance claim. We'll never try to sell you a roof you don't need. But if you do need a new roof,
you're always better with a roof from JR.
Go to jrhailcheck.com.
For the first time in years, I weighed in under 200 pounds, and I have the folks at Supplement Superstores to thank. Try what I use, the Flashpoint Complex, and save 20% when you tell them I sent you. 8 Kansas City locations. Supplement Superstores, when you're ready to feel your best.
Hey, it's Rex here with RexBuysKC.com, your local KC home buyer. If you own a property in the Kansas City or surrounding area and want to sell it fast and at a fair price, write this number down, 816-330-6000. I'm a private real estate investor, not some hedge fund or large national chain. My family and I live right here in KC. I can pay cash and close on your timeline, even in as little as 3 days. Here at RexBuysKC.com, we're improving Kansas City one house at a time. I buy inherited houses, vacant houses, foreclosure houses, behind in payment houses, my tenant won't pay the rent houses, and properties that need complete rehabs. Do you own a house that's trashed and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great. If you own a house and want to sell it fast, call me at this number, 816-330-6000. That's 816-330-6000, or go to rexbuyskc.com. That's rexbuyskc.com. And I look forward to working with you.
Angie's List is now Angie, and we've heard a lot of theories about why.
I thought it was an eco move. Fewer words, less paper.
No, it was so you could say it faster.
No, it's to be more iconic.
Must be a tech thing.
But those aren't quite right. It's because now you can compare upfront prices, book a service instantly, and even get your project handled from start to finish.
Sounds easy.
It is, and it makes us so much more than just a list. Get started at Angie.com. That's ANGI, or download the app today.
Some people just know the more you protect, the more you save with Allstate. Because they know insurance math. Like if you protect your home and auto, Allstate can save you up to 25%. So it's like losing money if you don't bundle. Save more when you protect more. Bundle home and auto with Allstate today.
Bundled savings vary by state and are not available in every state. Saving up to 25% is the countrywide average of the maximum available savings off the home policy. Allstate Vehicle and Property Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6812. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. There is zero risk to you. If we can't reduce your tax debt, then you pay nothing. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have a 5-star rating on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6812. That's 800-575-6812. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for up to half the cost. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single line 1, 5, and 10 gig data plans with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plans offered by T-Mobile and Verizon January 2024.
Why'd the kid jump off the boat?
I don't know. Why?
Peer pressure.
Oh. Good one, Ned.
Ned isn't funny, but Ned owns a boat, and you don't. So every time Ned tells another one of his unfunny boat puns, you're going to laugh loud and keep on laughing until you get a boat of your own.
A pier where you put a boat.
Yeah, I get it.
And when you do get a boat of your own, make sure you save money by bundling it with your home, auto, or other vehicles with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Family Talk with Straight Talk.
You give and you give. It's time to get with Straight Talk Wireless. You get a reliable 5G network and unlimited data, and you get to choose who joins your family plan starting as low as $25 a line. Does it have to be family? It can be family or people you like.
Get more lines and more savings. Switch to Straight Talk for family plan starting as low as $25 a line per month for 4 lines. Find us at Walmart and straighttalk.com. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com. Family plan discount with 4 lines, all on the Silver Unlimited plan. Taxes and fees apply.
Back here on Cody and Gold, we'll get to the random question of the day here in about 15 minutes or so. We'll also get to some of the wide receiver news of the day. Again, Amon-Ra St. Brown landing a massive 4-year, $120 million extension with the Detroit Lions, making him the highest paid wide receiver in football. Also in the last, 60 seconds or so, Ravens signing wide receiver Rashad Bateman to a contract extension that keeps him there through the 2026 season. That one is only interesting because there was some speculation in the last 24 hours that maybe the Ravens would trade him on draft night. Obviously, that's not happening. They just extended him through the 2026 season. So we'll get back to the draft in just a little bit. But let's talk some Royals baseball with our Royals insider, Josh Vernier. Of course, tonight, his On Deck show at 5:30 gets you set for the Royals and Blue Jays, Game 3 of this 4-game series. Are you going high socks now, too? It seems like it's the thing to do out at the K.
When I'm at home, I'm always high socks because I've now reached that age of New Balance and high socks. But no.
Those are popular.
No. When I was younger, I was old school stirrups. Yeah, I love all of that. So I was all about it, but I also loved Matt Quatrero's response to Bob and Josh's line of questioning this morning about the superstition. And, I just find Q so very interesting. I think he's a unique figure. For as much as everybody in the sports, and I mean everybody in the sport preaches taking it a pitch by pitch and a day by day and game by game. A lot of people say it. It's very hard to live it. And Q is the personification of one day at a time, one game at a time, one pitch at a time. That's why when they bring up the high socks to him earlier this morning, he says, yeah, that's cute and all, but if we think our underwear or socks are the reason why we're winning and losing, we got issues.
Right. Well, so to that point, though, about living in like the present a little bit, even last night in the bullpen decision, like, do you agree that in the past maybe, and this isn't just with past Royals managers, but maybe just in all of baseball, where sometimes you're so worried about, we can't overuse this guy in our bullpen because we're worried about what's going to happen on Friday in this upcoming series versus they used MacArthur for 6 outs last night. Like, go win the game tonight.
Without question. Now, we hadn't seen MacArthur in almost a week, so the dude was fully rested. The coaching staff had been prepared, even in the Baltimore series, to use MacArthur for multiple innings. But to your point, doesn't this fall in line with everything this organization has done since December? The aggressive week in free agency, the aggression in spring training as far as Reagans, you're our guy. Marsh, you get the ball over Jordan Lyles in the rotation. The aggressiveness as far as the trade acquisitions dating back to last season, being one of the first teams to make a move in acquiring Cole Reagans. The aggression with Bobby Witt Jr., making sure you get that done. The coaching staff has done it as well. Look at how they've utilized that bench. They're pretty consistent. When it comes to that bottom third of the lineup, we're going to mix and match late in the game. So this just continues to fall in line with what has become a very proactive instead of reactive, a very aggressive organization in a market where you must be aggressive, right? For years it was, all right, let's just be patient. We believe in our guys and just give us some time. That's not what we're seeing for about a calendar year now, and it's certainly embraced by me. Sounds like you guys as well, and hopefully the fan base too.
Vern, was that the biggest win of the season for them? I went back and I'm like, boy, they lose that game 99 times out of 100 over the last 7 or 8 years. It's not a game you're supposed to win, but like the door got opened a little in the 5th and they kicked it in. Like other teams haven't done that as much since like the contending teams of 10 years ago. I felt like that was the most satisfying win of the year for me.
Yeah, satisfying. I like that. I can get with that. The biggest to me, because they've only played 24 games, to me the biggest is still number 3. Brady Singer making sure that you don't lose 3 games in a row early on in the season. But yeah, last night was one of those games that's going to allow this team to maintain through May. Last night was one of those 50-50 games. What's exciting about this team and what should bring people to the ballpark is the knowledge that this starting rotation is going to give you a chance to win more often than not. So far this season, I think they've given you a chance to win in 23 of the first 24 games, but 80% of the time, 4 out of every 5 games, I think you're going to be in it in the 5th, 6th, and 7th innings. And of those 4 games that you're in it, you're probably going to run away with one of them, lose a heartbreaker in another, and then have 2 jump balls where someone's going to have to go take the victory. And that's exactly what happened last night. Yeah, Vladdy opened the door, but Isbell hustling down the line. Adam Frazier staying in a rundown to make sure Michael Massey gets in scoring position. Michael Garcia with the single up the middle, and then Bobby Witt Jr. putting the cape on and driving in 2. And then the bullpen. The bullpen took it. So last night was one of those jump balls, and the Royals dove on the floor. The Royals were the tougher team. The Royals are the ones that went out there and took it. And yet, to go back to the point about Matt Quatrero being where your feet are and pitch by pitch, you got to do it again tonight, and then tomorrow, and then you're going to face Tarek Skubal and a pretty good Detroit Tigers team, and then this Jays team again, and then a 500 team in the defending champion Rangers, and then a first-place team in the Milwaukee Brewers. So, look, it's still pretty choppy in the deep end. You're going to have to win a lot of games the way you did last night.
What about Salvador Perez? I always ask about him because I think his importance he's this version of James Shields, right? I think it was JJ who said with us on Tuesday, nobody enjoys winning baseball games more than Salvador Perez. How the hell is he still doing this at 34 years old at catcher, Vern? That's just rarefied air in its own right.
Right, but how long have we had a Hall of Fame discussion about Salvador Perez? This is why. To do what he's done at the catching position for the past decade is what has started the Hall of Fame conversation. And if it's going to continue, he needs to maintain this. Nobody's more aware of that than Salvador Perez. We've talked about it. Now, team goals are obviously number one. He's out there to win and bring Kansas City another championship. But when we were marveling at him last July, when it's 105 degrees, the team's a billion games below 500, and he's smiling, grinding, hustling, bringing the type of enthusiasm that a captain would, that's when I can't believe what he's doing out there. The year before, 97 losses, and he's concussed, and he can only see out of one eye, and his knee hurts, and yet he continues to show up, and he continues to produce, and he continues to have a good attitude. That, to me, that was amazing to watch. You guys, summer games, afternoon games in August at Kauffman Stadium, when he could easily knock on the door and say, Skip, give me a day today. He doesn't do that. He fights when his name isn't in the lineup. No, he's a marvel. He's one of the three greatest catchers of the last 20 years, right? It's him, it's Yachty, it's Buster Posey. Three guys that right now, I think Posey's going to end up there. Yachty's certainly going to end up there. And if Salvi can put together another 3-4 seasons of catching and run into another 40-some home runs to reach 300, and then if he can top it off with a run to the postseason, I don't think there's any doubt about it that he'll find himself in Cooperstown.
Vern, do you have a solution with umpires in baseball other than, hey, let's go ahead and get that robot strike zone up here pretty quick after what happened, happens every day, I guess, in baseball, and then seeing the other day Aaron Boone getting tossed from a game because the
was a great moment. That was great.
Didn't hear a fan. The video to go along with it was phenomenal, but just speaks to the power trip a lot of these umps are on, man.
Yeah. Well, that's ego. Yeah. What can you do about ego and the lack of self-awareness? It's everywhere in society. So you move on from that. But to me, the solution is to adopt the challenge system that you see in the minor leagues. To me, that is beautiful. It's a lot like what you see in tennis, where the way it works is each team has 3 challenges. If the pitcher immediately disagrees with the call, he taps his hat, and they go to the big board, and just like they do in tennis, they immediately show the pitch, the strike, and whether or not it's in or out of the zone, and that's the decision. If a hitter doesn't like a call, he can tap his helmet, and same thing happens. You get 3 a game, so you have to be cautious in your eagerness to use them. I think that's the solution, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it implemented certainly within the next 5 years.
Last one for me, Vern, on the starting rotation, going back to them. What are your thoughts on the rotation now that they're not pitching against the White Sox? I think there's an argument to be made that, look, we got a little carried away, not just because they were having success early on, but the White Sox are getting shut out of 50% of their games. There was obviously a little bit of juice out of the starting rotation based off that.
Yeah, but Cole Reagans has stood his own against Pablo Lopez, twice against Corbin Burns,
For sure.
And we'll see what he does coming up tomorrow against Jose Barrios, but he's held it down in that role. If Brady Singer's your 4, this was a guy that some were wondering, can he be an ace just a year and a half ago? So I still like the makeup of this rotation. Again, and all I've really wanted from them is a chance to win more times than not. Give me the type of stability that we haven't seen, and this is something that I thought they were going to bring, the type of stability that we haven't seen since 2016. And, if they can remain top half of the league, I think they're going to, deliver the type of innings and give these young hitters the chance to experience, June and July. A June and July in Kansas City like we haven't had since 2016 and 2017, and that's all we really wanted was Let them taste what it can be like to play meaningful games in the summer and hopefully into the fall. And if you're doing that with the additional playoff spots now, who knows what can happen. If they can stay healthy, there's no reason for me to believe that this rotation won't give that, especially with the defense and the team speed, that it won't give those young hitters a chance to thrive in a much bigger stage.
All right, Vern, we'll be listening tonight. I gotta craft together a little winner for
Let's go.
For a bet tonight on
You
the
need to
pregame
keep up
show.
because Cody and Drew are on a heater.
I know it.
Man, oh
I think
man.
they're
I can't lose a bet all
like
of a sudden.
3 for 3 or 4 for 4 out of the gate or something like that.
A combined 6 for 6,
Yeah.
and they're up like 8 or 9 units. It's terrific.
Yeah, I got to come up with something tonight. No pressure. All right, Vern, appreciate it. We'll be listening to his On Deck show tonight, and then Royals baseball, 6:40 first pitch right here on 610 Sports Radio. Yeah,
I don't know
have to
what
come up
Drew
with
and I
something.
can't miss.
Yeah, hot right now.
You shouldn't have just said that because
Yeah.
now
Yeah,
because tomorrow
that also is true.
Back to the jinx.
Because tomorrow I'm gonna give mine, and the pressure's gonna be on me because I'll be the most recent one.
I think I got to go back to square one. No parlay tonight. Just go back to something fairly
the
standard.
last one I just took a bet. I just took the under 9.5.
Yeah, I got to
no mystery.
Get some momentum going here. It'd be fun to take an 11-1 parlay or something. Nope. Not when we're
You could get 11-1. You could just get Michael Garcia and a homer.
tonight. Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I'm not going to do that for my bet though. Not when we need to get going. No, we need to get the momentum going on Vern's On Deck show.
You're trying to give people some money.
That's right. So
The
that'll
good
be
news is
tonight.
for some reason you end up like spec and you're like 0 for 11. At least people can just bet the other side of you.
Yeah, just fade.
The worst thing you can be is like 3 and 3, minus 0.5 units. Then we're just kind of like not the worst thing.
Yeah.
Then we're just treading water. If you're just like wrong on every pick, we get to go the other way.
In fairness, it's only my third time on Vern's On Deck
I think
show
mine
this
are
year,
too.
so this will be the third bet handed out.
Are you 0 for 2?
Yes.
Dang.
Yes. I went with a 9-1 parlay last time. I don't even remember the first game of the year what the bet was, but the last one was a parlay, and I can't remember what one leg didn't hit. I don't remember what it was. Anyway, but that's tonight. Royals baseball. What we asked him about though with the strike zone stuff for the challenge system. We've brought up the minor league challenge system. I think that's great. I know someone said, they need like 50 challenges. They'll give each team 3. That's fair. Mistakes are going to happen, but let them have 3 challenges and the ability to right away make the change on the fly. I mean, it happens in
So
about
quick.
20 seconds in the minors.
It's nice. I don't know why we can't employ that. I also just think you could do it standardized across the board, but if you just want to implement a challenge system, fine. The only issue is only 3 per game really means you can't challenge a single strike until the 6th, unless it's like an RBI situation, right? It's got to be an RBI situation with multiple runners on to end an inning or something. Other than that, you really do kind of have to save them for a little bit later, which makes a challenge. While we were talking to Vern, the Chicago Bears are holding a press conference.
They are.
And very similar to the one that was held in Kansas City multiple times over the last year, where they're unveiling their plans for a brand new $2.6 billion stadium plan down by the lake. They want half of that from the public, $1.3 billion, according to some reports.
I thought that was the case too. I had to correct myself as well.
Oh, is it less?
It's more. So it's a 4.
more.
It's a 4, which makes more
Oh,
sense.
they want 2.6.
Correct.
Got
So
it.
it's a $4.6 billion project.
And they want 2.5 from.
There you go.
Billion from the city.
That's
$2.5
what.
billion
It's a
from the city.
lakefront, brand new lakefront stadium. They're trying to get the Super Bowl and all that there in Chicago. That's their problem. They have to worry about there. But it is interesting to see.
That's 5 times the amount the Royals were asking for.
Right. And now that's the football stadium. I mean, just be honest. If the Chiefs end up asking for a new stadium at some point, whether it's from Kansas or in Missouri, that stadium's going to be at least $3 billion. I can promise you, it's going to at least be a $3 billion project.
But are they going to ask $1.5 billion of
I don't
that
know.
from the people? From Kansas, they might. They try to go more, they might.
It'll still be public money, but in Kansas, they don't have to get a vote.
Look, the whole thing goes
They
down
don't
this
need a vote in Kansas.
because I think people say this like it's a gotcha moment, and it's not a gotcha moment. They're like, in 20 years, they're going to be asking more money from us to renovate the new downtown baseball stadium. And I'm like, yeah. Like, it's not a gotcha moment. Yeah, I understand that stadium costs are ongoing forever. I know what I'm getting myself into in that scenario. But yeah, $2.6 billion, asking $2.5 billion from the city is a lot.
That's in
It's a
Chicago. I
lot.
will point out, as I saw from
It's way
one of
bigger
our-
city, yeah.
from someone that obviously is familiar with Kansas City and used to host on this station, Danny Parkins was tweeting about this. And I guess at the beginning of the press conference, they held a prayer. and prayed for the stadium and for a Super Bowl and wins, and just how awkward. You thought?
Oh my God, are you kidding me?
We got to get the audio of this,
Drew,
Drew.
I have to have that. They held a prayer for wins?
Drew, I'm going to send you the link on Twitter to your DMs.
Oh my God.
If we
you have got to be kidding me.
If we can get the audio. I haven't heard the audio. I'm just referencing what I saw on a tweet. But it sure looks like there's a prayer going on before their stadium unveil.
Like, isn't it currently a high holiday for the Jewish faith this week?
Passover is going on.
Could you imagine if your Passover dinner tomorrow night or Friday, whenever you guys are having it, that if you guys held a prayer for Royals wins? Hey, can we all just take a second, hold hands?
It's not even that, Cody. It's the fact that the organization, while announcing a $4.6 billion project in Chicago, is having people
that is the
pray
weird part
before.
Of it.
Yeah,
that is the weird part of this.
It's not. It's just the setting and the timing. You're unveiling a Super Bowl, a stadium you hope will bring you a Super Bowl, and you're praying for more wins and for the Super Bowl at the team press conference.
Dear God. Do you think we could get a Super Bowl in Chicago? I've been a really good boy this year. Now I'm somehow mixing it up between Santa Claus and God, but you get the point. I don't understand how you hold a prayer at the beginning of this thing, praying for the Super Bowl to come to your city.
It's as simple as, Lord, we haven't won anything at Soldier Field. Please allow this new stadium to bring us
I got to hear the audio.
Some positive.
Before I completely bury it, because I want to completely bury it.
Please have the public
give us as soon as you get the audio, Drew,
money.
please let us know, because I got to hear it.
That's the thing that just kills it. It's right before they announced the stadium. Like,
yeah, we'll let you get the audio. I just DM'd you the link.
Okay,
and how about that? I'll get a random question of the day while Drew gets that audio.
Random question.
For you, Gold, we'll let Drew off the hook for now over the text line 913-586-7610. And, of course, over on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook. Earlier today, we were having a conversation about the Outer Banks TV show. I've decided to incorporate that into the random question today. So, in addition to talking to that and the National Treasure movie, the question I have for you today is, what is the best treasure hunting movie of all time, in your opinion? And I want you to think about this for a minute, because there's some you're just straight up not considering.
Okay.
Because the entire Indiana Jones franchise, of which I know you don't like, Gold, is on the list. Maybe you like the new Uncharted movie or The Goonies, which is a classic. Can I put up a sleeper pick on this before I hear some other people's answers? From 9 to 3. How about Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? That is technically them seeking buried treasure. I know it doesn't come off as a normal treasure hunting movie, but it's one of the better movies of all time, and they are treasure hunting in it. Does that count? The Goonies definitely counts. They're searching for, piles of gold. Or maybe you were a big Pirates of the Caribbean guy. Were you a Pirates guy?
So I did. How many? They've had like 5 or 6 of those movies now.
Sure.
The first 2, just literally the Pirates of the Caribbean, and then there was like the Black Pearl, right? Wasn't that the other one? Those I was all in. Yeah, I enjoyed those. But you're right. I don't like Indiana Jones, the National Treasure stuff. Just not my style.
So you're just not a treasure hunting guy?
Not usually.
Over on Twitch, someone's mentioning Without a Paddle. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I still think counts. Somebody mentioning that as well. Without a Paddle, I haven't seen that in a million years. Do you even remember that movie?
I don't know if I
think it's like got
Without a
Dak.
Paddle?
What's his
Well,
name?
I got to look at the
I think if you saw the cover art, it would stand out. It's got like Seth Green and a couple of other, maybe Matthew Lillard. I can't quite remember the cast.
I don't know if I've seen that actually. When did it come out?
Someone said Muppet Treasure Island, which is objectively a good movie.
Yeah.
So I can't even argue that. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. The Rundown says not the GOAT, but top 10. That's the one with The Rock from the early days of The Rock when he's out in the jungle. That's just a good, entertaining movie. Like treasure hunting movies are a lot like action movies. Very few of them that I'm like, wow, that was a truly great movie. Versus, I'm just looking for some easy entertainment. That's all.
Oh, okay, so what was the question while I was
What is the best treasure hunting movie? We were talking about National Treasure, and it got me on this instead.
I think it's
people mentioning Fool's Gold and Blue.
I love the National Treasure movies. It's not even a Nicolas Cage thing. It's just I like those movies a lot. So I think that's the easy pick.
I had not even thought about that.
Goonies is an all-time classic, so I get that's why that's an answer. Goonies
why
is
would that
a
be a
classic.
What about The Mummy? He's seeking treasure in that. Have you gone back and watched the Brendan Fraser Mummy?
No.
Entertaining stuff.
Really?
Yeah. Go back and watch it. Honestly, it's a pretty entertaining movie. Oh, again, not an Academy Award winner. I'm not going to send you
I got the answer.
Tearful for the answers, but it's solid, super entertaining.
Text line reminded me, and it might just be admittedly because at the time it was Angelina Jolie, but Tomb Raider.
I loved that game.
Angelina Jolie.
I never saw the movie.
Really?
I played that game like on PS1 or whatever during that entire time. Someone says, does Blood Diamond count? He's not really seeking treasure. He's just trying to run with it. Does that count?
I think it fits the criteria.
It's close.
It fits the criteria.
I mean, it's not out of the question. It's close. Multiple people mentioning the Da Vinci Code. Have you ever seen the movie Congo?
No.
I've decided that if I ever go on Carrington's podcast, he does the movie podcast where it's under
Does he
6
still
and a
do
half.
that?
I don't know. But if he
I think
still
they were
does it,
planning on bringing it back.
Congo's got an absolutely ludicrous premise. They're in the middle. Obviously, they're in the middle of the Congo, and they're searching for this like underground diamond mine. And then, upon looking for this treasure, they discover a race of like super blue gorillas that are like super intelligent and all like jacked up on steroids. Look, it is not a good movie, but listen to that premise and tell me that you're at least not interested in watching a scene from it. And then the crystals they find in the cave they're using in like laser weapons. I'm not making any of this up. That's how the movie Congo goes. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, see, now people are just texting in like more heist type stuff.
Yeah, heist is different, I think, than treasure hunting.
Yeah, it is. Someone's gone in 60 seconds. Oh, I love that movie, but that's not that's a heist, more of a heist movie than a treasure hunting.
Yeah, I think heist is different than like robbing a bank. That's not a treasure. They're not looking for treasure. They're just robbing something.
It's a heist movie.
That's a different conversation. I'm talking specifically treasure related.
Whenever there's a movie about Chiefsaholic, that will not be a treasure hunting movie. That'll be a heist movie or a comedy series. I still think there should be a comedy series made about it.
I really appreciate the people mentioning Congo. It's just such a ridiculous movie. I actually feel like we should watch that. Like we should watch that as a show because it's so ridiculous.
All right, up next we'll get to the 1 o'clock hour. We'll talk more about how the AFC West could draft. And Drew has the audio of the stadium announcement going on in Chicago.
Cody and Gold.
If the Royals win the World Series, I will get, and you can mark it if you want, but
everybody
this
knows
tattooed on my body.
Who gives? We're winning games.
Brought to you by Heartland Men's Health, the leader in men's sexual health. Thousands of men have been successfully treated for low T, ED, and more, all with discretion and compassion. Make your appointment at heartlandmenshealth.com.
Bud Light is the proud supporter of Kansas City first responders. For every Bud Light sold in Kansas City, now through the end of May, Anheuser-Busch and our local Kansas City distributors will donate $1 to Kansas City first responders through SAFE, Surviving Spouse and Family Endowment Fund. With Anheuser-Busch's goal of raising $30,000, they will help provide financial assistance to families of first responders who have fallen or who have gotten catastrophically injured in the line of duty in KC. Together, we are KC Strong. Please drink responsibly.
Don't sweat a swing and miss thanks to insurance tokens from BetMGM. Add an MLB wager to your bet slip and activate your bet insurance token. If your bet with the token applied doesn't hit, you'll get your stake back in bonus bets up to a specified maximum amount. That's another chance to step up to the plate and bet on the action out there on the diamond. Go to your BetMGM account today to claim your bet insurance token and get your stake back in bonus bets if your MLB wager using the token doesn't win. Only at BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks and official sports betting partner of MLB. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to gamble responsibly. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 years of age or older. This U.S. promotional offer is not available in D.C., Mississippi, New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Available in the U.S. For New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. For Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. For Massachusetts, call 1-800-327-5050. For Iowa, call 1-800-BETS-OFF. For Puerto Rico, call 1-800-981-0023. For West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel.
The future of medicine is here at QC Kinetics. QC is the nation's leader in the most exciting revolution in pain management we've seen in decades, regenerative medicine. If your joint pain is keeping you from doing what you love, you need to call QC Kinetics now. Surgery, steroids, drugs, these are no longer your best options. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is transforming lives with innovative treatments that deliver lasting results. QC Kinetics is under the leadership of National Medical Director Dr. Mitchell Scheinkupp. Dr. Scheinkupp is a pioneer in this field with 20 years of clinical work, and he wants to get you relief with a needle, not a knife. So call QC Kinetics now to learn more about some exciting options. This is a revolutionary approach that can get you long-term relief with no downtime. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation. 816-412-6299. That's 816-412-6299. QC Kinetics off 435 in State Line and in Gladstone. 816-412-6299.
Hi, it's Trey Smith, and in order for our team to get a victory, we need honesty, teamwork, work ethic, humility, and the golden rule. That's why my truck is from the dealer that embodies all those values, Victory Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. And Victory Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram also supports Giving Hope, whose sole purpose is to feed and clothe the needy in Wyandotte County and beyond. giving back in the highest integrity. That's how Jeff and his team do business. For your next vehicle, visit or go to victorychrysler-dodge-jeep-ram.com.
Are you ready to start feeling your absolute best? I've got the perfect solution. Stretch Zone, your destination for practitioner-assisted stretching. Whether you're an athlete looking to enhance performance or someone seeking relief from the daily grind, Stretch Zone's personalized stretching sessions cater to all levels and lifestyles. Unleash your potential. Let Stretch Zone guide you to a healthier, more flexible you. 6 area locations. Book your session today at stretchzone.com. Stretch Zone. Stretch, work, play, repeat.
Twin Peaks is the best in the game. Here, your favorite drafts are poured at a frosty 29 degrees, and rare barrel-aged whiskeys are served just the way you want them. It's bigger game days and bolder fight nights. I mean, where else can you find a scratch kitchen that always comes in clutch? Every day, from lunch to late night. Only at Twin Peaks, the #1 sports bar.
Stick around after the sun sets. Twin Peaks is open really late. Wind down with bourbon and late-night bites.
Tyler from Wendy's here. The best part of Wendy's new Cinnabon Pull-Apart is every part. Unlike mornings, which have no good parts. Until now. Because with Wendy's new breakfast Cinnabon Pull-Apart, mornings finally don't completely suck. And now that mornings have warm cinnamon sugar rolled dough and ooey gooey frosting, are they the best part of every day? Probably not, but you get the idea. Get to Wendy's today and get the best part in every bite with the new Cinnabon Pull-Apart.
At participating U.S. Wendy's, Cinnabon is a registered trademark of Cinnabon Franchisor SPV LLC.
La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Oops. Ever had your singing lessons cut short by icy water?
Oh, I'm sorry, honey.
Say goodbye to those cold notes with Navien tankless water heaters. With Navien, you'll hit all the right notes without the surprise chill. So keep singing and let Navien keep the hot water flowing. And get ready for the encore when you get your utility bill.
La 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 la.
Navien tankless water heaters. Visit tanklessmadesimple.com.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-583-5795. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. There is zero risk to you. If we can't reduce your tax debt, then you pay nothing. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have a 5-star rating on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at tra.com or call 800-583-5795. That's 800-583-5795. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
You're listening to 610 Sports Radio from the Mission Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling Studios.
Hey, Kansas City, it's Brady Singer. Tune in to Vern's On Deck Show 1 hour before first pitch right here on 610 Sports Radio and the Odyssey app.
KCSP Kansas City, WDAF HD2 Liberty. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
1 o'clock hour here on a Wednesday. Hope everybody's having a fantastic day. Tomorrow, we're excited to see a lot of you up at the Landing in Liberty. Our 610 Sports Radio draft party presented by Hy-Vee, the official grocery sponsor of the Kansas City Chiefs. Bink and Chris going to be broadcasting live throughout the entire night. We'll be watching the draft, waiting until maybe pick 32. We'll also be keeping an eye on what's going to happen with the AFC West, which we'll get to in a second. But as we mentioned in the last segment, the Chicago Bears just announced their massive new stadium plan. So we know that conversation here, it's relevant. It ties into what we've been discussing for the Chiefs and Royals. But Chicago announced a lakefront stadium. It, by the way, is a dome stadium or retractable stadium. $2 billion in public money, $4.6 billion stadium project. Now, much like here, it's not a done deal. It doesn't mean it's just going to happen automatically. They got to go through a process as well. But it's significant for them. They're also dealing with a stadium, Soldier Field, that's viewed as a very historical type of venue as well.
But also, they realize it's turning into a dump, and they don't want to keep paying for it.
And they also already renovated original Soldier Field once, so it's actually kind of similar.
Very
now,
much so.
Again, Chicago's one of the 5 biggest cities or whatever in the country versus Kansas City.
And Soldier Field's a little older than Arrowhead.
It is. So there's that. But no, one of our former colleagues, Danny Parkins, put out the video of the press conference, and this is how bad it's gotten in Chicago, though. They're holding a prayer to pray for wins. Pray for wins. That's how bad it's gotten for Chicago. At the same press conference, in that stadium, let me just play you the audio of this. For wins, there was even a chuckle in the crowd.
Your help today as we make progress, and I want to thank you for our mayor for raising up a young man with such a significant heart for our city. Thank you for the McCaskey family. Thank you for Kevin, and now we thank you for all of the people who will benefit by the Bears staying in Chicago. I don't know that you play football, but I am asking you to help us. Help us to win some games. Help us to get a Super Bowl here. Help us to play in the Super Bowl.
At their stadium press conference.
Damn, they're down bad.
They got someone out there praying for Super Bowl wins at the official team.
He prayed for regular wins. The Super Bowl was an afterthought. He would have taken that as just like a bonus.
Well, they haven't had a lot of success here recently, Cody. They need any help they can get.
I personally, I pray every day, and I have never prayed for the Bengals to win a football game in my lifetime.
I just think in a press conference announcing a $4.6 billion stadium saying, please give us wins is crazy. It has nothing to do with the prayer part.
No,
it's what he's praying for in the press conference.
And the press conference to ask for $2.5 billion in public money.
I asked Speck, he said that if you don't have a 4,000-yard passer, you're allowed to ask for anything in prayer. It's fine. You know? Ask for whatever you want. They have the saddest...
Renderings look cool, though. I'll tell you that.
They kind of look like Allegiant, don't they?
It looks like any brand new retractable stadium to a certain extent without seeing the inside of it fully.
I saw the inside. I mean, just like that open air at the end with the big video board. That's where I was saying I thought it kind of looked like Allegiant a little bit, which is fine. They don't have to, I don't think stadiums are going to not look somewhat similar or all look unique.
It does have like 12 acres of
green space?
Like public field, like athletic fields for the public. So we're always trying to talk about the
community
tie
benefit.
into the community, and that sounds like that's something they're going for in Chicago.
Yeah, it was baseball diamonds and pickleball courts and all the other little things kind of drawn in there. It is, and again, we know that they're a much bigger city, but everybody's kind of going through this right now, and nobody's sure what these cities are going to do. Kansas City recently voted down the first pass of what I assume is the first pass of the stadium projects for the Chiefs and the Royals. Cincinnati wants some renovation to theirs, and they're not sure how it's going to go. Chicago's there are a lot of cities right now in a very similar spot to the Royals and the Chiefs, in which they're either asking for brand new stadiums or they're asking for renovations for their older stadiums, and it's not going to be there. And it's tough because even the Cardinals are asking for renovations to their stadium. Quick aside on the Cardinals?
Yeah.
I see their fans really hurt because last night nobody showed up for a Cardinals game. And it does bring me, I'll be honest, immense joy that for a city and a fan base that tried to claim for a million years that we're just different and had a winning team for 20 consecutive years. So they just thought they were different. But then the second the team was no good, guess what? Guess what? They were exactly like every other fan base, and they stopped going to the park because the team stunk. Not going to just show up for nothing. So the idea that they threw in our face forever, we're different, fans and best fans in baseball and all that stuff that Cardinals fans spout, boy, it brings me some joy. Because someone earlier sent out a tweet, some Cardinals fan would be like, you must be sick if you're happy about the demise of the Cardinals. I'm like, well,
beautiful.
I am terribly ill if that's the case because it brings me great joy, sir. To watch the Cardinals fail? Yeah. It's one of the best things about sports fandom is not just getting to root for your team, but rooting against the teams that you hate. That's also great about sports. I like watching the Cardinals fail. It brings me joy.
They're heading towards a rebuild. They sent down Jordan Walker to AAA today, I think I saw. They're in St. Louis. They're a mess, and they're struggling with some attendance stuff a little bit more than normal. They're still doing very well compared to most markets, but yeah, their team's not playing well, so naturally less people show up to the ballpark. Happens. You're not immune to that, St. Louis.
They thought they were. They had 20 straight years of having a winning season. They thought they were immune. Turns out they were not.
All right, back to the draft a little bit. When we've discussed what the Chiefs may or may not do, and we'll continue to talk about that today and, of course, all day tomorrow, getting set for the first round in Detroit. But the rest of the AFC West and how that could play out. And all three teams, Denver, LA Chargers, Las Vegas Raiders, all three could end up trading either up or down. Like, and it's not like, well, duh, anybody can trade up or down. Like, real talk that it could happen. Not that, well, of course, any team can trade up or down. I mean,
like, they are technically available to do it.
The Chargers truly could trade down. It seems like it's a realistic possibility. The Broncos trading up for a quarterback is not a crazy thought. The Raiders trading up for a quarterback, not a crazy thought. That's going to make the front half of the draft fun, because normally we're kind of here in Kansas City waiting and waiting and waiting. There's a lot of intrigue because it impacts the AFC West in the first 12, 13 picks of the draft.
I think the biggest question out of this, because I think it is realistic that the Chargers trade down. I think they probably should. As much as just talking about the Chiefs are very rarely going to pick at a spot where they get elite talent. Can't say the same thing about the Chargers. They've picked in the top 15 like 3 times in the last 5 years. So they might pick inside of an elite location a lot. Based on their history, you would think the quarterback would prevent that, but it hasn't so far. But they just have so many needs and a brand new regime. And with brand new regimes comes talent turnover and wanting your own guys and fresh voices, which means picks. That's why I think the Chargers are trading down. The biggest question I have out of the first round is, are both of the other two teams taking a first-round quarterback? Are both of the first two teams taking at least a quarterback in the first or the second round? I would still rule the Broncos is more likely because Aiden O'Connell's only been in their system a year, and maybe Pierce is just like, well, whatever. We'll go. We'll give him another.
Gardner Minshew too, right?
Yeah, and we'll go for it. That's better than Denver's situation, which is Zach Wilson and
Jared Stidham and Ben DiNucci.
Yeah, better than that situation. So I think it's more likely Denver takes a quarterback. I still kind of feel like they both kind of have to. Maybe the Raiders are just telling themselves, because here's the problem. Antonio Pierce is not going to have the runway that Sean Payton will have. Denver wanted Sean Payton so bad, they paid him like $20 million a year. They're not going to be running off Sean Payton quick, the new ownership. He's got time, technically, if he wants to just take a gap year to travel Europe and start Jared Stidham at quarterback and then roll back into the draft next year for the quarterback of his dreams. He technically has a year time to do that. Pierce would only be in year one. But I mean, if you just throw it to the wind, at least you're doing with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. But it's like, I feel like they both have a very strong argument for quarterback. But I also think it requires nobody jumping up too high for J.J. McCarthy and I think Penix in this case, where those guys are ahead of you at 12 or at 11 and 13.
I think 5 where the Chargers, they're in a great spot because they could just take the best offensive lineman in the draft, Joe Alt, at 5. To me, they should trade down and get another pick or two, still may be able to help the offensive line, but you have other holes on that roster because the Vikings might want to get to 5 to either get McCarthy or Penix. The Raiders could go to 5 to get Penix. I don't think the Raiders are trading up for McCarthy. The Broncos, to me, could trade up for either McCarthy or Penix. And so that is a really good spot to be in if you're the LA Chargers. And when I think about what the Raiders and the Broncos will actually do you think either of them is not taking a quarterback with their first pick?
I think the Raiders are the least likely, not just because they're picking at 13, just because, again, I think their quarterback situation is a lot better than Denver. And I have a hard time imagining Denver's not taking a quarterback with their first pick. They're not really going with that, are they?
I don't think so, even though Sean Payton, probably thinks he can fix anything and, he wants to do it his way, and he ran Russell Wilson out the door.
When he had Drew Brees, he still wanted to take Patrick Mahomes. So, I don't think he's just going to sit around having mediocre quarterbacks. That's why he ran Russell Wilson's ass out of town, like you said.
Yeah, I think the only, way the Broncos trade up is to get, a Penix. I don't know if they're, are they trading up and giving a better offer than what the Vikings will to get, let's say, J.J. McCarthy at 5?
Unlikely. I think the Vikings have more assets and a better ability to do that, so my guess is no. But I guess we'll see. By the way, another contract extension in the NFL, this time with the Lions again. Penei Sewell is getting a new 4-year, $112 million extension. Makes him the highest-paid offensive lineman to remain with the Lions. $85 million guaranteed.
So the Lions are handing out some big-time money. Big time. What, $220 million today?
Yep. Left tackle and wide receiver. At least you're doing premium positions.
Jumping back to the Broncos real quick, how long was Sean Payton's contract for? Was that one of those double-digit? Was it 8 years? Was it long?
I don't remember.
Because the reason why I'm asking is if they're
5 years.
Okay. So if they're at 12, if say the Raiders trade up and you get 5 quarterbacks that go off the board, I don't know if Denver is comfortable just based on it was a quick Google search in terms of what national experts think, what Broncos analysts think a lot of the consensus is third round, they're going to take a quarterback.
Third round. I mean,
And,
it's not that you
just-
can't
and
get it
just have
right. Someone's always going to put out Russell Wilson, but the odds of
Correct.
you getting it right in the third round are 1 in 20. What do you think it is, Gold? Like if you had to put like a Vegas odds number, 20-1, do you get a Pro Bowl caliber starting quarterback in the third round or later?
Yeah, I mean, it's
very-
worse than that, maybe.
It's very slim, but
50-1. Yeah, I mean, God.
What is the outlook for them paying Russell Wilson's money off? Like, how long is it?
A year. This year and
It's
next
1
year.
year?
Well, and next year. So I guess 2 years.
So that's right. I think there's part of me that says if you have any questions at all about Penix or Bo Nix, I wouldn't draft him. And if you suck and you take a guy in the third round and it doesn't work out, if you take Spencer Rattler and it doesn't work out for you, then so be it. Next year, if you're bad enough, you're going to have more assets. There's no assets for them to trade up, though. Like what
That's
are
the
they,
problem, is that-
they can't give up anything to move up from 12 without mortgaging their future again, which they just did.
But for quarterback, you have to do it. And the Russell Wilson mortgage in the future wasn't Sean Payton's doing. You know?
Yeah, right.
You always get the pass when it wasn't you. Wasn't his GM, wasn't Sean Payton. That was the old regime who they've run out of town. Russell Wilson is not your cross to bear. You ran his ass out of town. And at quarterback, like I always think they always be like, can you really take this chance twice in a row? We briefly had this conversation when it sounded like the Chicago Bears. We're thinking about instead of taking Caleb Williams, trading the number 1 overall pick. I'm just telling you right now, you are more likely to get fired by standing pat with this, I hope this works out, than taking another shot at quarterback. Because the shot at quarterback actually has a chance to save your job. Sticking it out with Russell Wilson doesn't have a very high success rate of keeping your job. Sticking it out with Justin Fields has a very low success rate of keeping your job. Caleb Williams buys you a few years. Year 1 could still be kind of and you can be like, oh, but wait, year 2, here we go. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you just go into Justin Fields again and you're mediocre again, you're done.
If Denver doesn't make the playoffs, is Sean Payton gone? I don't think he's fired. So I think
again, they wanted him too bad. They paid him too much money.
I think that's his out. Is that if he doesn't love the quarterback enough, he shouldn't just go for the guy because it might pan out in the first round if it's the exact same thought process in the second and in the third round. But hey, Penix or Bo Nix is a little bit more talented than Spencer Rattler, but I still don't feel very comfortable making the pick. But you know what? I want to do it.
Real quick, what's your guess? All right, you just have to assume at pick 5, do the Chargers make it or do they trade out?
Yeah, I would right now. I think they're trading out of pick 5.
I think so too. Do you think the Broncos stay at 11 or move?
I think the Vikings or Raiders are more likely to trade to 5 than the Broncos.
I think the Broncos stay at 12, and then
Or 12, yeah.
and the Raiders are.
I think the Raiders go down. I think the Broncos stay where they are, and I think the Chargers trade down.
I think
I think two different teams trade down because I think the Raiders will just say, let's take assets, and Pierce will think he can build a team, you know? He's an old school mindset guy, and he's like, I'm going to build everybody on this roster is going to be great.
Time it gets interesting,
and we're going to do this together.
Is what we laid out the scenario earlier. If there's a shocker at 2, and it's not Jaden Daniels to the Commanders, and somehow it's May,
does screw everything up.
And Daniels is there at 3 for the Patriots, and if you get in that spot, is there a team that didn't think Jaden Daniels is available at 3, and they get a little more desperate, and they're willing to trade up and get Jaden Daniels, and that throws everything off. And I could see a team mortgaging more of their future to get Daniels. Whereas I think the Patriots will stay there if Drake May is there because that's who they've had all along. But if it's Jaden Daniels, I think the trade, someone actually going to 3 is likely. But this is what's fun. Like it takes 2 or 3 things to happen to completely change the entire draft. But if we're just going off of what I think is acknowledging that trades are going to happen, but we're not going to get the chaos that everybody tries to hype up. Like tomorrow, I'm sure Adam Schefter will go on ESPN at 2:00 and be like, I'm hearing this could be one of the craziest first rounds we've ever had and all this crap. We'll have first round with some trades, I'm sure. I don't think it's going to be the craziest draft ever. We'll have some trades. Everybody will freak out, and it'll be what we typically see in a draft.
Yeah, I think that it would probably be pretty standard. The good news is, or what the Chiefs want out of this is as many quarterbacks possible in the first round, right? As many quarterbacks, as many linebackers and guards and centers. Those are the ones that can go as many as you want in front of them at 32. You're trying to preserve tackles, preserve defensive linemen, preserve, obviously, wide receivers, and figure out who's going to be available to you at that stage. That's what, so I want Bo Nix to be a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Even though I don't think he's going to be. I would like him to be a first-round pick because it's just one less player taken that the Chiefs might want.
Yeah, tomorrow we'll have some fun with, in particular, final predictions on not just the Chiefs over-under and draft position for certain players, but even that, the prop bets for quarterbacks. Because I think we're going to see 6 go in the first round. I do believe somebody will end up trading either back in the first round or someone just goes early. I think Bo Nix is the 6th one. We know there's 4 or 5 pretty much guarantee. I think Bo Nix goes, and so we'll get 6 quarterbacks drafted in the first round.
I think it's just 5. Which is fine. I mean, we can vary on that.
I think it's 5. I think that, so Cody, you gave the Raiders trade back thing. I think if the Raiders trade back, I think it's fine. I think the Raiders get Penix in the first round, whether they pick him at 12 or at 13, or whether they trade back into the first round late and they get him at 27.
The reports are, it's so weird because, again, what's true or not, I don't know. The most recent reports is that people are way higher on Penix than you think, but he's almost as old as Bo Nix. And he has an injury history. And if there's a guy who would just be like, hey, those two, Nix, and the problem is they're kind of tied together. Those two are the most likely they were successful because of the system and the talent around them, quarterbacks, in the entire draft. The difference is Penix has a much better arm than Nix, which helps him in this case. But that's maybe the only thing separating the two of them. The rest is, look at all the talent around them in favorable offensive systems, in conferences that don't play defense, and they're both older by quarterback standards from draft pick possibilities. So it's like they just feel similar to me. I just think teams like Penix better than they like Nix. And I do too.
How I kind of just divvied up the quarterbacks, and everybody ends up finding 1 or 2 that they think are more likely to be successful. But it's just the balance of whose floor is higher versus whose ceiling is higher in that middle road. I think J.J. McCarthy's floor is actually higher than a couple of the guys that it sounds like agree on that might be better, that we think are better, I should say.
Ceiling.
But the ceiling, the upside to me is not nearly as high for J.J. McCarthy. Hey, he can be a long-term pro in this league. If you say, let me just throw it. If you think J.J. McCarthy can be just as good as Derek Carr or Brock Purdy last year, let's take put it aside that he was an MVP candidate for 3 weeks.
Kirk Cousins.
But, Kirk Cousins.
That never made any sense.
Would you still draft that guy in the top 10? Yeah, of course. I think you absolutely would. But would I rather draft the guy that Jaden Daniels, who has a lower floor, maybe more bust potential, but he has a chance to actually be an MVP candidate one day, right? And that's the balance. If I'm drafting number 2 overall, I'm taking the swing for the guy that has a chance to be an MVP, which to me is why Jaden Daniels is the pick at 2 and why J.J. McCarthy is 5 or 6.
I think when you get yourself stuck in I'll just take the guy with the low floor is how you end up taking Mitch Trubisky. You get stuck in this world. And I know that that's the worst case example I'm giving, and there's certainly examples of safe quarterbacks who went high, like Jared Goff, by the way, who's another guy like this. Jared Goff is not a bad NFL quarterback. He is a perfectly good pro. He is one of the 12 best quarterbacks in the league. He's never been one of the 5 best quarterbacks, and he never will. That's just the reality of the quarterback you take when you take the floor part of it. The problem is you always think the floor's got a limit, but it can go Trubisky level. Everyone's floor is the same, in my opinion, is the problem. It's less likely they'll hit it. But every single quarterback you take based on just history can be the worst damn quarterback in the league for
I
a
hear
while,
you. I mean, I think,
less likely they hit their floor. But
right, Caleb Williams, his floor is higher than anybody's.
Yeah.
It's less likely that he is just a flat-out bust.
But there's
and
still
it's
that
also
5% chance or 0.5%, whatever you think it is, that he just stinks out loud.
But his ceiling is also, consistently at maybe a top. Doesn't mean he reaches the ceiling, but his ceiling is being an MVP candidate and winning a Super. Go take you to a Super Bowl. I don't think J.J. McCarthy's ceiling is anywhere near, and this is why he's not going to be the first 2 or 3 quarterbacks off the board. I don't think.
I think he'll be 4th.
Is because his ceiling probably doesn't equate to being an MVP caliber quarterback. And that's a majority of the league, by the way. So there's nothing you can go make a ton of money in the league just being Kirk Cousins. Look at Kirk Cousins, right? Nothing wrong with that. But if I'm at number 1 or number 2, I have to take the swing for the guy that has a chance to be Patrick Mahomes.
What's crazy is unless this is the rare draft, the Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, when they were 4 really good, some great Tua Herbert. Unless it's that draft, every other part of history would tell you that of these quarterbacks, let's say your number 6 get taken in the first round, 3 will absolutely stink.
2 will pan out as good starters.
2 will be good starters.
Yeah, probably.
One will be a star.
Yeah, it's very possible.
The normal numbers would tell you 3 stink. They're not even starters at the end of their rookie contract, or they're journeyman starter who one guy gets that.
And if I were to
2 are competent starters who stay with their team for a while, and 1 guy's a star.
And right now, if I were to ask you, who do you think the two are that are just going to flat out stink? I would say Bo Nix and maybe J.J. McCarthy. Even though I acknowledged his floor is higher, I still think there's a chance that it's both those guys.
Bo Nix would definitely be on my list. I think, if I had to pick three bust, Bo Nix and Penix, right? I mean, because they're just the two least likely to succeed. I know it's the easy one. I'd probably take Jaden Daniels next.
Okay.
He's all upside.
Yeah.
Like, that man is just pure, unadulterated upside where you're like, his ceiling is through the damn roof. But boy, can I see it flopping. Like, I mean, I see it going the other way, too.
I think that's fair. What about you, Drew?
I really think that it depends on where Bo Nix goes. If he goes to the Rams,
Sure, that's tough, too. This is an easier conversation on Friday. It's true.
If he goes to the Rams and is backing up Stafford for 1 year and then he goes,
you probably think it's okay.
He's not going to play very long, but I think he's fine. Penix, I think, has the most potential to be a complete bust because of the injury problems. If he gets hurt again, he might be completely he might just be toast. Even though he can throw, he might be toast.
Yeah, that's fair. The landing spot, and you're right, we'll know Friday. The landing spot is also so key in the initial outlook of any of these guys' careers.
Because you might not, maybe Drake made your answer because you're like, sorry, you have to go to New England. And ain't going to work out there.
Yeah.
Not because you think the talent's not there, but because he's going to New England.
Right. My opinion of Jaden Daniels, if he somehow ends up in New England and doesn't go number 2, is going to be way different of what I think he can be.
So let's revisit this on Friday. Does that sound good?
Yeah, we can definitely do that. All right, guys, coming up next, we'll get to what's trending. We'll also get back into the Royals and what is ahead for them, not only tonight, but the rest of the month, right here on Cody and Gold.
Cody and Gold, brought to you by Heartland Men's Health, the leader in men's sexual health. Thousands of men have been successfully treated for low T, ED, and more, all with discretion and compassion. Make your appointment at heartlandmenshealth.com.
There is a back-to-back Super Bowl champion, and it is the Kansas City Chiefs.
On your official broadcast partner of the Chiefs, 610 Sports Radio.
Baseball season's here, and it's time to spring into action to get into shape and feel great. Hey, it's Bob Fesco inviting you to discover Johnson Fitness and Wellness Stores. Their expert staff will find the best home fitness equipment for your unique fitness goals, space, and budget. Find top-rated treadmills, ellipticals, strength equipment, rowers, exercise bikes, and mention 610 Sports Radio to get a free Kinna massager with the purchase of any massage chair or matrix equipment. Hit a home run with in-home workouts and find the nearest location at johnsonfitness.com.
The Landing in Liberty, the largest sports bar north of the river, and the home of over 65 HD TVs with every sports package. Hey, our motto is any game, anytime. 10,000 square feet under one roof to provide adequate social distancing. Our non-smoking patio is not covered, but in the winter it's home of the only dine-in heated igloos in the Northland. Each igloo has its own TV and sound system and seats up to 8 people. The Landing has a great menu featuring the best dry rub wings in Kansas City and the home of the Ben Mallard chicken fingers. Most of our menu items, dressing, and wing sauces are house-made. Daily food specials, happy hour every day from 3 till 7 p.m. Live music on our smoking patio Thursday through Sunday nights. Make your next destination the Landing in Liberty. Food, fun, music, and sports. The Landing in Liberty, 1189 West Kansas Street in Liberty. Check us out online at thelandingeateryandpub.com. We'll see you at the Landing.
The road to the NBA Finals starts now, and new customers on FanDuel can go on their own playoff run with $150. Just place any $5 bet, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets, win or lose, to use during the NBA playoffs. You can bet on three-pointers made in a game, over-under on point totals, first basket score, and so much more. Just go to FanDuel.com/610Bob to get started. That's FanDuel.com/610Bob. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA and of 610 Sports Radio. 21 and present in Kansas. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Getting help is your best bet. Call 1-800-522-4700 or visit ksgamblinghelp.com.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou at Term Provider, 800-700-6898. Big Lou is intimately familiar with your problems, and if you're 50 or 60 years old and in reasonably good health, a $1 million policy should only cost about $100 to $200 per month. Big Lou may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy. Remember, call Big Lou. He's like you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term Provider at 800-700-6898. That's 800-700-6898 for $1 million in term life insurance that you can live with. Call Big Lou at 800-700-6898. 800-700-6898.
NASCAR Xfinity Series driver Ryan Ellis here for Preferred Asphalt and Seal Coating. Not everyone has the pro racing skills to dodge the potholes in your parking lot. So business owners, if you want your parking lot done right, contact the commercial asphalt, concrete, and seal coating experts at locally owned Preferred Asphalt and Seal Coating. With top-rated customer service and unmatched quality. Get your own free quote today at packc.biz. That's packc.biz. Preferred Asphalt and Seal Coating, a company you can trust.
You can host the best backyard barbecue when you find a professional on Angie to make your backyard the best around. Connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. Inside to outside, repairs to renovations. Get started on the Angie app or visit Angie.com today. You can do this when you Angie that.
Tyler from Wendy's here. The best part of Wendy's new Cinnabon Pull-Apart is every part. Unlike mornings, which have no good parts. Until now. Because with Wendy's new breakfast Cinnabon Pull-Apart, mornings finally don't completely suck. And now that mornings have warm cinnamon sugar rolled dough and ooey gooey frosting, are they the best part of every day? Probably not, but you get the idea. Get to Wendy's today and get the best part in every bite with the new Cinnabon Pull-Apart.
At participating U.S. Wendy's, Cinnabon is a registered trademark of Cinnabon Franchisor SPV LLC.
Hey, it's Rex here with RexBuysKC.com, your local KC home buyer. If you own a property in the Kansas City or surrounding area and want to sell it fast and at a fair price, write this number down, 816-330-6000. I'm a private real estate investor, not some hedge fund or large national chain. My family and I live right here in KC. I can pay cash and close on your timeline, even in as little as 3 days. Here at RexBuysKC.com, we're improving Kansas City one house at a time. I buy inherited houses, vacant houses, foreclosure houses, behind in payment houses, my tenant won't pay the rent houses, and properties that need complete rehabs. Do you own a house that's trashed and needs thousands of dollars in repairs? Great. If you own a house and want to sell it fast, call me at this number, 816-330-6000. That's 816-330-6000, or go to RexBuysKC.com. That's RexBuysKC.com, and I look forward to working with you.
Okay, picture this. It's Friday afternoon when a thought hits you. I can spend another weekend doing the same old whatever, or I can hop into my all-new Hyundai Santa Fe and hit the road. With available H-Track all-wheel drive and 3-row seating, my whole family can head deep into the wild. Conquer the weekend in the all-new Hyundai Santa Fe. Visit HyundaiUSA.com or call 562-314-4603 for more details. Hyundai, there's joy in every journey.
What's trending?
All right, let's check in on the hot topics trending this.
Number one on What's Trending, the Royals in action again tonight against the Blue Jays. Game 3 of this 4-game set. Alec Marsh on the mound. The Royals will try to now start a winning streak after snapping the 3-game losing streak. 6:40 first pitch. Vern's on Deck show at 5:30 right here on 610 Sports Radio.
Hopefully make it 2 in a row, right? Guarantee that series split against the Blue Jays tonight is a 4-game series, which is always a little confusing. I think the initial thought is always like, all right, game 3, rubber match. You're like, no, there's a 4-game one. Next up on What's Trending, 2 big deals in the NFL today, both by the Detroit Lions. First, they gave Amon-Ra St. Brown a 4-year, $112 million deal. Or, I'm sorry, $120 million deal worth $72 million guaranteed. And then later gave Penei Sewell an $85 million guaranteed deal worth $112 million over 4 years. So they handed out some big contracts today for the Detroit Lions. Look, they're eventually going to have to make the decision on Jared Goff and an extension. I assume based on the level of success they had, they're going to give him an extension, but we'll see. That's a sleeper team in the second-round, third-round quarterback market. When you think about where they are contract-wise, what they could do, what they don't do, they got to make some decisions on Jared Goff moving forward.
Yeah, I think they're going to give him an extension, though. And that, the financially, they have a bunch of commitments now going for us. What happens, your team has success, and they're going to have to go through and figure out how they can navigate like the Chiefs have navigated with success. Bigger salaries at some of the premier sort of positions. Didn't the Lions draft? Did they draft Hendon Hooker last year? Was that the Lions or was that the Vikings?
I think it was the Lions. Yes,
they spent
Lions,
a second or third round pick on a quarterback last year, didn't they?
They're probably waiting one more year on Jared Goff. Yeah.
Also, Hendon was older.
Fair. Got hurt. He was coming off an injury too, right?
Yeah.
I was just thinking about what they could potentially do. All right, next about what's trending. Thinking of college football. How about Reggie Bush? After 14 years of waiting for that Heisman Trophy, 14 years later of forfeiting it, he gets it back. Well overdue, to say the least.
I'd say so.
This is something that I think Johnny Manziel actually deserves some credit for. He has been pretty outspoken.
Almost
like how
Chiefs,
absurd,
Johnny Manziel.
That's right, yeah. About how absurd it's been for Reggie Bush, who lost it during NCAA sanctions, right? He got an Escalade and his parents got a house and things like that, which was breaking the rules back then, NCAA violations, but it didn't impact the accomplishments that allowed him to become the Heisman Trophy winner. And now that NIL has happened, I think it makes more sense than ever to ease back on that. You know,
Reggie Bush, is he?
Good.
No, I was going to just like, when talking about like college football, is he one of those, damn, he played in the wrong year of the NFL guys? Like, I think about those guys sometimes for the NBA. Like, I was thinking like Hito Turkoglu would have been better in today's NBA than the NBA he was in now. Reggie Bush in, like, even today's NFL seems like it benefited him even more than the league he was in before.
I don't know, though. He played, he
played like 8 or 9 years. It's not like he was a bad football player.
Yeah, he had a very nice NFL career. He played for 10 years in the league almost?
That's a long time for running back.
And he had 2 seasons over 1,000 yards rushing, plus you mentioned the receiving. This guy had 700 yards receiving in his rookie season.
Especially for a guy that won the Heisman Trophy, because traditionally guys that win the Heisman don't have the greatest NFL careers most of the time.
In 2013, he played in 14 games because then he started to have some injury problems. But in 14 games, he had 1,000 yards on the ground and 500 receiving. He had a 1,500-yard season in 2013.
14 games. In just 14 games. Yeah, I just think he put his success even more in that case. Next up on What's Trending, fifth-year option time in the NFL. 2 so far today. Jamar Chase got his picked up, which means they have the exclusive right to a contract extension talks with Jamar Chase. That's not surprising. And the Steelers reportedly will not pick up the fifth-year option on quarterback Justin Fields. Remember, they traded for Russell Wilson or signed Russell Wilson as well, but Justin Fields also on their roster. They have the most interesting quarterback room in the entire NFL. The former high first-round draft pick and Justin Fields, who they don't seem interested in at all, and Russell Wilson, who's been paid $4 bajillion over the last 3 years just to leave his teams.
Yeah, I think for Justin Fields going forward, your comparison with Baker is maybe your best case scenario now. Mm-hmm. Now, he's still also so much younger that we're already speeding up. It took much longer for Baker to get to the point that we're assuming Justin Fields is at.
He needed 3, 4, 5 years.
Yeah, so I don't know what the timeline looks like for Fields. I don't think he's done in the league, but the fact that they were willing to just go trade for Russell Wilson instead, or sign Russell Wilson, not trade, sign for Russell Wilson and trade for Justin Fields. Okay, in Pittsburgh.
Why do they trade for him? Look, you don't have to pick up the fifth-year option. If he just turns into a star because Russell Wilson gets hurt week 1, then you could just give him a contract. It doesn't matter.
Also, over in the NBA, playoffs going on tonight. There are 2 games tonight. There's a couple more tomorrow. Tonight, you got the Boston Celtics, who are already up 1 game to none on the Miami Heat. And then you got the Thunder, who are up 1 game on the New Orleans Pelicans. So that's the NBA action this evening.
Lastly, on What's Trending, don't forget, our draft party out at the Landing tomorrow. We'll be there. The draft starts at 7. I'm sure it'll be a little earlier than that, where you can win $610 in cash by correctly picking who will be picked, how many first-round picks will be, and by which team they will go. We'll also have some autographed Chiefs memorabilia. We're all going to be hanging out there at the Landing tomorrow night. Whole Station, Character Concerns with Jay Binkley and Chris Uno-Sera will be broadcasting live there as well. So if you want to come out, hang out, have a few beers, meet us, chat, just watch the draft, whatever it is, we'll be out at the Landing in Liberty tomorrow night.
Looking forward to that. Looking forward to being up there. And hopefully, we have somebody that when you sign your draft form, I feel like you got to put which show you're assigning it to as well. That's my new rule.
We want a Cody and Gold.
We
winner.
want a Cody. I know you
I
guys.
like that people only sign it Cody and Gold because we're the only shows asked them to do it.
You know, I think you should just put C and G on there as well. We know a lot of you listen to all the shows, and that's great. But if you want to put C and G on there, we want one of our official listeners.
That'll be the random question tomorrow. Please rank our shows in order. Which one you like the best to least? Number 1, 2, and 3. I'd like a definitive rankings
when you turn in
of your
form.
610 Sports Radio shows. Matter of fact, 1 through 4. Let's get the night show in there too, and our guy Dusty Likens.
Yeah, when you turn in your form, put C and G on there if you want to claim it. We want to be able to claim that the winner came from our show.
That's right. It's like that $1,000 cash contest. Remember we used to do that? We had a winner
Oh,
of that
yeah,
on ours.
I remember that.
Guy won a cool G.
Back in like 2021.
Yeah, that was
2020 or whatever.
A little ways back. I forgot to put in what's trending. The KC Current fired their medical department head today for having a relationship with a player too. Which is against the rules.
Okay.
So it turns
I
out.
did not see
So
that.
don't do that. Violating, I think as they put it, violating the what do they call it? Like fraternization policy of the NWSL.
So it wasn't anything like
They just had a regular relationship
Yeah.
and they were dating, but you can't date a player
Sure.
if you're the head of medical for a team.
Sure.
Interesting. All right. That's all I got to say. Oh, okay. All right.
Would you ever date someone at work? Not this work.
No.
Literally any work?
No. I've told you we've had this discussion on air. I think it's a terrible decision. I think it's a terrible idea. It only can cause problems. I think it's an awful decision. Yeah, like we've got
My
other
wife
stations.
and I worked together at the Tivoli for a brief period of time, but it was neither of our full-time job, and we very rarely worked there together.
No, if it is your full-time job and it is your career, I think it's a terrible decision. Now, this is different. I'm talking about not if you're a small business owner and you own the business and your wife works. That's different, right? Or girlfriend. I'm talking about you work at a corporation and...
What if you just work in different... Like, if you work at, like, Oracle, it's fine. You can work at the same company. You might not even see each other. They got 20,000 employees.
But if you're working in the same building, I think it's a no-go.
Same building?
Yeah, I think it's a no-go.
Same building, I think you're okay. Same department? That's a no.
I think it's a no-go.
So theoretically, if somebody were to get a new job at Odyssey here and you were to meet your future significant other,
not happening.
Well, hang on. Like you really liked her, you really both loved each other. Is your consensus you can't work here? Or are you like
it would never even get Drew? It would never even get to that point. I've been pretty clear. That's what I'm saying. It would never even get to that point. If I don't care who it is, I think it's let's say it's somebody that works at pick one of our other sister stations or whatever, and if she's working there, it would never get to that point because I wouldn't let it get to that point. I'm dead serious about that. I think it's a terrible idea.
It's an absolute no from. In fairness,
it causes problems.
He can say that pretty blindly now because there are like 0 single women in this entire building.
Well, there's a couple. There's a couple.
And there's like one that's in your age range.
I think so.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not
Yeah.
long. Someone from the 816 says, ours was a tale's oldest time. She was a server, I was a line cook.
There you go.
As someone who worked briefly, that's like the classic work together relationship. Everyone, by the way, everyone in restaurants dates each other. That's just like an accepted fact of that job.
Okay.
I think it's
Yeah,
because you keep weird hours together. It is very hard to date someone who doesn't also work in restaurants sometimes when you're not also working
I
in
could
them.
understand that. I just think in general, like someone says the old saying, don't get your honey where you get your money. That's the text line.
God, that makes me feel icky.
That's the text line. But I completely agree. I just think heck, there's been recent examples. So I'm good. Good with that.
Okay. I wasn't planning on getting into that, but
How about those Royals, huh? You want to talk about them? You were doing some digging on some numbers and why we could be talking about an MVP race throughout the season on top of the AL Central race. And they could go hand to hand because Bobby Witt Jr. has the second best odds now to be the American League MVP.
I was kind of surprised, honestly, to find it this morning because this is what's so stupid about Bobby Witt Jr. I've been okay with this season. I've been like, Bobby Witt Jr. has been a really nice player for the Royals this year. And you look at the stats, and he's on pace for 20 triples and 50 doubles and almost 30 home runs and 40 stolen bases. And you're like, that's it, huh? That's all you got for me, Bobby? Literally leading the league in every single offensive category imaginable when you talk about like all the extra base hits combined. Because that's what you care about. I don't care the number of home runs to doubles to triples for Bobby Witt Jr. I care about how many total extra base hits are you planning on having this year, in which he is right near the top of the league, because he's that kind of player. I think what comes into play here is the only chance he has to actually the most encouraging thing about this stat is they do not give that award to players on at least mediocre teams. They'll give it to a mediocre team. They'll give it to Shohei Ohtani. They'll give it to a player who is having a tremendous year on an okay team. They will not give it to a player on a bad team, as in a team with less than 80 wins, in my opinion. That is really kind of the baseline, which means the odds makers still think that Bobby Witt Jr. is not only playing well enough to deserve to be the second odds-on favorite in the league for that, but they also think that the Royals aren't going away. Right? I kind of have to think that.
I think that they go hand in hand. Yeah. I mean, Bobby Witt Jr., where he's pacing, and he's going to have a special season. We're going to find out throughout how special it is if we're going to be truly sitting here in July or August and talking about him having a real chance to win this thing. But in order for that to become real, it's not just his performance. I do think voters, you can say it's fair or not fair, but
it's just the way it works.
The AL Central, the Royals have to be competitive in the division to win it. I know people will cite Cy Young year, Greinke won it, and the Royals were not competitive.
Felix Hernandez literally
I think Cy Young is different than MVP. We're talking about Cy Young versus the most valuable player in the league. It's
also the first time that it ever happened, by the way.
Right. Most valuable player to me is just different. And nobody's saying that they have to win the division, but they also can't, to me, be fall off and be a 68 or 78 win team. And Bobby Witt Jr. have some numbers that are right around Juan Soto, and then Juan Soto and the Yankees win 95 games in the AL East. Spoiler, they're probably going to give it to Juan Soto. So if you're talking about actually winning and not just finishing in the top three of voting, which would also be a hell of an accomplishment.
Probably have to be a playoff team.
The Royals probably have to win 80+, and Bobby needs the numbers. But it gives us it's something else to follow and what can make this a really fun summer. Not just can the Royals stay above 500 and right around 500 all summer and make you really believe that they can win this division, while the Guardians are out in front right now. But if Bobby Witt Jr. continues to rake, and it's around the it's the All-Star game, and Bobby Witt Jr. is an All-Star, let's say, and
he's definitely going to be that. I think
all of that can continue the momentum.
The other part about it is I think sometimes people look at the stats and they're like, well, those are pretty good. And again, those are way better than pretty good. You have an unfair expectation for Bobby Witt Jr. just like I do. Those are way better than pretty good. At shortstop, it's special. He's also playing Gold Glove level shortstop. In addition to that, which also helps his MVP odds, he's second in Major League Baseball in extra base hits, only behind Shohei. That's it. He has more extra base hits than Mookie Betts, than Trout, than any other big time. And Trout's having a great year, by the way, if you haven't been following it. But it's than any of those players. He's having an equally good year, and he's doing it from the most valuable position. Someone says A-Rod won it on a 71-win team. I'm not saying it's never happened. It's rare. Really rare, and you do have to put up those special types of numbers. I think for the most part, though, they hand it to winning teams, and Juan Soto's going to have a chance to put up bonkers numbers in New York, and they might win the most difficult division in baseball, which makes it an even tougher thing to overcome. And right now, he's neck and neck. Plus 380 this morning on DraftKings, plus 400 for Bobby Witt Jr. The next closest player was Mike Trout at plus 900. So, I mean, there is a little bit of separation right now between 1 and 2, and it's so early. We've talked about this. I wouldn't cash your ticket.
Yeah, someone said A-Rod won it once on a 71-win team. I think they're between the Cy Young and MVP. I think there's been 2 instances of a team in 72 wins or less of winning in the last 15 or 20 years. So much like when we have these NFL discussions, hey, you're not going to find your future franchise quarterback in round 7.
And they're but Brock Purdy was taken in the 7th.
Right. So yes, okay. It's happened one time. Yes, yes.
It has occurred, but what about all the other times that people want it?
We're going with the law of averages. We're going with what has happened 90% of the time versus what happens 10% of the time.
What did A-Rod do?
And I can just tell you, because of the way the voters think, if you think they're going to pick a player in Kansas City over Juan Soto in New York, if the Yankees have 95 wins and it's the freaking Yankees, unfortunately, I think we're going to get screwed in that category in that vote. So Bobby's numbers have to be better, and the Royals have to be competitive.
Damn, A-Rod hit 47 homers that year. 118 RBI. Yeah. Bobby, by the way, his low home run totals don't bother me right now because, again, he's second in Major League Baseball in extra base hits. And we both know by now that when the weather gets warmer, Bobby's going to hit more out of the park. That's just been been his MO the entire time. But when A-Rod won it that year with 71 wins, he was an all-star. He had 47 home runs. His slash line was actually shockingly similar to Bobby Wood Jr.'s early slash line from an on-base percentage batting average. He also won Gold Glove. So, I mean, there's other things at play you certainly have to do in order to do it. God, A-Rod. Was he juicing that whole time? His stats are nuts.
You don't like A-Rod, though.
Nah, he's a. I mean, come on, he's a douche. We know that, right? I mean, that's not like a secret. And then people
who do you dislike more, A-Rod or Derek Jeter? You're a hater of both.
I'm a hater of both.
You don't like Derek Jeter.
He can't stand
more.
Derek Jeter.
I just think his career. I just think he's been overinflated to a point that it hurts. They also make him seem like, you know what the difference is? A-Rod's a dirtbag and everybody accepts it. So that's why I hate Jeter. Everyone's like, Jeter might be the sweetest man who ever walked the planet. He just throws like rose petals in front of you as you walk out because he wants to be a good
But which one is it? You don't like the guy because he's nice, and then the other guy you think he's a jerk.
I don't think he's as nice as everyone makes him seem. And I don't
Why?
think he's as good of a baseball player as he seems.
Well, that we've talked
Well, there's
about.
plenty of rumors with Derek Jeter and his extracurriculars.
Oh, but
All I
him
get to
and,
do-
I think gift baskets are very nice, you know? Gift baskets
I mean,
are very
he's telling
nice.
you to get the hell out.
The
He's
gift
just
basket-
doing it with some, macarons.
The gift basket's very nice, you know?
If you won if you became a billionaire tomorrow, you're gonna get some gift baskets ready?
No, I don't need gift baskets. If that's the no, I wouldn't need to do the gift baskets.
And it's just as a nice farewell. That's all.
No, I had you'll love this. So not my co-host in Boise, but someone that used to work at the station who I knew through other people. He would hand. This is so bad. This is the poor man version of Derek Jeter.
Derek Jeter's?
He, whenever he would sleep with somebody, would hand them when they left. I kid. This is a real story. I swear to God. He would hand them. It was ESPN Boise. Okay, he would hand them ESPN Boise T-shirts.
Oh no!
I'm dead serious. Serious. Completely serious. That happened.
I got a few Cody and Gold shirts left. Gold, if you need them.
I don't know.
If you want to hand them
don't.
out as prizes, feels bad. I don't think that's the word I want to use.
Yeah, but
parting gifts.
No, but he did this. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But that was a real thing. I don't know how many he handed out. I don't know the number, but they were handed out.
Someone says, if I had it for $1 billion, I'm making up cash baskets. You don't even need.
Well, that's a different transaction. If you're paying cash on the way, that's
That
a different.
feels
it's
more-
a different type of relationship.
Yeah, even if it's not the case, it starts feeling a lot more like a business transaction versus just a nice gift I'm giving you on the way out the door.
Yes. Right.
Slightly different vibe.
I do have a long-standing, and you have some real reasons why you don't like Jeter on the field and stuff like that. But I do think this text is accurate. There is a little bit of, it says, hey, social media has told you not you, but told you to dislike Jeter's career. I do think there's a lot of groupthink with that. You have some
That's
valid
the
reasons.
analytics community, probably.
Yeah.
I want to make it clear. I've been on the Derek Jeter's overrated camp for 20 years. I'm holding firm.
I don't like it.
Firm on my.
I'm not even like a huge Derek Jeter fan, but I think we're trying to downplay his career.
His most famous play, the backhand a ball, jump and throw it, is because the man had no range. Bobby Wood Jr. just backhands it and throws it like a normal person. He doesn't need to jump and do ridiculous stuff. He could just get to the ball. He just standing at it, just standing behind the ball, fielding it, and throwing it over
I
to
think
first.
there's a level of showmanship with Derek Jeter doing that. But again, New York, he was really good at that particular thing. I think he just bought in.
I also just think, boy, you want to talk about the easiest time of all time to be a good hitter if you're the Yankees.
No.
Well, then why did everybody else do it,
So
Tony?
my
If it was so
murder as
easy.
well.
If it was so
Everyone else in
easy-
that lineup did.
No, if it was
that
so easy
whole
across
lineup hit
baseball.
like 4,000.
If it was so easy across baseball.
Not across baseball. For Derek Jeter in that Yankees lineup. Surrounded by like 7 Hall of Famers and 15 Cy Young Awards.
No, you went from valid reason to pure hate in that 10-second instance. By the way,
He was one of
how
the best
easy was it to
offensive
hit?
shortstops we've ever seen in the game's history. Anyway.
I think we've been through this before. Did you watch the whole documentary? I
didn't watch a single second of it.
You can't stand them.
Whole documentary. I didn't watch any of that. Are you kidding me?
The 10-episode Last Dance version of Derek Jeter's career.
10 part. Derek Jeter need 10 parts.
My goodness.
Yeah, I'm not watching any of that.
We'll be back at it tomorrow. Depending on the weather, we only have a 2-hour show tomorrow. We could end up with a 4-hour show. We'll keep an eye on the weather. But we're back at it tomorrow, 10 o'clock. Draft day. We'll be talking all things draft, getting you set for our big party tomorrow night at the Landing in Liberty. Hopefully talking also a little bit about the Royals winning 2 in a row if they can get going again tonight. The Drive with C-Dot and Rob coming up next.